Posse Packard! There's no camera. Nation, welcome to an episode of Packast, the podcast where you don't have to be a Packers fan, but it sure does help. I'm your host, Tom Grossi, and oh man, do we have a special guest today? That's right, flying all the way in from Go West, young man, to now in the East. Not the Middle East, it's just here in the New York City. We have the man, the myth, the legend.
I've been kidnapped.
Yes, 100%.
I've been kidnapped.
Please, I told you, don't yell. I have neighbors. Thank you. God, the man, the myth, the legend, the creator, the founder, the entrepreneur behind the all-popular Strong Opinion Sports, Mr. Zac Shomler in my basement. Zac, thank you so much.
I think that's the best intro anyone's ever given me in my entire life.
Yes. I had to write that down at least 6 times.
Also, it's funny because I do the oh my.
Yes.
And so I've always wondered what it's like to be in the same room with someone doing their loud intro. And I'm like, oh, that's what it's like.
That's what it is right there. That's what it is. Yeah, it's funny. Like when I first got these mics, like my buddy's just like, you have to back all the way up when you do this because then it's going to explode.
Yes.
Yeah. No, 100%. And you...
Well, can I say first, before we do anything, it's so cool to be here. Like we were upstairs and I was like, it's the set of Coach. I'm like, oh my God. Like, people don't realize you're one of my favorite YouTubers. I have like you, David Dobrik, and like, that's all I watch. I mean, I love your content and I love you and I love your approach, and it's an honor to be here because I'm a fan of you and you've been on my show and it's like, I'm here. Are you kidding me, man?
You made it. You made it into this basement, and you're just like, wow, this is why you never meet your heroes.
And you drove me through the woods, and we got lost, and I got kidnapped. Please help me.
100%. It's fine. I will totally return you, mostly unharmed. No, thank you so much for coming, man. Like, this is absolutely phenomenal. Like, I'm so happy you're here. And like right before we were about to go live, you were talking about this idea of like shooting your shot, right? And like going in and then and contacting like those major people and sending those emails out and being like, hey, Aaron Rodgers, can you come on my show? And no one responds, and you're like, I'm a piece of garbage, and you know, whatever. And it's funny because you've said that you're just focusing on your product, right? Like you build your own thing. And I was talking to a friend of mine last week, and I looked at it the way of like, I see the Packers, right? Is that an end goal for me of like, I get hired by the Green Bay Packers? I don't know. At this point, I don't even know because it's turned into something completely different.
What can I say, if I may, I see the people in Cleveland that work for like the Cleveland radio station. Yeah. Would you ever want to do that? Like be their in-house guy?
You know what? It's one of those things that if I was able to still do all the things that I can do, great.
Yeah.
Because like, it's even one of those things that I've been offered opportunities to like go sit in press boxes and to go in 10 games and things like that. Yeah. I mean, there was the Giants game last year that like I didn't go to because I'm like, I want to stream it. Like, you know what I mean? Like, because now it's like a point where like there's so much interaction between you and the fans, and like it's such a weird communal experience that occurs. And like even Jade, like it took her a while. She's like, why are people watching you watch football? And for a while, I didn't even understand. People were like, oh, you should stream, and I'm like, okay, like I'll do that. And like it's turned into like, we hate the commentators and we prefer, you know, your Muppet voice, or then it's just like, you know, it's one of those things of like people like watching fans, and it is that communal experience because again, like we have troops from overseas that like don't get the game, and they're like, hey, like, you know, you're providing the game for me, which I'm pretty sure is illegal, so I'm so sorry, NFL, don't take me down.
I think one of your strengths though is that you're not the in-house guy because you can be honest about the Packers, and we know that. You know, one of my favorite podcasts is a PlayStation podcast, and PlayStation has nothing to do with them. They don't work with them. They don't talk to them. And I think it helps them because they have an outsider's perspective. Yeah. And it's cool the Packers like you, but I think you're so I think you're biased, a Packers fan, obviously, but you don't have the rose-tinted glasses a little bit, which I love. Yeah, I mean, well, I think it's because I feel like once you start being like that homer of being like, everything's fine. Like, there's not a single person on this earth that watched that NFC Championship game and were like, oh, this is great. Like, this is going so well. And I think it's just a matter of just like being honest about like your football team and like what you see and stuff like and I think the most important thing, and this is one of the things that drives, and I'm sure you can speak to this as well, one of the things that drives me the craziest about sports journalism is that people say things and they present it as fact, right? And it's just like, oh, this person is doing this. And I'm like, is that your opinion, or is that your is that what you just said? Do you have a source?
Do you have a source? Do you have anything? And I realized it when this really ticked me off because like beforehand I was just like yelling into the wind and it was fine. But like what wound up happening was like when we were looking for a head coach, all the articles were like, here are the front runners. And I'm just like, no. They're like, where is that coming from? Like, where are you getting it from? Like, I actually called out a journalist and I said, like, where did you get this from? Because he cited a source from the NFL. So I went to the NFL and I went to that source and I was like, nowhere in here does it say that they're the front runners.
The Mike Silver quote, right? Was
yep. Yeah. And I was like, I remember that. I'm like, nowhere here does it say that there's anybody that's actually doing this or whatever. He's like, well, if you can't read in between the lines, I don't know what to tell you. Oh, look, Matt LaFleur got hired. So no, you were wrong. And like, that's the kind of stuff that like I explicitly say, this is my opinion. Yeah. I could be wrong. I'm just a random dude in a basement. Yeah. Like, I know a lot of football stuff. I work really, really hard to get my opinions, but it's an opinion.
Yeah. I think that's, there was a moment before last season where I'd always been a fan of you, really liked you, but there was a moment I was like, I am ride or die Tom forever. And it was a moment where I think you kind of called me out, but it was fine. It was good for me. It really changed my perspective of content a little bit where there was all that rumor about the Packers and Aaron Rodgers and is he going to get along with the coach? And I really was like, damn, this guy Tom gets it. And you gained my respect and you really changed a little bit of my approach with that. Because like they're people, we don't know.
Yeah. No, I mean, and that was the thing too. Like, how many articles did you see of like Aaron Rodgers and Matt LaFleur are not going to get along? They already hate each other. There's so much animosity. The Audible, like, it's like Audible Gate. It was so.
Because I think Matt LaFleur said we're not going to let him Audible early on or something. There was something to that effect. I don't remember exactly what it was.
And like that one like random phrase was taken. And people were like, I'm running with the baton. And like a million articles like spread out over that. And I literally remember sitting here doing like a 30-minute video. I'm like, this is the last time we're going to talk about it. Like, I'm done.
Yeah.
Like,
I remember.
You know what? Like, we're done now. We're done. Like, I'm so done with this crap. Yeah. But to bring it back to what you were saying of like, you're allowed to be that, non-biased kind of opinionated person, is that like when it comes to this show, I started doing this and it was a passion project and that's all it was. Yeah. Like, I was like, I'm never going to make any money off of this. And I still haven't, but like, like I'm not going to make any money off this and whatever. And it grew and grew and grew and grew. And I got opportunities and they were really cool. And then like when I think it was like the second time really that I sat down with like Mark Murphy and I was like, okay, like this is different. Okay. Yeah. And like things started to shift a little bit, like priorities. And then like we went to video, which definitely changed things. And then like Sunday Night Football happened. And I was like, okay, but to speak to your point, and I 100% agree with you, like someone mentioned to me that like, imagine the Green Bay Packers is like a tower, right? Yeah. Like they are this massive organization that has this ridiculous fan base and like they're so powerful and it's so difficult. You could try to get into that tower as much as you possibly want, bang on the doors, try to reach out to all these different contacts or whatever, or you can build your own freaking tower and build it to the point where you can't be ignored anymore. Yeah. And that they're reaching out to you.
That's what's been cool in the last, I think maybe 6 months for me is I've got people in 14 different front offices in the NFL, which is like insane to me. I get on the phone and talk to people and I'm like, wow. Or I have players reaching out to me that I've been a fan of for years and they're like DM me on Instagram. I'm like, what? Me? Yeah. Why? And it's been really fun. Like, especially with the XFL, I know, I think the XFL is where I'm most connected. Yeah. And it's been fun to but it's interesting. It's been a challenge because you want to, they're people, right? If you talk about an athlete, they're a human being. Baker Mayfield, I've said very critical stuff of, but hopefully it's stuff that if him and I got a room together, he would probably be very furious at me, but I'd say, hey, look, hey man, I believe what I said. Yeah. I really think you got to
here's why I back it up.
Yeah. And let's talk about it. I'd be cordial, right? And it's been interesting to know more about, like, I know more about some teams than what I really can say is right to say. Yeah. But to hint at that stuff and walk that line where you're not trying to be disrespectful, but you're also trying to be honest and like hinting at stuff. And then at a certain point, like a time bomb, it's like, okay, it's time. Like, you got to change. This has to happen.
Yeah. No, and it's funny too, because like it's funny you bring up Baker Mayfield too, because like Tony Grossi, which again,
isn't that awful? Dude, Tom and Tony Grossi are
so bad. It is so bad.
My dad, I was like, I'm gonna go hang out with Tom Grossi, and he goes, that guy. I'm like, no, Dad, like, come on, it's a different dude, it's a different person.
I can't because what I used to do, and I still do this, is like I would go to get fans, because like I bring fans on every week. Yeah. During the football season, is like when I had to go get a Browns fan. Like I went and like my username on Reddit is Tom Grossi. Oh. And so like I would go and I'd be like, hey, like I need a Browns fan, like I have this or whatever. And they're like, are you related to Tony Grossi? And I'm like, no. And they're like, good, we hate that son of a bitch.
Can I say it's weird? Tony Grossi's like weird obsession with hating Baker. I don't understand it. It feels personal to me. I don't get the.
And I feel like that's problematic. And like maybe this is might just be me. And listen, like I don't have a journalism degree. I don't
either. I dropped out of journalism school. It was useless.
And like F you journalism. But like it's one of those things that like I find it so crazy that when people like you and me have more credibility because like we're not doing like this personal bullshit of like going after people and like and throwing in those opinions and being like these are fact, and if you don't think this way you're wrong. And it's like, why do I, as a person who is in a basement right now, why do I have more journalistic credibility, integrity than you? Like, why is that a thing? And like that's one of the things that I think people are getting sick of, and honestly, like it translates outside of just sports journalism, and that's one of like the major downfalls, because then those people who are like adamantly saying like we're trying to be like, oh, like that's crappy news, even if it's not, like it makes the entire industry look bad.
I think it hurts my heart sometimes when I get comments that are like, you're turning into Stephen A. Smith, and I'm like, I really try hard not to. Like I say some stuff that I know is a little bit controversial.
Sure.
But that's who I am, and I always say what I believe, right? I'm very careful to like, if I say something controversial, it's because I really believe it, not because I'm trying to get views or clickbait. And I really try to avoid clickbait, and it's I hate when I get accused of it because I know some of the stuff that goes on in the industry, and I'm like,
100%.
There's no way that guy believes what he's saying. There's
100%.
no way that the things they're talking about every day.
100%.
I think that's a benefit to our platform is that we're not 3 hours a day, 5 days a week.
No.
We don't have to fill 2 extra hours of content. There's not, I'll be honest, that's 15 hours. I think my math, 3 times 5.
Yeah.
So there's not 15 hours worth of sports content normally to talk about throughout the week that's actually worth talking about.
Correct.
So there's so much filler and it's crap. I hate it.
Well, I mean, like that's the thing too. Like you look at like the Skip Baylesses of the world and stuff. And listen, like the reason why those people are popular is because people click on them. Like, right? Like, because they want to be outraged when they click on it, and they're just like, oh my God, you're thinking Dak Prescott's better than Aaron Rodgers? Like, like, let me go attack you on it. And like, that's what keeps these people around. And like, listen.
But it's also given us a platform because I think the people that listen to us are people that are like, I'm tired of that approach.
I'm tired of that noise.
Reasonable. I want a moderate opinion. Like sometimes I think this, my strong opinion in sports name of my show, and people are like, I think people mistake strong with controversial.
Correct.
I think sometimes the strongest thing you can say is to say, hey, it's not black and white. There's not a real, you can't have a hard line here. Sometimes it's ambiguous, and that's okay.
Well, it's funny because you brought up the whole Aaron Rodgers thing, because I remember that video that you did, because that's when you and I like started talking about it, and I was like, bro, this is shit. So like, not what you were doing, but I'm just saying like with the articles of like that are going around.
I just joined into the club. Yeah. I was part of it.
And I remember the video that you came out with sometime after that, and you were like walked back some of it and were like, I looked into it more, like, and I looked into the scenario, and like, and some of the stuff I still believe, but like, here's some of the stuff that I'm taking back. And I remember some of the comments that were like, this is supposed to be strong opinion sports, and you're watering it down. I'm like, you're missing the entire point of this entire exchange right here.
I get so much hate when I make a video saying I was wrong. I think that's the best part of my 100%. What I do is when I say like, hey, I made a prediction, and oh my God, was that prediction I predicted the Browns to win their division this year. Like, I feel stupid, but also like I was very wrong.
I said the Bears would, so like, you know, it's okay.
But I think it'd be worse if I didn't own it. Like, hey, the people that ignore, like if I never acknowledged I picked the Browns, would have been really worse. It's better to be like, hey, look, I was just wrong. Here's what I believed. Here's what my thought was. But in the end, I was very wrong.
And you know, and that's the thing too. Like, and people like will call you out for that and be like, wow, like this video aged well, or like, you know, like that opinion aged well. And that's like, that's why I'm very upfront. I'm like, listen, you're gonna there are some people that do not like me out there, 100%. And I'm just like, I'm not your cup of tea, whether it's my voice, whether it's my presentation, whether it's my corny ass jokes. Like, listen, I get it. And I'm not trying to. Like, I am not trying to cater to you, because I can do very generic clickbaity BS that, like, you know, caters to the masses, and that's it. But then I'm not going to enjoy doing this show. Like, I am not going to enjoy doing what I do. And I think that, you know, when you talk about like the Stephen A. Smiths and the Skip Baylesses and things like that, like a lot of it is kind of just like, okay, we're going to take an opinion, we're going to make it controversial, we're going to blow it up. Yeah. And like you said, and then it's filler of just like, I don't know about this, and blah, and it's just noise. Yeah. You know, and there are times where like I joke about this on predictions all the time. Like the past few times I was like, oh, Jade, we got to get to 10 minutes so we can get that double ad, right? But like there are plenty of times where I'm just like, it's 9:50. Like, and I've said everything I need to say. Yeah. I'm not going to extend it. I don't care.
Drag out your logo so it's 11 seconds. Oh my God. I've really avoided that because it kills me when I have a video that's 9:57 and I'm like, if I get 3 more seconds, then, but I already have all the stuff, and it just is like, it's disingenuous to
And I feel like especially, because we're talking about sports journalism in particular.
Also, I hope people understand, if a video is 10 minutes long, you make way more money on it. So but I think it's better to be honest and say, like, I don't want to waste anybody's time.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I think the video I put out yesterday was like 9 minutes and 50 seconds.
Yeah.
And I was just like,
wow.
Okay, well, that's all I got to say about the XFL this week. Because and that was it. And I think it's one of those things that when you look at it, you're just like, yeah, I would rather do that than to be one of, because we're talking about sports journalism, but you can talk about like the platform that we're on. Yeah. Like it's YouTube, where, that's primarily where I get the most engagement, where people are watching, they have people watch on like Spotify and iTunes and all that stuff. But it's, or sometimes they just stare at their screen. But like, that's the thing, like YouTube is like where it's at.
Yeah.
And like, there are so many people that do that, where they're just like, my logo is going to go for a really, really long time.
Or they talk about filler or nothing to extend it. Like, but there's a right way to do things. I mean, that's what I really like about your approach is there's a, It comes back, I guess integrity is the word. I think there's a right way to do it. You know who John Bellion is? Yeah. John Bellion's my favorite musical artist, and he kind of has, he doesn't play by the rules of the industry. Okay. He made an album a while back, and then he made a new one called Glory Sound Prep. Okay. And the people that liked his earlier album didn't like Glory Sound Prep because he did a lot of his own stuff. And he said, instead of trying to make poppy songs that are played on the radio, I'm going to do what I'm passionate about and what I am interested in. And the people that like it, great. The people that don't, great. But I have to make what I'm passionate about and what I think is the right way to do it. And I love that he didn't sell out. I find that so inspiring. He's not the biggest in the industry. He probably could be if he sold out. Sure. But he's happy with the way he does it. And if that's my role in all this, that's cool with me. Yeah. And I mean, like, your rise, like, to success. Like, I remember when you messaged me before you blew up, and you were like, look at this Aaron Rodgers video. And it was saying like that Aaron Rodgers was like the problem in Green Bay, because I think this was from, what season was this? Maybe it was like the 2017. I think it might have been 2017 season, because it was right before. Because I think it was your Kyler Murray video that really like took off, right? And that like Josh Rosen and Kyler Murray. Yeah, that one. And it like started like this growth. And I remember you sending it to me, and I was like, yeah, like this is good. Like I watched it, and I was like, this is good stuff. And like the way that you've done it, and obviously like your film breakdowns and film analysis are like the most popular part for you. So like when you're going in and like starting this whole entire process, like it has to be just for passion, right? Because there's so many people on this space that are just like sports, YouTube combined, blah. And like we were talking about this before, like if you're gonna like stand out, or if you're gonna do something like this, don't expect to make a whole lot of money. And if you are, it ain't going to happen for a long time for most people. And that's not saying anything negative about you. And I think you just can't do the work. I mean, like staying up, I know your schedule is insane. And to stay up all night and to make, it just doesn't happen unless you really love it. I know that people that are like, I'm going to make a YouTube channel and it's going to be another source of income. And it's like, I don't think you have the drive, and it's not just drive, because it's more than that. You have to really love it. You have to love staying up all night. You have to love editing and love writing and all that process. And if you don't, I don't think it's... I hate editing, but yes. But you do it though, but like because you love the process. Yeah, because you like what the end result... I don't love editing. Yeah. I hate editing the film analysis videos. It takes literally... It takes 2 days. I'm not even kidding. It's brutal, but I love what it turns into. Yeah. So it's worth it to do it all. Yeah. Well, I think it's like, it's intrinsic versus extrinsic like motivation, right? So like you're doing it intrinsically because you do it because you love it. And then like if you're doing it for the extrinsic because you're doing it for the monetary value, then it's most likely not going to work out. I mean, like, and that's one of those things that like the whole reason that I started this, because I started this in stand-up right around the same time. And I did it because I was miserable at a job in which I was not happy. It was a crappy office job, which it was terrible. And I had done improv before, and I was like, you know what? I'm going to go do stand-up. I'm going to do an open mic. Yeah. And we'll see what happens. And I liked it a lot, and I was like, maybe I'll keep on doing this. And then like with the Packers thing, it was one video that like, because before that, I like didn't post anything on YouTube. I posted like some dumbass crap. And then I posted like a Packers reaction making fun of the fact that they lost in the 2014 NFC Championship game. And it got like 60,000 views, which like for me was like, oh my God, like this is amazing. Because like I've never seen views like this before. I was like, I'm going viral. And it was one of those things of like, I'll do a podcast, but everyone is already doing a podcast. But so I want it to be different. I want to bring on other fans from other teams to talk about games. I want to get to know other people. And I'm just going to do it. It was a 2 times a week thing. There was no live, there was no video. And I just did it because I enjoyed it. And, it's one of those things that
even when today, when I'm looking at this and this being another source of income now, it hasn't transcended, unfortunately, like my like real job yet. It's getting really close, but like, it's just one of those things that like you said, you have to have such a drive and absolutely love to do this, or there's no way that this is going to work out. Well, and
also then you can't let every decision be guided by finances, right? Like, you can't make videos just because you think they're going to make money, or have thumbnails because it's going to, like, it goes back to doing it the right way. Like, not adding, if the video's not 10 minutes, it's not 10 minutes. Don't force it.
That's it.
It's, I don't know.
Listen, my thumbnails suck. Like, they suck balls. Like, I'm looking at this and I'm just like, it is ugly. Like, it's not good. But I'm like, it's fine. Like, so like, but that's the thing. Like, my reaction videos is me, every single one of them is me sitting like an idiot on my couch, and it's just like Bills fan, Packers fan. That's it. Like, that's all that there is. And I've had people that have reached out and are like, these thumbnails blow. Here's ones that you could do. And they're like clickbaity and poppy, and there's like emoji. As soon as I see emoji, I'm like, I'm done. Like, I can't do it. So, and like, and yes, I could definitely get more clicks that way. I can get more views that way. I don't know if they're going to stay. But like that'd be going against what it is. Like, listen, I'm trying. I'll learn Photoshop one of these days. Like, and we'll do it. I use GIMP, which is a free version of Photoshop, which is it's a nightmare. What is it?
Canva. It's free. I like Premium. It's like $11 a month if you want to upgrade. But it's like it's just simple. You can learn it in like 5 minutes, and that's what I use, and it's so helpful.
That'll be our next episode. It's just be like, Tom learns Canva, and we'll do it in our...
It's simple. No, if I can figure it, I'm not... Like, I know video. Yeah. My girlfriend knows photo. I've worked for ESPN a little bit, but I know camera stuff. I learned Photoshop a little bit. I'm like, I hate this. Is too... Even knowing it, it's just convoluted. Canva's like very straightforward. Yeah. It's how my brain works. It's like you put stuff on top of stuff, and then you make shapes. And I'm like, oh, I can make shapes and put stuff on top of each other.
Your thumbnails are clean. Like,
I try. I found a little template I try to follow.
Yeah, it's you, and then it's like whatever the thing is, and that's it. Like, and I look at guys like Brandon Perna, I get along with really well from like That's Good Sports. Love that man. And like, I look at his thumbnails, and I'm just like, I have no idea how to do that.
There's like things cross-faded in.
I'm just like, nah, I do that. Like, things are like overlapping, and I'm just like,
you like clearly like outlined it.
How is that? Like, exactly. I'm like cutting my face out and like pasting it on something. And like, and when I did Game of Thrones videos, like that became like a staple. Though, like, it was so horrifically photoshopped,
intentionally bad photo.
I'm just like, now I'm just leaning into it. And
it's my weird circle face on a dragon.
Yeah, and every single time that there's another comment, I'm just like, now I'm gonna make it even worse. Like this is to punish you now. It's like when you're doing stand up and you're bombing, and I'm like, I'm glad you hate this. I'm now gonna tell worse jokes. Like,
I've never done that. What's that like to bomb doing stand up? Is it I've heard people explain it. I've never heard anyone in person explain it to me. What's that like?
So I think it depends on, this is gonna sound really bad, how much you care. And like, I have, over the years, I have such a small amount of shame left in me.
But you kind of have to.
Like, you have to. Yeah. And like, there are times where like, I'll post a photo on Instagram where like, I was with friends, we were in Disney, and I posted a photo because I was like drinking around the world, and like a commenter was like, yo, you look fat as hell. And like, I laughed my ass off, and I wrote like the camera adds like 10 pounds or something. And like one of my friends that were with me was like, how do you do that? Like, how could you just take it? Because I'm like, because I don't care. Like, I don't care. Like, if I look like Jabba the Hutt in one of my videos, like this shirt probably looks like I got boobs. Like, I don't care. Like, it's one of those things of like, I'm still gonna take care of myself, like healthily. Morning. Yeah, and that's the thing. I think when it comes to bombing, like when I first started, so like I did open mics, and then like I did a competition, which I won, humble flex. And then like the first time I ever got paid was a bringer show, which I don't know if you know what a bringer show is.
No, what is that?
Good God. It's the worst thing in the industry. Basically, if you want to go and perform at like Caroline's in the city, very famous. Okay.
I saw it yesterday, actually. Oh my gosh.
Times Square.
Yeah.
So if you could go perform there, literally, you can go perform there. Yes. With zero stand-up experience, you have to bring people. So if
I fill up the room, I can do it.
Correct. So what they'll do is they'll have like these little Saturday shows or Monday shows or whatever, and they're usually in the middle of the day, or like, it's a Tuesday night when they don't get people, and they'll have like new talent showcases. And what happens is you go up and you can do like 6 minutes, but you have to bring 10 people, because those 10 people have a 2-drink minimum. Yeah. And they're going to have to
They're going to make money off of it.
They're going to have to spend for the ticket. And all of a sudden it's an $80 night. So those 10 people, that's about $800 that they're bringing in. For some guy who has no stand-up experience, they can suck for 6 minutes, because then they sandwich it. They bring in the crappy people, like the people who are just starting out, and then they sandwich it with like veterans. And So what wound up happening was I did it at a golf course. Was my first paid show. And they're like, we'll give you $25 if you bring 5 people. And I was like, oh my God, look how famous I am. So it was, this was like my first bomb. And I go up, I'm the first one on, of course.
It's rough.
And everybody is eating dinner. And it's not just like McDonald's or like it's like full blown like course meals, like Italian
Are they even
food.
looking at you like?
No. They are not.
They don't give a...
They don't give a shit that I am in front of them. And so, like, I go up, and, like, I've been up on stage, like, 5 times at this point. And I go up there, and he's like, do you have 10 minutes? And I'm like, I only got, like, 6, but I can stretch it out. That's fine.
Ooh.
So I go up there. I think I got and I knew people in the audience, and I got, like, a giggle. Like, and that was, like, the highlight of it. And I was like... Oof. Like, that felt bad.
Yeah.
And, like, because, like, there's times where there's, like, this feels really terrible. But I feel like one of the things that has kind of helped me is that, like, being a teacher for 5 years, like, there are times where, like, I'm going in with, like, half a lesson plan and I have 40 minutes to fill. Or, like, when I was working at the other school, like, I had 90 minutes to fill because they had blocks. And I kind of approached it differently. And I was like, you know what? Like, I can keep teenagers entertained enough to care about European history for 90 minutes. I can make these adults, these complete total strangers, laugh for 10. I can do that. And at bare minimum, if they're not, I could be entertaining enough. Or even if it's not that, it's not going to kill me on the inside. Because, like, I've stood and, like, you kind of just, like, roll with it at this point.
Yeah.
Now, obviously, that changes depending on, like, what the show is. Like, if you're recording a comedy album or, like, you know, it's, like, a really big show. You know, if I ever perform, like, Madison Square Garden, yeah, I'm probably going to be a bit nervous. Like, I'm probably going to be like, oh, this is bad. So, that being said, I mean, like, I even looked at it, like, even with streaming. Like, it's 3.5 hours. Like, 3.5 hours that I'm sitting here, and I can't just be like, I don't like dead air.
Yeah.
So, like, I have to be constantly entertaining unless, like, I have to go pee, you know, and even then I try to be entertaining while I'm leaving and going out the door. So, like, yeah, I think bombing is just, if you are really invested in it, and I'm not saying of just, like, passion, I'm just saying if you're really invested, if you're like, I need to do well, it sucks. Like, it's a hollow feeling. And personally, like, my defense mechanism is just to keep talking, right? So if I make a joke and then, like, and your face is just, then I'm just like, well, that went well, right? And, like, and if that, like, usually that's just people are like, ho. Like, there are times, like,
make fun of yourself.
Yeah.
Like, yeah.
Oh, self-depreciating humor all day. Like, I prefer, the last stand-up I did was a couple months ago, just because I don't have time during the football season. It was a couple months ago for a Sweet 16. It was a former student of mine. The mom reached out. I had left the school, and she's like, hey, I want you to come and do my daughter's Sweet 16. Yeah. I knew some of the kids, you know, whatever. And the thing of, like, corporate events or, like, parties and things like that, like, I always tell them, I'm like, are you sure you want this? Because, listen, it goes from we're celebrating this person's birthday, retirement, what have you. I've done both.
Yeah.
And now it's like, let's look at this random person who is now going to occupy our time, our attention for 10 to 30 minutes. And I'm like, there's times where it might get awkward because, like, listen, no matter how terrible, like, comedy clubs are for, like, you know, their practices of, like, bringer shows or whatever, when you go to a comedy show,
you go to laugh.
You're going there just go see most of the time, unless you're roped in, you know. And
but you have an expectation. I'm going to try to hopefully have a little bit of alcohol and laugh.
Correct. Aunt Bertha, who's there to celebrate, you know, her niece's birthday. She's not there to laugh.
Who's this guy?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So I went and I did this show, and the microphone didn't work. Ooh. So they had a portable karaoke machine, and they're like, "This is what you got," and I was like, "Cool." And I got 20 minutes, and I wanted to give them, like, a little bit extra.
Yeah.
So I'm standing up there, and, like, I do, like, my first joke, which I knew, like, it hits.
Yeah. What was it?
The deer joke from, like, it's like the opening joke I do for my comedy album of, like, hitting a deer and, like, being vegan and stuff.
You should listen to it. If you haven't, go listen to it. Listen to or watch his comedy album. It is really good. I enjoy it.
Appreciate it.
Yeah.
A couple people laugh.
I did. I don't know if this says more about me or other people.
It's funny, too, because, like, and this is not me, like, being full of it. The audio got so screwed up from there that I actually had to pay a sound engineer to fix it because what they did is they were just using camera audio mic for the audience, for the crowd. Oh. And so I had to make the conscious decision, do you want to hear my jokes more or do you want to hear the laughter? And I went with the jokes. And so because of that, every single time you hear a laugh, people, I promise you can ask people that they were clapping. There was a standing ovation at one point.
But it's dead.
None of that comes out. Like, it's just like,
dang.
Like, that's what you hear.
Yeah.
And so, like, I went and I did the joke or whatever, and I heard, like, and I was like, oh, this is going to be a good one, huh?
This is the Sweet 16.
Yeah, and I was
joke
just,
one, the deer didn't work.
And, like, I literally tell them, like, I'm like, just like, buckle in. I got 15 more minutes of this. Like,
and Bertha,
like,
I hope you're excited.
Like, it turns into, like, one of those things that I was like, listen, you paid me to be, you asked for this. Like, I didn't ask for this. And I was like, I'm going to leave here. I'm still going to get money. Like, I'm still going to get paid. Like, so try to laugh and, like, try to loosen up. So, like, I started, like, making fun of people and stuff like that. And they loved it. And, like, it was fine.
Yeah.
And, like, but, like, that's one of those things that you have to have, like, that adaptation of, like, but there's times where people are not going to laugh at your jokes. Like, people are just not going to find you funny. And I think it just has to be, like, you have to accept that. Because if you do it often enough, you stop looking at it as, like, kind of like these little micro events, and you start looking at it as, like, this is one night I did amazingly well. I'm probably going to have a night where I suck. Yeah. And it happens.
Well, same with videos, though. I can't remember where I said this, but basically, like, you can make the best pie in the world. Mm-hmm. You put hours of labor into it. It's phenomenal. And then someone still hates the pie. Mm-hmm.
They don't like apple
pie. Doesn't matter. Yeah, it doesn't matter what it is, right? And so you have to kind of let go of, at least I have really, I'm proud of this, let go of what people think of the show. Like, I hope everyone likes it. I do. But I like what I make, and I'm proud of what I make, and that's most important. And because you have to make it. Yes. You have to face it every day. And if you're not, I think my dad works at restaurants a lot with chefs, and if a chef wasn't proud of their food, would you want to give it to anybody? Like, no. It sounds horrible. So at the end of the day, if you're proud of it, that's most important.
Yeah, and I think that's also, like, I can't tell you. So, like, I've been doing, like, I did that first reaction video in 2014, right? So, like, I love them, by the way. I thank you. Yeah. Like, and they've evolved over time, obviously, and gotten more technical.
They're like your version of a film analysis video. Like, that's, I think, like, that's your thing.
They're the most popular thing. But, like, I can't, so, like, last year, when I started doing them more actively, and was like, okay, like, I'll do a bunch of teams kind of thing. I can't tell you how many people in the comments were like, this is a ripoff of Scooter Magruder.
Really?
Like, yeah. Like, I like all the time. All the time.
I didn't even think that. I never
made that
like, connection.
Oh, like, this is a ripoff. And I'm like looking at these comments, and they used to bother me. Yeah. And I'm looking at it, and I'm like, okay, one, this is no offense to Scooter. I had no idea who he was until someone literally mentioned it in my comments, because YouTube's a big place. Like, you know, it mentioned in my comments, and I was like,
I didn't know who That's Good Sports was till yesterday. I'm not even kidding. I, like, put out a video saying other people aren't talking about the XFL, and they're like, oh, actually, this guy named Flemlo, who I guess is from Cincinnati, That's Good Sports.
Yeah.
Brandon Perna,
I love that man. Yeah.
I just followed him on Instagram. He seems kind of cool.
He's great. I love him. Yeah, he's
I
been
didn't
doing
know he
this
was
for
a
while.
thing. Yeah. And I got accused of copying. I'm like, oh. Yeah. Oh.
Yeah. Well, and that's the thing too. So I'm like, okay, so like every sports reaction video is that someone else's, like, kind of thing. I'm like, because I did this in 2014, and I didn't look up any other reaction videos to, like, you know, get inspiration to do that, because that's a bunch of BS. I'm like, I had a video literally where I'm dead on the toilet. Where else is that on YouTube? Tell me where. Yeah. So, like, it's one of those things that, like you said, like, and there are videos, like, I will admit there, like, I know exactly which one I'm talking about. The Eagles video that I put out last year, the Eagles reaction video, I didn't like it. I did it. People asked me to, and they were really, really harping on me to do it. And I was like, you know what? I'm going to do it. I made it, and I was like, I hate this. I don't like this. And I put it out there, and people were like, this is great. I love it. What have you. And
that's
like
the worst feeling, though.
Yeah, and like and I remember, I don't remember any other comment. I remember one comment, and they were like, this is not your best one. And that's the one I was like, that person is correct. And I literally wrote to that one person, I was like, I know. Like, and that for me is actually when I stopped doing them that season. I think I maybe did like one or two more, and that was just because I was really like, I really had great ideas for it. Yeah. Because at that point, I'm just like, I'm not doing them just to do them. I'm like,
that's what I mean because you could do it and make way more money on that, but 100%. If it's not, your heart's not in it, doesn't work. Yep. I'm really struggling with film analysis videos right now. And I'm finding time, and XFL's happening, all this stuff, and it's like, I also understand, this is what people don't get. There's a gigantic break from the draft until August comes. It's a long summer.
Yes.
There's no hurry to do Drew Lock film analysis video. Let's wait till the draft ends. Let's wait till things are calmed down.
Yeah.
And then, like, I think I'll be the only person making that kind of content.
Yes.
It's hard to make football content in the summer.
Yes.
Let's wait. Let's save that for a rainy day. There's no hurry.
I literally, like, I've looked at my year, and I'm like, okay, I can make content in February, even if the XFL wasn't a thing. I can make content in February because, like, you know, it's starting to lead up to, like, free agency.
There's so much actually going on.
It's still like season reaction stuff, combine stuff is starting to come out. March and April are pure draft and free agents. Like, it's all that. Like, last year, I literally put out a video Monday through Friday on a different and I was just like,
you like died.
I want to die.
I remember I was so proud of you when that happened. I just couldn't believe it.
And the same exact thing is going to happen this year. Yeah. And then like May, you could do like post-draft stuff for like a half the month or something like that. And then like June, July, August, it's tough.
It's film season. It becomes film season. Like,
and it gets very difficult. And I think it's one of those things that, you know, I've looked at it and people are like, you should do other content, you should do other, you know, sports or what have you. And I've looked at it and I'm just like, no, because like, again, I'm not going to put out content just to put out content. Yeah. And I like you said, I could make a lot more money if I did that. If I could make, and who knows, maybe I still will. It depends on if I have ideas. Like people are asking me like, just do all 32 teams reactions. Like just do it. And there's times where like I've done way more than I thought I would already this season. Yeah. I could stretch this thing out till literally about 3 more months. I could do that. Yep. But if I'm sitting there and I'm like, okay, I got to do the Jets today. And I'm like, I got nothing.
I got no ideas. I don't have it. Yeah.
There's times where I come down here because like the actual filming process of this is like not too bad. And what a lot of people don't recognize with literally any of the videos, like my XFL video that I just put out, this is what I do. Yeah. Like that's it.
It's a page of notes.
This one? Yeah. My Bills one that I did. It's this. Who won each game and that's it.
And then you riff.
It's all improv. Yeah. It's literally all improv unless I'm about to turn on the camera. So this happened with the Texans one. I'm about to turn on the camera and I'm like, I should make this into a detective thing. And like it literally like it just came out of nowhere. And I was just like, that's what I'm gonna do. Yeah. And I did it. And like, but there are times where like I sit down here and I'm like, I got nothing. Like I'm sitting there, I'm like, this is not my best. I don't want to do this, what have you. And then there's some sort of like, I have like 1 or 2 really good jokes in here. Can I stretch that out? You know, like, and I don't think I can. Yeah. But like, that's the thing. Like so much of this is when I need notes, like when I need, and I really just do it for like analytics and things, you know, stats and things like that. But like those, all of it is improv.
I think it's, you know, the film analysis videos that's creativity, right?
Yeah.
The film analysis videos, frankly, are not that creative because it's really just what do you see on film?
Yeah.
It's actually very, the XFL has been really fun to cover because there's a lot of times there's predictions and stuff, but like I knew the Wildcats were going to win last week. Like you could see like, okay, week 1, week 2, they're getting better. Week 3, they're going to pop. Like it's going to happen. That for me, there's some opinion in the stuff I say. And then there's some things that's like, just watch the film. Like it's a fact. Like this guy makes good reads or this is good. This is bad. Like film doesn't lie in a lot of cases. And so it's hard to like, I don't understand what I'm saying, but there's there's some truth in just film doesn't lie either.
Yeah. Well, I think what's interesting too, and I think what makes you so successful, especially with your film analysis video, is that people like, I'll use the term like casual fans.
Yeah.
They're not sitting down, they're not watching tape, right? Like,
or even games often.
Or games. Maybe they'll see like highlights, you know, and stuff like that and be like, oh, that was a cool play, right? And I think what makes you so unique is that you make it unintimidating. In that somebody who doesn't know a lot about it can watch you and know what you're talking about. Does it help if you have knowledge of football? Absolutely. Yeah. But you can say, look at what this guy is doing. Look at where his head is turned. Look at how he's scanning the field. And anyone could watch that and be like, that makes a lot of sense.
When I write them, I try to, because my stuff isn't heavily written except for those. Those are very heavily scripted. Like that's like very like prepared. Because if you're going to speak in very intense lingo, like breaking down a play, you better have like a paragraph written in simple terms. So I write them in a voice trying to explain it to my dad, who doesn't know football at all. And if my dad can understand what I'm talking about, then I hit the mark. That's the right way to do it.
Yeah. No, and I think that's what makes it such a different and unique program. Because again, like if you can go up and look up film analysis right now on YouTube or when the NFL does it or ESPN does
Baldy's Breakdowns does it, but he just talks over clips. That's not really analysis. That's just saying like, well, he throws the ball and it's a completion. Like you're just saying what happened.
Like and it's interesting because like I didn't used to do a lot of stuff with the draft, but like last year when I did it and I started looking at tape and I started looking into it. You know, and it's long. Like I understand what you're saying. Like these take days to do. Like whether that's just editing or just like preparing.
Watching 16 football games.
It's insanity.
And you're not just watching all of it. It's not 2 hours. It's like 6 hours because you got to pause, rewind, record the clip, write the notes down. What are the thoughts? Like
and I think it's just and it's crazy too because like you have people who will just watch like the highlights videos and be like, this person's like amazing. Like Rashawn Gary, his highlights, they look like, you know, those stitched together things, they look great. I start watching the tape, I'm like, this guy gets pushed to the outside a lot. Like he's really fast, like when he gets in there, but...
if you watch, PJ Walker is the best quarterback in the XFL. Yes. He's killing it. And you watch just his highlights, he's great.
Yep.
But you also don't see the throws that are interceptions that are dropped.
Yep.
Or the bad decision where he has an out route he should have taken, he throws in the end zone. Instead, you're like, dude, if you just watch highlights, you're not actually getting full experience. Yep. I don't know if you ever run into this, but like when I cover games, it was really 2-3 years ago when I was in a dorm room in Pullman, Washington at Washington State. Like, I'm not going to lie. I would straight up just watch highlight videos and then say, well, here's what happened in the game. And then I realized, oh no, that's not acceptable because highlights don't actually stats don't tell a story. Highlights don't tell a story. There are things that go on that they don't put in highlight videos. And you better be able to talk about it. And if you don't, you're missing the point in not telling the story, doing it justice. And a lot of people, so many people cut corners and it drives me nuts.
Yeah.
It's like,
well, I mean, and that's the thing too. Like you look at it from, you know, when I started looking at for the draft, like, like I looked at highlight videos and stuff and was like, okay. And then, oh God, I'm blanking on his name. The number one linebacker who was coming out last year, who I ripped apart for crappy tackling.
The guy from LSU, right?
Yeah. I think the Buccaneers got him. Oh my God.
It's okay. We just forget the guy. I remember the video though.
White.
You were talking about, you were talking about, and you were right actually, because I watched your video. You said he basically arm tackles every play, and it's not good for him, and he's kind of. You were right, actually.
And like people break out of tackles, and like, you know, he's like a leading tackler, absolutely.
But you weren't even saying I'm right. You were very humble in the opinion. You said, look, this is my concern.
Yeah.
I don't actually know if it's a big deal, but let me tell you, from my perspective, it looks like a concern.
Yeah.
I liked that approach. It's honest.
Well, because I think again too, like I'm looking at this and I'm like, listen, like I'm not a film analysis. Like I'm telling you what I'm seeing. Right? Like, I like Montez Sweat.
And I'm showing you what I'm seeing.
Yeah, exactly.
It's huge.
Which also, you just get demonetized. And it just, like, none of my college football videos, none of them got monetized. And I'm just like, and you and I have talked about this, of like, it's 10 seconds over the clip that I'm talking over. There's no audio. Like, that drives me insane.
Even, you know, one time I made a Trevor Lawrence video and I was so excited because I was like, this is going to kill. Yeah. This is huge. And I used, the college sent me the film, which is not owned by the network. The college shot it. Clemson shot that footage on their own. They own the rights. And Clemson gave me the rights to use the footage. And ESPN still claimed it and said, we own the rights to the national championship. I'm like, but this is a different camera from the other side of the stadium. Not your camera, different footage. You don't own the rights to this. And I lost the battle. And it's like, well, all right. Like,
what are you gonna do? Like that,
you don't. But you have to accept that. Okay, if I'm getting views here, it's growing the brand. Exactly. It might not make money, but people are still learning about me.
Exactly. Yeah. And I mean, you know, and that's what I started to do. Not this past season, but a couple years ago. I was like, okay, like the comeback game where the Packers beat the Bears.
I was gonna say it's fun. Like it is fun to watch Trevor Lawrence film.
Yeah.
Whether I make money or not, like I like making that content. So it's like, well,
and and that's the thing. Like I put a couple clips, and again, they're like 3 seconds long.
Yeah.
Of highlights with the Bears-Packers game. Got demonetized right away, and then within 3 days, the NFL took it down. Mm-hmm. And I'm like...
That sucks. They should leave it up at least.
And that's what I'm saying of just like, you know what? You want to make the revenue off that?
But leave the product
Have
up.
fun.
I'm helping your league.
Correct.
So baseball doesn't understand. Is like John Boy Media is great. He's phenomenal. I've talked to him. He's actually reached out to me. He's really great. The baseball should not only let his content be out there, they still have to make revenue because all John Boy does is he's a commercial for baseball.
Yep.
He tells the stories of baseball.
Yep.
I watch baseball very rarely, but I do it often when John Boy tells me what to look for. Like, okay, I'll watch that.
Right. Yeah, it's advertising the product, and it's free advertisement.
Like the XFL doesn't care. They've been really...
I'm sure, because they're just like, I remember the picture that you took because you went to the Seattle game, right? And there was like no one else in the press box, and you're just like...
Yeah.
Like this is what it is. Like people care for the first week and then that's it.
Yep.
But like, you know, and that's what, like I know buddies that like started UFC podcasts and the UFC is like, we will give you like exclusive media passes. You can have like all this stuff. You can post highlights.
Talk about us.
To do
Spread
everything.
the word.
Yeah. Because again, it's free advertising. And like, listen, like this might screw me over, but like the NFL, like I've looked into getting credentialed by the NFL and the only reason I haven't begun that process is because they exclusively say you can't do play-by-play. And I'm like, what do I do? I mean, like, a lot of it is color commentary. Yeah. A lot of it is like interacting with the chat and things like that. But like, I'm watching the game and there's no audio, but I'm watching the game and I'm talking about it. And I don't know if that falls under the purview of play-by-play.
Yeah.
And so because of that, if I go and I'm like, okay, now I'm bound to this, and now I could get potentially in trouble.
Well, also, let's be frank. Like, when you're a press box at a football game,
yeah,
usually the TV copy's playing as well. So I don't like when I'm at a game and I don't get the fan experience, because you want to talk about what is it like to be a fan? Because the fans watch on TV. So when I'm at a press box, I really like to see the game, but I always watch, like, there's a delay. So you'll watch what happened on the field, then watch what the TV says, and you want to hear what Tony Romo said.
Yeah.
Because Tony Romo's telling you narratives that the fans are going to ask you about.
Correct.
So it's really important to get, I think if you're going to pick one experience, the stadium or TV, you actually should pick TV, because that's what the people watching your show experience as well. They're going to relate to that better.
Yeah. And I think that's what like irks me, because like the streams are the main source of my income for the show. Like that's what it is, because people donate. That's what it is. Like literally that's all it is.
Yeah.
Like I don't make like any, I think I make maybe like on a game that 80,000 people watch, like maybe $50. Like that's like what you get.
Yeah.
But I get the revenue from like Jim and Jim B, like going back and forth and like donating ridiculous amounts of money that I'm like completely blown away from. And like that's the thing that like if I lost that,
bye-bye.
Like I'm done. Like I literally have zero revenue stream, because like those reaction videos that I put up, like the Bills one has at this moment made me $12.
That's what's funny. People don't realize, like, some videos get a ton of views and doesn't necessarily mean you make a lot of money. Correct. People assume views or numbers equal money, and people assume that I make some of my low, like, if people watch the full video, you make way more money. So like I'll have a video with like 6,000 views that makes more money than a video with 80,000 views.
Yep. It's watch time. You know, and it's one of those things that like I don't have a marketing like I don't have any money in marketing.
Yep.
I don't have any of that stuff. I have like my Twitter and my Instagram, you know, and like listen, sometimes I get a beer fridge, which is awesome and which is amazing. Shout out to New Air. But like again, like I don't have like SeatGeek. Like I the only reason I'm an affiliate with them is because I reached out and they gave me a code and they're like, we'll give you $10 every single time someone like uses the code. But it's only for like first time users anyway. So like maybe every now and then I make like $20 from it a month. And like that's the thing that people don't understand, and that goes back to our original conversation of just like it's a passion thing. And if you don't have the passion for it and you're just like, like you said, I'm just trying to make more money, this is not the business to get into, because it's most likely not going to happen. Or if it is, it's going to be very little, or even at that, it's going to take a really long time for that to build up. Yeah. And so like where you're at now. So like I will admit it, I mean, this shouldn't come as a shock. I found that I was still doing the content when 5 people were watching, which wasn't that long ago, and to now where there's like 5,000 people watching, or 50,000 or whatever. And I enjoy it more now that I can interact with more people, right? Because like it seems just like I'm not just talking to like Earl in the comments. Or my wall. I do that anyway, but like, you know what I mean? Like it's nice. So to go from like where you were, because you had like this meteoric rise, and it happened quickly.
Yeah.
Like I remember like you sending me that clip, and then like literally like 6 months later, I was like, holy crap. Like it was like it came out of nowhere. So like, what do you see being like some of the main differences? Like obviously like there's income, and like there's the Ask Zac thing, which I absolutely love. Like, you know, then there's that interaction that's going on. But like, for you, has that changed any of like your creative process? Has that changed any of your
that's what's,
like views on the product as a whole?
I think it's just reaffirmed that there's a right way to do it, and you have to like it's my job. Like I have to make money. Yeah. But you can't let money drive your decisions. You have to let the passion. And so it's important, and it's I think there were moments where I look around, like I was in New York City, I was in Manhattan at a coffee shop putting out my Carson Palmer video, and I was like, man, like, and I it was one of those moments where I'm like, this is cool because I'm so proud of this thing that I made. And as long as you're proud of it, that's what's huge. And what changed, I hope very little. Like I get comments sometimes that I'm really proud of. They're like, dude, you're the same guy you were. Hopefully not the same. Like my approach has definitely evolved, but it's very similar content that it was 2 years ago. I think I'm a little more mature. I think I'm a little less harsh, a little less clickbaity. Definitely way less than I was. I used to try to be like Stephen A. Smith, and I'm like, no. Like when he first started, like 2016, I think I tried to be that guy, and I learned very quickly.
Click on my video.
That doesn't work for me. Like I have to be the more nuanced and calmer guy.
Sure.
But I mean, like I get accused all the time of like, oh my God, you have a great camera, and you're like, I spent like $30 on curtains behind me.
Yeah.
I had the same camera I started with. I learned how to use the settings better.
Yeah.
And I record on a plastic table. Like,
yeah.
I don't
Listen, the only reason I got this is because this was on sale a few years ago. And I think like I got it as a Christmas gift. Like, you know, and that's, yeah.
I do a podcast with my dad called the Flawed Humans Podcast. And it's, we talked about finances the first time. I've never talked about my finances at all. And we talked about it on that podcast. And it was just like, I don't know, like I'm terrified of losing what I have because I understand like it's volatile and I drive a 95 Corolla with, I have to hold it in fifth gear because it doesn't work unless I literally hold it there. Like I don't know. I think there's a view of YouTubers and this and that. It's like, I do it because it's fun, because I love it. Yeah. Not because it's profitable.
Yeah. Well, and I think too is like, let's just say worst case scenario, like the NFL is like, please don't report me. Like if the NFL like looks at like my stream and it's just like, you're done. Like, you know, you're not allowed to stream anymore. I mean, like, I would still put out content 5 days a week. Like, and again, and it's not because of just like, well, now I need to make those $12 5 times a week. It's more just because like, okay, well,
it's fun.
It's fun. I enjoy it. Yeah. And listen, there are days where I don't. Like, there are days where like I'm dragging my carcass because like what I did this season was I made a schedule. Like it literally was like, this is what happens on Mondays. This is the videos that come out on Tuesdays, Wednesdays, Thursdays, and Fridays. And it's a rough schedule. Like that's a very difficult schedule. But I found that when I got off that schedule, I hated it because like I needed that order in order for that to happen. And so like I didn't feel fulfilled for that day if I was just like, crap, I didn't do this video or it didn't come out. And like, yeah, I think that's also what people don't realize. You're talking about like YouTubers and like, oh, they make all this money and they have all this success or whatever. And it's interesting. Like you're talking about, you know, making this video and sitting back and being like, wow, like, this is awesome. Like I'm
like
really
the
proud
message
of
of that
this.
video was like, don't settle. I'm like, hell yeah. That's, you know, man, it's pretty clear. Like I grew up listening to Colin Cowherd. Like it's undeniable. Like when I was a kid, my dad and I listened to him together. I stopped listening to him in like 2017 because I realized, oh my gosh, I got accused of copying him all the time. Yeah. And like, if I'm gonna get accused, at least I know I'm not listening to him because I know I'm not getting his influence. Yeah. But what I do love about his approach, and he doesn't own this, is making analogies and I really try to talk about stuff like life lessons and things I've learned and put that in my content, color that in because that's important. And I really don't just, I value that. I love that it's fun for me to share like, hey, if you hate your job, if your like relationship is not quite fulfilling or I've been to 4 different colleges. Like I left my college because it wasn't good for me and I transferred and found a better one that actually was a good fit for me. Like go get that. And so the lesson of Carson Palmer for me was like, dude, you hate him because he left. I love him because he left. He took a risk. And I was so, for me, like, that's what the story of that to me fires me up. I don't know if I make any sense.
No,
but
that makes 100%.
Like, that's what content is.
Because I feel like, you know, so many people, I feel like you talk about, I was watching this movie because I was watching my economics kids, The Founder, which is,
McDonald's.
Yeah. It's a good movie, but it's like, it's one of those things of like, you look at, like what he did and, you know, it's not that great, you know, like when he built something obviously that was like really great and stuff like that. But they were talking about the idea of like, you know, men like with talent, because this is like what they were saying is like a cliche and they don't utilize it or something like that. Like he was listening to like this phonograph. And I feel like it's one of those things that like the world that we live in, so many people are exactly what you're saying. They're going to jobs where they're unfulfilled. They're going and being in relationships where they're unfulfilled, or they're doing something, or they have a terrible home life or something like that. And I'm not saying go out and start a podcast and you're gonna be the happiest person in the world. You know, like there are days where I'm not a happy person. Like I have 56,000 subscribers.
Do you ever feel weird? Like, you know, where I have a day where I'm like depressed and it's like, I have everything. I have the best life. I have everything's amazing. And but that's just how life is. It's not about, you know, like. Yeah. I mean, like, you know, it's interesting because like yesterday, like I put out the XFL video and like, I literally, I go right where you are. I turn on the camera, come over here, turn on the audio, I clap, usually take like a breath and then I go into it. And like, I was editing it and I was watching it back. I looked freaking miserable, like in the beginning of that video, and that was like it wasn't on camera, it didn't go out into like the world or whatever. But like you see, like the guy sits in the chair, and goes, it's just like, like, and it's not because it wasn't because of the content or it wasn't because of the video, but just like I had a really rough day yesterday. Yeah, and like there are days like absolutely like depression and the whole 9 yards. But does for me, like, oh my, like that puts me in the zone. Like, let's go punch somebody. Let's knock this out of the park. Like the Grossi posse does it for me. Like it does. It gets you hyped. Like, let's go. And it makes you smile. Like it genuinely, like, people call what I do cringy. I don't care because it works for me and I love it. It's so much fun.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah. No, I get the cringe comment a lot. It's just like, it's so cringe. Like,
but you watch anyway.
Yeah, exactly. I'm like, thanks for the click, nerd. Like, yeah, it's great. But like, and that's one of those things. But what I was saying is like all these unfulfilled people, and you know, I think there's a line because like there's this pendulum in which you're talking about you can have a hobby, and so many people don't have hobbies because they're like, whatever situation I'm in is making me so miserable that I am not going out and doing like the one thing I enjoy. And sometimes it's video games. We were talking about this before. Yeah. Like I used to love playing video games, and now I don't get to play video games because like I just have no time.
Yeah.
And you know, it's one of those things that like you need to find something that makes you happy, and you don't necessarily even need to make a career out of it.
No,
but it's something that just makes you happy, and you look forward to doing it, and you look forward to like it. It's just like, you know what? I'm having a really crappy day at work, but you know what? When I get home, this is going to be enjoyable.
You know, I think that's when I got in your car, I was like, oh my gosh, I don't meet other YouTubers. I don't collaborate really ever. And it's not, I'm busy doing my own thing, right?
Sure.
And I got in your car and I was like, oh my gosh, I'm with a person for the first time in, I don't know how long, who understands what it's like. Who we have a kinship that I don't think many other people understand, you know? And like, I went to an ice skating rink in downtown Manhattan yesterday, and this guy we got s'mores. And the guy at the s'mores table was sitting there, and he literally worked like a 10-hour shift, and he goes, yeah, I watched the entire season of television today. And I don't understand that. Like when I worked at a car wash, a very similar job where like in Portland, if you work at a car wash where I live, it rains all December. So like I was the only guy at a car wash in the rain just collecting money on a laptop. And what I did was I wrote my videos, and I made Strong Opinion Sports from the car wash office waiting for cars to show up. And I don't understand the guy who just sits and watches Netflix all day. Like, I don't.
See, it's interesting because, like, I get what you're saying, but at the same time, like, if that's what gets them through that day, then I'm okay with it.
That makes sense. Okay.
Like, you know, like, you know what I mean? Like, and there's sometimes, like, it's weird. 2 years ago, I had never watched The Office. Never watched it. I literally have never watched an Office, and everyone's like, "Oh man, you know that episode from The Office?" And I'm like, "No," or I just pretended and was like, "Yeah, okay." Like I watched Parks and Rec and like whatever, but I never watched The Office. And now I'm on my third rewatch of The Office, so like that changed very quickly. And it's one of those things that there are times where like I would come home, and like I know I have to do a show. I just came home. I had a crappy day. I'm gonna sit down on the couch, and I would even say that I'm watching it. But I'm going to put on The Office, and I'm going to be like, I can relax. Like, I can relax for, like, it might only be 20 minutes, but I can relax for those 20 minutes. And, like, and I get what you're saying of just, like, you know, go and do and find something that makes you happy, whether it's playing a sport, whether it's, like, you know, going out to, like, a bar, or whether it's, like, you know, going to a coffee, whatever. Like, anything. Like, I think it's very sad, like, when you get to the point where you're just, like, I'm not saying everyone needs to be fulfilled with their jobs, but in your life, you need to find something that gives you fulfillment.
I'm really grateful. My dad taught me when I was a kid. He said, "Zach, enjoy your life. Like just whatever it is that takes to make that happen. Enjoy your life." And like, I think some people don't have permission. Like, it's okay to enjoy your life. It's okay to like the small moments. Like on the train today, like there's a really pretty white bridge. I'm sure have you ever in the train to like where you live? There's a pretty white bridge. I'm like, man, like. That's just a pretty bridge.
Like lots of strings and stuff.
Yeah, just like things like that. Like just enjoy the moment. Like enjoy the things you're doing, and like sometimes step back and smile about it. Like I think that's huge. That people often like I have no idea, but I think my guess is people often don't do that.
Well, I mean, like I'll admit I don't do that. Like there are times where like I'm putting my head down and I'm just like, just go, and they're like, "Oh, you went up 1,000 subscribers." I'm like, "Cool, like great, wonderful," because like I feel like there's. Like that's like that work ethic kind of thing. And like there are concerns that I have where, you know, and Jade and I have talked about this, where they're like, okay, like is there going to be a point where like you're satisfied? And like I'm looking at her and I'm like, no, shit, probably not. like it's not going to happen. Like I love like there's like this fantasy I have in my head where I don't have to work another job, in which I can get up. I can have a regimen in which like I'm going to work out from this time to this time. I'm going to wake up this time. I'm going to eat better. Like I'm going to do all this stuff, and then I'm going to do my show, and that's what I'm going to do. Like and not be late. But I want to do more. I just don't have time to do it in the day because I have another job. And you know what I mean? Like it's even if I get that, like there's still going to be that like, man, I should do 2 videos today. Like you know what I mean? Like
now I can do more. Like
yes,
And
I think that that's not healthy either, you know, to a point. But I think if you're going to be successful in whatever industry you're in, you kind of need to have that unhealthy drive to be like, this is what separates you from the people that try it for 6 months and then they quit. You know, if they're saying like, this isn't working out. I did this for 2 years and I don't think anyone would say this was working out. I did it for 3 years and I don't think anyone would say this was working out, but I just kept doing it.
I remember working at a car wash, getting made fun. Like, people from high school would come through. That's a loser who makes YouTube videos.
Yeah.
Like,
yep.
You know, and I get it. I'm getting like 13 views working at a car wash, making videos no one's watching.
Yep.
But I was like, but I think it's fun. I enjoy it. So like, who cares if no one? That's the key. Like, John Harbaugh, I think, would coach football whether he got paid $10 an hour or millions of dollars. Right. Yeah. It's the same way with the show. Like, if in fact, I stopped playing college football. Like, I had to make a choice, and you know, I could go back, and I still could go play college football. But it's like,
sure.
I actually enjoy making content way more than I enjoy playing quarterback. And this is what I just am so passionate about.
And it gives you that perspective too. Like, that's why it's a unique perspective too, especially when you're breaking down like QBs, because you're just like, I did this. Like, this is what you did. You
also,
know?
man, it's so huge to be, I'm so grateful for the XFL because it's, I have access. Like, it's really cool. Like, if I'm going to criticize Jim Zorn, well, I look him in the eye. I literally like, and when you have that moment, like, I really, really struggle. And I wanted to go here at some point in this conversation. It's like, we talk about athletes, but they're human beings. They are people. They're like you and I. They have a cool job, but they go home to work at night. They're still people. And you see a lot of the media just dehumanizes them completely. 100%. Or makes grand assumptions. I make assumptions, but I say it's an assumption. It's a theory.
Correct.
And I'm comfortable with that.
Yeah.
But I even would say, like, I'm uncomfortable with some of the things people say in the media. I'm like, ooh, like, that's just... that's weird. That's
messed up. Like they go after like Aaron Rodgers and his family, like that kind of stuff, like the dynamic. And I'm just like,
dude, I hate Aaron Rodgers' family.
Dude,
I'm gonna say I think they're awful to him.
I do too.
I really think they like
his brother on The Bachelor. Like, you know, But like, you know what? Like, that's one of those things that if someone put out a piece and was like, we're gonna talk about Zac Shomler's family, I'm like, I have zero interest in that. Like, and then like when they talk about like Aaron,
it's a cheap shot.
But it's not even that. It's one of those things that it's just like, I recognize that these people have personal lives that I don't need to be involved in.
Yeah.
And like, they are there for my entertainment from August all the way over until like, you know, January, hopefully February. And like, and I'm okay with that. But you're 100% correct that like, there's this like line and social media doesn't help it. You know, in which it's just like, I need to know what's going on with this person every single day. And like, vloggers do that. And like, that's what, and people have been like, you know, Tom, you should vlog. And I'm just like, it's like that weird, like, I don't disagree, but at the same time, like, you know, there needs to be that little bit of a barrier to be like, there's some things that you shouldn't say.
Also, I think if you're going to vlog the interesting moments.
Yes.
Vlogging every day not every day is interesting. No. You know, when I go to I really actually want to make a vlog when I go to Lambeau Field. I think it'd be really fun. Like, that's a trip that I want to share with the world. But I shouldn't vlog a regular Tuesday. No. But people do vlog the regular, and it's a war of escalation where it just gets increasingly more. Oh, I have to build a crazy ballroom. We got to do this and that. It's not healthy and it's weird.
Or it's like we were talking about Philip before. It's just like, oh crap, there's nothing interesting about this transition shot, drone shot. Like, you know what I mean? Like, it's just trying to like make this seem interesting. And like, you know, we're kind of like dancing around this topic too. Like, there are days like where I'm grossly like unhappy. Like, it happens. Like, it 100% happens. And, you know, and there's times where like I'm streaming. Like, I streamed half of an XFL game. Like, when the week 1, I had bronchitis, I was sick, but I was like, oh my God, I have to stream. Yeah. I had half a game, and I'm just like, I'm miserable. Like, I literally stopped at halftime, and I almost never stopped streaming. I'm like, I can't. Like, I'm sick, I'm miserable, I'm not having a good time, I'm not invested in this because I'm so sick, and I can't even watch this. Yeah. And plus, it was like a Guardians game that was terrible. But like, it was like all
I've never
those
seen
things.
A team that's more of a mess than that team.
Yeah, it's a pretty bad team. At least the Vipers like did something this past week.
Dude, can I just, you know, if I may go into that for a second, it's crazy to me like how people don't understand what happens behind. Like, they just blame Matt McGloin. Yeah. And it is so much not Matt McGloin's fault. Like, the protection's terrible. Mm-hmm. There was a moment in the last game where the New York Guardians had 7 men protecting. Mm-hmm. The team brought a 5-man rush, and immediately
still got there.
2 guys, not even one, 2 guys were immediately in Matt McGloin's face. It's like, that's just a breakdown. You can't coach that. And then let alone, it's 3rd and 4.
Yep.
and all 3 receivers are running verticals. It's like, why is there nothing underneath? They're playing man coverage. They're not. It's like, it's
run a damn slant.
It's a terrible play call. It's bad protection, and you blame the quarterback. It's like, I think they're literally aimlessly calling plays. And that's what I mean when, like I say, some analysis isn't opinion. It's just fact.
Yeah.
It's terrible. Like, that's not, it just is a mess. They're just a nightmare. And then Matt McGloin's body language is awful. I'm going on a rant, but it's like, I've never seen a more just mess of a football team than the New York Guardians. Yeah. It's awful.
Well, I mean, like, and it's funny because, like, you look at, like, Aaron Rodgers, who, like, as a Packers fan, like, I will marry you. But, like, I will also say, like, he missed throws. Like, this season, he missed. There were some amazing throws that he made, and you're just like, holy crap. Like, that one to Jamal Williams in the back of the end zone at the Chiefs game. Like, that's a disgusting throw. Like, it was just disgusting. But corner of the end zone, amazing.
Yeah.
But then there's throws where, like, he's missing wide open guys, or he's missing reads. Like, you know, he's not taking the underneath route, or he's trying to force something. And, like, I'm okay with going, like, Aaron Rodgers missed a throw.
Yeah.
Aaron Rodgers didn't do this well. And I'm not, and like people were like, well, I'd like to see you. No, I'm not saying I cannot do that.
Or you get called a hater.
Yes.
And like being honest isn't hating it. I've really tried to work hard to color my criticism in a way that like, this is what they need to work on.
Yeah.
Let's put a positive spin. Like Jordan Ta'amu, the quarterback in St. Louis, really struggles picking up blitzes. So like he panics, he tries to run away rather than just sitting in the pocket, throwing the ball underneath. Take what the defense gives you on a blitz. And I could say, he's terrible, he sucks. Or I can say, well, there's hope, though. We can fix this.
Sure.
And if you put that spin on it, like, it's not the end of the world. It's people a fixable mistake.
Okay.
And I don't have a favorite team. I literally don't. And people don't understand, like, you hate this, you hate that. I don't hate anybody. I want everyone to succeed. I'd love to see, but not every team going undefeated. Not every team can win. So, you know, I don't know.
Yeah, no, I hear you. No, I mean, like, and that's just like the nuances of doing it, right? Like, that's just the nuances of trying to navigate this ridiculous internet and like trying to do stuff that you still stay true to yourself and not giving into the clickbait and not giving into, you know, what other analysts are saying and stuff like that. Like, you know, it's a lot of this stuff. Like, you know, they're like, oh, did you hear what Skip Bayless said? I'm like, no, I have never watched Skip Bayless in my life. I've seen clips like on like Twitter or something like that. Like of him throwing out like a jersey in the garbage, but I've never sat down and watched it and it's not because I'm a hater. It's because of just like you said before, like I don't need any influence, even subconsciously, of me just going, well, like, all right, well, I'm going to use this. I'm going to take that lazy branch and just be like, okay, well, I'm going to say this because I'm just going to repeat what I heard.
I heard something, and I don't know what to do with this information, but I was at the Seattle Dragons game last week. Yeah. And we're in the press conference, and the press conference ends, and we're leaving, and this guy comes up to me and goes, why don't you live stream this? And I said, well, like, I really, like, when I have NFL players come over to my house, sometimes I record them, sometimes I don't, but I don't want to live stream that in case they say something bad, and it's like, hey, man, we should cut that out, because it really doesn't help you. Like, I don't want to hurt your brand. I want to be positive for the player.
Sure.
And this guy goes, well, you should live stream that. Like, they're fair game. Like, oh, people aren't fair game. That's the worst way to look at it. Like, they're a human being.
Correct.
You don't want to ruin their life. Correct. Like that kind of should matter.
Yeah.
And that approach, that's where I really struggle with journalism in school is I call myself a storyteller, not a journalist. And I know I do some stuff that is journalism.
Sure.
But I like the stories and I don't want to ruin people's lives.
I find it like unnecessary. Like there are people who like legitimately hate Tom Brady. Like hate.
I know, it's so
like,
weird.
And I mean like hate.
Yeah. And they think he's like a bad person too.
Yes. Well, because it's not just like, oh, your team beats my football team. No. It's like I like actually strongly dislike him as a person.
Yeah.
And I'm like, you don't know him. And like I don't know him. I can criticize his play all day long. Yeah. Or I could be upset that he beat the Packers.
Yeah.
But like for me to be like, I hate that complete piece of garbage. Like, what?
Yeah.
Like, calm the hell down. Like, that was one of the things that, like, this happens, you know, I'm going to call you out, Jets fans. Like, I went to a Packers game years ago. It was like the worst game. It was 9-0 was the final score. Yeah. It was miserable. I went there and it was my brother and I. And we go in there and as soon as, like, my brother was young at that point. Yeah. So he's younger than me. By 8 years. So like he was young and it was just him and I and a Jets fan turns around and he literally just like says like, go fuck yourself. And I was like, okay, whatever. New York.
Wow, what a great conversation.
Yeah, whatever. And then as Aaron Rodgers like takes the field like to go on offense, like there's people screaming like break his neck. And I'm like, what the hell is wrong with you? Like, that's the thing too. Like, there are people that, like, even when I'm live streaming and like we're playing like the Vikings or something like that, and like someone gets like Stephon Diggs like goes down or whatever,
and they're celebrating.
Yeah, and they're just like, yeah, and I'm like, no, because like that's a human, like that's a person, and like listen, if that person is hurt, is that going to help my team? Absolutely. Am I going to cheer for that? Absolutely not.
Yeah.
Because again, that's a person who may have just like lost a whole bunch of money because like, you know, their leg is like completely and totally screwed
their career
up,
might be over.
Yeah. And I think like that's where this difference is, because like we've turned it into, it is this spectacle, and like you said, we've dehumanized it as a whole. You know, and I don't know where, I don't know if it was like the big hits and like we were celebrating it because like they were exciting and stuff like that. You know, but like there's a part of me, like when like a Bears, you know, guy goes down, I'm looking at it and I'm like, I hope he's okay. Like, I hope that person is okay. Yeah. And if that means that Khalil Mack comes in on the next drive and sacks Aaron Rodgers, you know what? The offensive line should have been better. Yeah. You know, or Rodgers should have gotten rid of the ball. Like, I'm not going to hate that person because of whatever.
Hating Tom Brady is weird to me because I think it's so bizarre. We know him as what he is now. Yeah. We know him as the guy who drives Aston Martins and he's super successful, but he wasn't always. No. He was nobody.
6th round pick.
And like, I actually think that's incredibly inspiring. A guy that wasn't, look, Tom Brady doesn't have a great arm. He's really good now, but when he came out of college, had a very average arm, had really bad footwork. Yeah. Had no idea, didn't know, I think, how to read a defense. And you can tell a lot about a person and who they are as a person by the way they play, because you can see like, oh, Tom Brady's really well prepared, or his arm got better over the course of his career. Like, he's better now at 40 whatever than he was when he was coming out of college. Yeah. His footwork's better. Like, he works his butt off, and that says a lot about him as a person as well. Like, Joe Burrow is so well prepared. Yeah. You can hate him as much as you want, but I think I really respect a lot of the stuff he does. I think it's weird. Like, Tom Brady's the American dream. Yeah. Tom Brady's the guy who was nobody who made it. Like, people have Conor McGregor because he was a plumber, and now he's at 100. Yeah. Tom Brady's the same way, and we forget where he came from. It's like, he wasn't a number one pick. He wasn't given the world.
No. And I completely agree. The wife's home. That's why they're barking. But it's all right. I can't wait to meet Jay. Yes! These mics don't pick up anything except like right here. I actually do want to check super quick.
Yeah.
To swap this out. No, I love this battery.
That's awesome.
So great. Yeah. I think like you hit the nail on the head, because it's funny. Like, you support those people, like, you know, that come from nothing up until the point where you're just like, well, now they have everything, so now I don't like them, and you're just like it's inspiring. What do you want? Yeah, it should be.
If you look at it that, like, hating people that are successful is so weird to me, because like, don't you want to be successful? Like, man, I don't know. Like, I just look at Tom Brady, I'm like, I would love to do what he's done. To be like, I was a guy at the car wash. I'd love to be like, become Colin Cowherd. That'd be awesome.
Yeah, that'd be amazing.
Yeah.
No, I think it's, you know, I think it's just kind of like programmed. And again, some of it is fun, like banter or whatever. Like, I hate you, Tom Brady, because I'm a Dolphins fan and you make my life miserable. Like, 100%.
It makes sense if you beat your team, like, for sure.
I get it. Like, listen, I understand, and this was like a weird thing for me. Like, there was a time before I did this show, I'm like, good God, why do people hate the Packers? Like, I love them. They're so wholesome. They're a small town. They're community owned. Like, why could, like, Brett Favre literally like was like I idoled him. Like, he was my idol, like, growing up. And then I started interviewing people, and I started interviewing Vikings fans twice a year, and Bears fans and Lions fans. And they're like, you make the playoffs every year.
We're jealous.
We haven't made the playoffs in like a decade.
The Lions.
And
I feel bad. I feel so.
Yeah. That's what they said. When everyone asked me, they're like, if you had to have a division rival win the division, who would it be? It's the Lions. Because like, at that point, like, I just don't care. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I feel bad. I don't want them to beat the Packers, obviously. But like, it's one of those things where you look at it and I was like, wow, like, I get it. Because if like my team was losing to, like, you know, first of all, we get 2 Hall of Famers back to back. Yeah. And if my team is losing for like a decade and we have like an 8-8 record, you know, maybe a 9-7 season, and that's it, and we don't make the playoffs or make the playoffs once in a decade, you're just like, yikes. Like, it's drastically less fun.
Well, also, like, if Patriots fans gloat, but that's not Tom Brady. That's Patriots fans being a-holes. Like, yes. But I get why you would hate that. You'd be like, when Tom Brady succeeds, these people give me noise. I hate that. Yes. Oh, of course that makes sense.
Makes sense. Yeah, that correlation. But yeah, I mean, like, it opened my eyes a lot, and I want to say, like, it made me definitely more a humble fan. And it actually made me more appreciative of, like, the football team that I support, because and you saw this too. Like those 2 years when we missed the playoffs, recently we just got back to the playoffs, and those 2 years where we missed the playoffs, like I feel like that was a good shot of humility for a lot of the fan base. And like there were boos at Lambeau Field.
Yeah.
The fan base was booing the Green Bay Packers.
Can I ask you a question about fandom? Because I was a Mariners fan growing up. I was a little kid.
Okay.
And the Seattle Mariners repeatedly traded away players that I was like, that's a bad move.
Yeah.
I was like 11 and I was like, keep Eric Bedard, keep this guy, the Eric Bedard trade, they traded for this pitcher. They got rid of Adam Jones. This is like their best prospect. He goes to the Baltimore Orioles, is like a 10-year all-star star. And they got this pitcher who was awful.
Yeah.
And that was the straw that broke the camel's back. I was like, I can't do this anymore. Yeah. But there were so many trades where they'd get rid of a player I liked who was good. And he would go somewhere else, become an all-star. And what they got was crap. And I was like, okay, I'm 11 and I refuse to support this team anymore. Like I don't agree and I have no control.
Yeah.
And I've never, ever since that day, I've not been a fan of any. I don't have a favorite team because I don't get it.
Yeah.
I don't get why Bengals fans support Mike Brown, who is awful, who still won't hire a general manager. Like every time you buy a jersey or go to a game, you're supporting a bad owner. Mm-hmm. I never understand that. Like, what is it like to support a team when you don't agree with stuff?
Look at like all the stuff like with Dan Snyder, and like look at like the field is terrible, the parking is terrible, like the seats, the stadium is falling apart, like you know, and how they treat players, who have cancer, and like look how they're treating players. Yeah, like I get that, and like my uncle is from Colorado, and when I first started this show, he's a very similar way. Like he supported like the Broncos because he was in Colorado and what have you, and like Peyton Manning and stuff, but he said like, why do you support a team? Because they don't give you anything. Like that team doesn't care about you. Yeah. Like they don't. And it's funny because as time went on, then like the Packers were like, you can interview the president. And like, I had so many opportunities because of that. And then like I turned to him and I was like, it looks like they care about me now. Like that, like it was like that weird thing. Yeah. But like, like I feel like there are people out there, like 100, like what you said, of just like, I'm not going to be a fan. Because like, that doesn't get me anything. And it's like, I see my favorite players traded away. Like, I get that. I get the non-fan of just like the casual enjoyer of the sport. Yeah.
I remember the national championship game was so fun because I don't care Clemson or LSU. Like, but I really enjoy Joe Burrow. I actually usually pick people. I root for people rather than teams. And watching Joe Burrow dominate was so much fun. Me and my dad, all my friends were in a room, we were having pizza, watching Joe Burrow make throw after throw. And I'm like, man, like, it's the best season of all time. It was cool for me. And I think people are more compelling to me than an organization or a brand.
Well, because people, the jerseys change. Yeah. Right? Like, Brett Favre.
Awesome.
My man. Went to the Jets. Hate the Jets. Still support him. Yeah. Went to the Vikings. The Minnesota Vikings for 2 years. Woo! And that first year, he kicked my team's ass. Right? And like, I sat there and I was watching that NFC Championship game against the Saints. And while I wanted the Saints to win because I hate the Vikings, I was like, if he gets another ring, I'm going to be happy for him. I'm not going to be happy with the Vikings and that garbage organization, and I hope they remain at 0 forever. But I will be happy for Brett Favre.
I was on a plane in Minneapolis, and there was a Packers fan, and the flight attendant was a Bears fan, and then there was the guy behind the Packers fan was a Vikings fan. And so the smack talk was so much fun. And it's
amazing.
I've been in New York for a couple days. They're mean. Like no. The people are not mean. The people, like, New Yorkers are busy. Yeah. So they're, like, in a hurry to get somewhere. Don't bother them. But they're not mean people. But the way the sports trash talk between Yankees fans and Red Sox fans is, like, brutal.
Oh, no,
it's
like, mean.
Oh, my gosh.
Yeah.
The banter in the Midwest between the Bears and the, like, oh, you dumb Bears fans. Like, and it's silly and it's fun. It's very lighthearted, and I love it.
The charity that we just raised money for in Minnesota, I was on the phone with them today. Oh, not today. 2 days ago. I called them up and I was like explaining. I was like, hey, like, you don't know who I am. I'm just doing this on GoFundMe. Yeah. We raised $3,000 for you. And she takes all my information. She takes everything. And then I'm like, don't ask. And she goes, so why us? And I'm like, and I was like, okay, I'm a Packers fan. And she just goes, oh. And like, I explained like the whole thing to her and she's just like, okay. Like, it's like one of those things. But like, if I was like a Yankees fan and I like called and was doing this for like a Boston charity, they're like, we don't want your money. Like I just like hang up and just like, well, we're actually going out of business and we'd rather do that than take your money. It's interesting. Like, cause I see that too. Cause I'm like, I go to Wisconsin a lot. Yeah. Like, and I do run into a variety of different fans and things like that. And it's funny to see like the the levity that's kind of like added to it, where like, yes, you will see something different here on the
It's very wholesome and fun. What's it like to interview Ted Thompson? What is that?
I don't know. Mark Murphy.
Mark Murphy. Why Ted Thompson? What is it like to interview Mark Murphy? That's crazy to me.
Yeah. The story's crazier because he does, people kept asking me like, how the hell did you get this interview?
Was he a fan? Is that like,
no. He does, on Packers.com, he takes fan questions, and every month he answers 5 fan questions. So you email this email, and then like there's an article that comes out. 5 questions. On New Year's Eve, just at the end of my first season, 5,000 people total have watched my show. I emailed that email and said, hey, Tom Grossi, have a Packers podcast named Packast. We have people who listen all around the world. Technically true. Because they were from all around the world.
Technically true.
You know, was wondering, because I go to training camp a bunch, was wondering if he'd sit down for an interview. Gets back to me within 3 hours and goes, absolutely, here's my secretary's information. And I was just like, holy shit. So, I didn't think it was going to be real, because I always thought that they were going to cancel. Because like, I did this in December.
Yeah.
The interview wasn't until August, because that's when training camp is.
A lot of time to say no.
So I'm like, that's a lot of time to say no. And so I reach out to the secretary. She's like, email me when we get closer so I can actually put it on the books, because no one's booking 8 months in advance. It's like, okay. Yeah. So like I email in like June. I'm like, hey, back again. Yep, 100%. Just come in, whatever. Night before, I'm like, no way. I'm gonna email.
Yeah.
It doesn't work. Show up to the stadium. They're like, oh, Tom Grossi. Yep, here's a pass. I go upstairs. I'm sitting. I go like to like the secure. I take the secure elevator. I go to the I think it was like the third floor. I go on there and I'm sitting there. Mike McCarthy walks past me, and I'm sitting in this little like love seat with like my equipment next to me, waiting to go into a room to set up my stuff. And I look at him, and he looks at me, and I'm just like, "Good morning, coach." He goes, "Good morning," and like he walks past me. I'm like, like I am dying on the inside. The secretary is sitting there, and like I turn to her and I'm like, I just have to tell this to somebody. Like, it is taking all of my strength right now not to freak out that I just saw Mike McCarthy. She's like, please don't freak out. And I was like, oh no, I won't. But like, I'm just letting you know. And she like looked at me weird. The Dom Capers walked by, and I'm like, whew. She's like, all right, we set up this room for you. So I set up this room for you. I talked to him for 90 minutes.
Wow.
An hour and a half. I broke up into 2 episodes.
Wow.
And he told me stories how the Redskins, because he played and and he played in the Super Bowl and won a Super Bowl, and how the Redskins, because back in the day you literally had to like wait by your phone for a team to call you during the draft. And what the Redskins did is they took him. They said that they were going to draft him, and they took him out the day of the draft and like drove him around. They like went and did like activities around just so other teams couldn't call him, and then so he didn't get drafted. And then the Redskins gave him an offer as an undrafted player. So like they completely screwed him over. And so like he's like telling me this, and I'm just like sitting back, and I'm just like, wow. I think the most exciting thing for me, and this is gonna sound really stupid, they're like, do you need water? Sure. Give me a water bottle. It has a Green Bay Packer logo on it. It's a plastic water bottle, and it's like, I don't even remember the company. It's like some regular, it's not even Poland Spray, it's like some regular brand, but it has a Packer logo on it. And I'm like, I'm gonna keep this for the rest of my life. Like, and I did. I cut off the wrapper, and I literally had it in that box over there.
That's cool.
And that's one of those things, like, just to sit there and do that. Like, he's a normal dude. Like, and I think and he's so open and so warm. And like, every time I see him, like, he's like, hey, Tom, like, he remembers me. The second time that I interviewed him, he was very open because it was in the middle of what was going on with the protesting of the national anthem. We talked very candidly about that. And like, it was just one of those things of like, you're talking about players being humans. It was the same exact thing for him. And Mark Murphy is one of those guys. He takes a lot of crap, especially from the fan base. But I mean, like, he is one of the most genuine guys. He literally just walks around the atrium where you can walk, and like you go to the pro shop and stuff. And he just like, and you can see Mark Murphy, and you're just like, oh, hey, Mark.
Yeah.
And like, that's it. And like, he'll pose for like pictures or whatever. And it was pretty surreal. Like, I was skipping.
It gives you perspective though, because like, when you interact with someone who you talk about on the show, it's you go, oh, they're people, and it just humanizes everybody.
It does.
And it's, I think, what I want to understand, if people that meet athletes that still talk about them in a dehumanizing way. How do you do that? That's what I don't get.
That's tough, yeah.
Because I know that like Stephen A. Smith has met people. How does he still talk about them the way he does? I'm like, I don't understand that at all.
Yeah.
It's weird to me.
Well, I think it's because you have like two things. One, like as fans, you watch and you glorify them, right? They're put on a pedestal, right? If Aaron Rodgers walked in right now, I would do I'd be professional still, right? Like I would do an interview with him. Like it would be like, what have you. As soon as I'm done, I'm dying. Like literally, like I'm dying in my car. I'm like screaming, like whatever. But like in that case though, it does, I don't want to say like brings down the hype a bit, but like it like you said, it puts it in perspective of like, this is another human being. I'm talking to them. They have the same or like similar wants and needs and fears and what have you. And like, they're doing a job and they're just people, you know? And I think that, I think there's something awesome about that because like what I've learned from doing my show, because I haven't interviewed a lot of athletes. I haven't reached out, honestly. And I just haven't, even if I could get them, I haven't reached out. But like, it's talking to the people who are supposed to be like, I'm going to say enemy to make it more sound dramatic than it actually is, but like people who are not supposed to like me. Like I do the Vikings and the Bears and the Lions fans. And I can't tell you how much like we are laughing our asses off like on this show. Like I am still great friends with some of the people that I've met on this show, and we text and like laughing around. We bust each other's balls all the time, you know. And it's just one of those things that, you know, it kind of brings the sports whole like bringing unity and like bringing people together and just being like, listen, like you're rooting for that team, I'm rooting for this team, but like we can still have a great time. And I think what's made that different for me is considering the climate that we're in which things are like so politically charged. I had people who watched the protest video. I put out a protest video of what, like when people were protesting, and I said that I support them kneeling. I said I support freedom of speech. I'd like, you know, I know many veterans, and you know that's how I feel. Yeah. That's how I believe. And there were people that unsubscribed, and there's people who left comments that were nasty and were like, screw you, you know, liberal, whatever.
Yeah.
And like I didn't say any of that. I was just like, I support them because like we live in America, and there are some of my biggest fans who we are completely on opposite sides of the political spectrum, complete opposites. I talk to them on the phone, like we talk constantly, and they're some of my biggest supporters, and like they're my friends. And I think like that's one of those things that gets lost. And I don't know if that's because of like, I'm not blaming the big bad internet, but like that's one of those things of just like, I don't like this person, right? Or like Rob, because they believe something different than me. And like you meet them or you talk to them and you're like, they're just like me.
I think there's two big problems here. One is that like, first, not problem, but talking points I would say is like, number one, part of what makes sports so cool is that it's a unifier. It doesn't matter where you come from or who you are. Hey, you like football or you like the Packers or you like this thing. Like it's common ground with hopefully anybody. Hopefully if you watch, like, I don't really understand people that hate the XFL because it's like, it's football. And if you love football, it's fun to watch for me. Right. But the other thing is that like, I don't know where I was going. It's, what was the last thing you said? The,
political spectrum, bringing people together, but like you just talk to them and we're all the same.
Yeah. So I think it's interesting when people don't listen.
Yes.
They'll just hate you based on a thumbnail or based on a headline or based on one sentence and not hear out everything else. I know people hate me, and it's like, sometimes like, I wish you would listen to what I have to say. Cause I think sometimes what I'm saying is reasonable and they still hate me because they didn't actually take the time to hear what I was saying. Yeah. And there's a gigantic thing in our culture where we rush to hate or rush to an opinion rather than listen. Yes. And it's the same in the media. It's the same with fans. Everybody, I think, whether you're covering or listening to people covering, everyone should just ingest, listen to fully, and then form your opinion.
Well, we wait for them to finish talking so we can respond. You know what I mean? Like, I feel like it's a lot of that, in which someone could say, here's why I think the way that I think, and you're completely blocking it out, and you're just like, I can't wait to rip you apart when you're done talking. And I feel like
you hear that one phrase, it grabs your attention, and you don't,
and you're just like, I'm done. Like you see red and you're done. Yeah, and I think that's a bit of a lost art. I mean, like, so for and to talk about that on a completely different level, I watched a Joe Rogan podcast actually, and it was with Daryl Dix, who is the guy who de-radicalized KKK members. So he is a black man, and he went in, and the way that he de-radicalized them is had a conversation with them. Like he literally talked to them and became their friends. Yeah. And they were like, oh, like, you know, you're a normal person, like, you know, what have you. And I'm not saying it's like as crazy as like racial tensions or anything like that, but I think, given the climate and given everything that we're living in, I think, like you said, like we just need to talk to people more and actually listen and actually converse with them, because you'll find that even if this person doesn't vote for the person that you would vote for or what have you as different beliefs, they probably have a lot of the same fears and concerns and what have you, and still want the best for them and their family and what have you. And, there's people that support me. And again, they're completely different in my like political ideology, but like I will happily, take them and then be like, yeah, like let's have
a conversation, because it's totally okay to have disagreement is not a bad thing.
Correct.
And we act like it is, and it's
yes.
not. It's okay to have a conversation and even hear other sides to opposing arguments. Like that's huge.
Yep.
It's why if you think you're like super right about something, you should be willing to listen, because at the very least, all it does is gives you counterpoints that strengthen your argument. And maybe you're wrong, and listening will help you learn, oh my gosh. For example, when you called me out about the Aaron Rodgers thing, the only reason I learned from that is because I was willing to listen to your criticism and go, oh yeah, like you're right, let me do more research. If I'd said, screw you, Tom, you're wrong, I'm right, and wasn't open to hearing that, I think my show would, it was a huge step in my evolution, was that moment when you said, hey, and I was like, oh yeah, like, he's a person, like,
yeah. Well, and I think like, you're 100% correct. I think it's just a matter of, whether it's a conversation with somebody or, getting out of that echo chamber, right? And like you said, even if you think you're 100% correct, or even if you're just like, hey, this is wrong, right?
Yeah.
Maybe try to get, and like, listen, there are some crappy people in the world that think some crappy things, and like that's never going to change, and you can't save everybody, and it's never going to happen.
Yeah.
That, as a teacher and as an educator, that sometimes is very difficult for me, because I'm like, I want to help that person, I want to like see them. We were talking about fan interactions. I had a quote unquote fan 2 weeks ago. It's 10 o'clock at night. I'm sitting there on my phone. He DMs me. We're obviously not following each other, and he DMs me the N-word twice, like just out of the blue. And most people will be like, delete, block, report, what have you. I hit accept, and I go, why do you think that this is okay? And I said, are you doing this just to get a reaction? Are you just trying to elicit a response? Do you do this to other people? And if you do, you shouldn't be doing this. And if you're just trolling just to troll, you should do it in a different way. That's my opinion.
Yeah.
And he's like, oh, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to. And I was like, I don't really know about that. And he goes, no, I'm a big fan. I'm like, you know what? I got to say, if you were a fan, you wouldn't be saying the things that you said. And I said, and I hope that, you take this, you might not, and I can't force you to maybe get out of that ignorance and maybe kind of look at it and see why that's such a problem of what you're doing. And that was it. And I deleted it, and that was that. And like, listen, that person is probably still doing it. I'm not saying like I changed the world, like I put on my superhero cape and stuff like that. But I feel like, if it's something as extreme as that, you can listen to somebody who has a different opinion than you.
You're a teacher, like by trade. Yeah. And I would imagine, so I'm about to say something that I would guess you struggle with. There are moments in my life where I'm like, I just can't help this person. Like, and sometimes you have all the answers and they aren't willing. They don't want to grow. They don't want to change. They're not open to it. And you can only help people that want help.
Correct.
Do you run into that all the time in your profession?
All the time.
It's got to be heartbreaking, right?
It's absolutely.
Because you're like, man, like, oh.
And there's times where like I look at a kid, and I've been in these situations where they're like, this kid is terrible. Like I've had to admit, like grown ass adults, administrators, to be like, this is a terrible kid. Like not saying like academically, like this is just a bad kid. And for me, I've never said that about a student ever.
Yeah.
Because
it's unfair.
For me, one, it's unfair, especially for a new teacher to like walk in a building and you're telling me that this is a terrible kid. Like,
let me form my own opinion.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And like, listen, I might come to the same exact conclusion, but like, wow, that's a piece of, like, that kid is terrible.
Yeah.
But I mean, like there are some people that you just can't help, and there are some people that don't want it, and I think that there's some that turn around and say like, you know what, I do need help, and I've had a lot of that, and those successes are amazing and they're wonderful. But I feel like a lot of the time, like you look at like those movies where they're just like, I touched that kid's heart, and he became the Blind Side. Like, you know what I mean? Like you look at those, and listen, there are some times where that has happened. Like there are kids that I've connected with, right, who, I'm not giving away anything, like that have really grown and have used me as like a buoy and been like, I need support because I'm not getting it at home, or I'm not getting it in school because I don't have a friend group or what have you. And I usually gravitate towards those kids because like that was me in high school.
Yeah.
I didn't have a lot of friends. I've had the same best friends in second grade. And that's it.
That's cool.
And that's it. High school, I can't tell you. I don't talk to anybody except that one kid that I've talked to. And like college, I still talk to some college friends, but like, and that's it. And, and you look at it from that sense. So like, I see myself in those kids and I'm like, I'm going to help this kid. And, and that's great. And that's very fulfilling. And that's what I like about teaching.
Dude, if I may, that's what I just realized. That's what I do with my quarterback analysis videos is I try to put myself in Jordan Thomas' shoes. Yeah. If I was Baker Mayfield, if I was this like, cause they're just people that like you want to succeed like you. And I make a video about Baker Mayfield and I hope he watches. I hope he listens to it. Like, hey, you got to be better footwork. You got to have this, you got to have that. Like, I don't know. Like, I never thought about it that way, but that's exactly what it is. It's like you have to put yourself in their shoes and see yourself in them and their story and their journey.
Well, I think, and that's one of the big problems with education today is you have people who are in there and it's very traditional, meaning that I'm the teacher. So because I'm the teacher, you have to listen and you have to respect me. I have never walked into a classroom and said that. Some kids have asked me, and like I'm messing around with them obviously, but like I'll give them an essay and they're like, do I have to do this? I'm like, technically no. Like, I mean, you're gonna get a zero. But like I said, I can't force you to do anything. And I feel like, being real with the kids is one of those things that one doesn't happen very often. And I've worked in a few schools now that doesn't happen very often. And the kids gravitate towards that and they respect you because of that. Because I'm looking at that 13-year-old, and a lot of people are saying that 13-year-old's voice does not matter. Yeah. I'm not trying to be like dramatic and like poetic. I'm like literally saying like you're 13 years old, you're too young to know about the world, you don't know what you're talking about, you're uneducated, what have you. I'm like, bullshit. Absolutely not. Because that 13-year-old has experiences that I might not even have gone through and knows more about some things that I don't even know about. So absolutely that kid's voice matters.
Teaching and coaching, I think, are very similar. I mean, they really cross over so much. Coaches always talk about wanting to hire teachers, right?
Yeah.
The Dallas Renegades love Bob Stoops, their head coach. And part of it is there was a guy who in college had a coach who he despised and didn't get along with him. And he was talking about Bob Stoops, and we were talking about it. And he said, we respect Bob Stoops because he earned our respect. He didn't assume it. He didn't tell us what to do day one. Like he said, look, I'm your boss, but you have to trust me and I have to earn your trust. And there was a really interesting question. Honestly, I think a terrible question. This guy in the press conference last week said like, how do you view mentorship in the XFL? And Bob Stoops said, dude, I'm dealing with grownups and professionals. Like Landry Jones doesn't need a mentor. No. He's an adult. He's got a family. Like, so he talked about how he treats his play. And he's like, look, I want to be a good example in everything I do for sure. But it's not my role to do that. Yeah. And it's just, I mean, I really struggled in college. I hated college like tremendously. And it's because professors would say, do this. And I was like, just because you say it? Like,
why?
Yeah. And they hated why. And they thought I was disrespectful for asking why. And it's like
talking back.
And I think to some degree, like I was immature and should have listened to what they said. And like, I had to know my place too. I'm the student. My job is to do what they tell me. But I really butted heads, especially media professors. I'm like, I'm working for ESPN this weekend and you're telling me to do this. And ESPN would say, do the opposite. I really butted heads with that, and I hated it, man. It drove me nuts.
Yeah, well, I think that's one of the reasons too. Like, I have I've taught, and sometimes like I've taught like the same topic over and over and over again. But like, there are times where kids will be like, "Is this a thing?" And I'm like, "I don't know." Like, but like, let's find out. Like, like that's one of those things that there's so many people that just like BS the kids. And they're like, "Oh yeah," or "No," and or like, and that's the thing that frustrates me because like if you listen. I've taught every grade 9 through 12 at this point. I student taught 7th grade, wanted to die, but I taught 9 through 12. And even those freshmen who come in and they're super immature, or even the sophomores who are super immature because now they think they're better than freshmen and what have you, like that kid, right? If you treat them, and this is like not some crazy ideology, if you treat them like an adult, and say like, not as like, you know everything, but like you treat them as like a human being as an adult in which you have candid conversations with them and say, listen, this is why you're doing this. Like, how many times I've said, I'm like, listen, you may hate this right now. The reason that you are sitting here right now and you're writing that DBQ is so you're not sitting here again next year because you didn't pass the Regents or because you didn't pass this exam. That's why I'm giving this to you.
Explain value.
Yeah. That's what it is. And I think that there's such a lacking of that context of why is this happening. And like, you see this in management, you see this, it's not just a teaching thing.
Yeah.
But I find it so frustrating because why I have been successful in the classrooms that I have been in is because I walk in and I don't BS the kids.
Yeah.
Like, that's a big thing.
Yeah.
You know, and you walk in and you're just like, hey, you're a person, right? You may hate history. Great. I didn't like history either when I was in high school. Let's make this interesting enough so you can sit through this and at bare minimum tolerate it. And I feel like that's just, we got off on a tangent. But
do you think it takes empathy though to put yourself into?
Yes.
I think that's what the media and sports lacks. That's what I think so much of the world lacks in empathy for. Hey, that guy. I made a video about Baker Mayfield. I think it's called Baker Mayfield's Bitter. And I really think it's true that there was a moment where Baker Mayfield went from this guy, a 2-time walk-on, who's like, I've been that guy. I wasn't recruited out of high school, and I had a coach, in fact, who said, you're too small, you'll never play college football. Yeah. So that stupid coach for years motivated me, where every time I'm in the weight room, screw that coach. Like,
spite.
Motivated by the haters and the spite, right? Baker Mayfield was so driven by spite for years, and then he became the #1 overall pick. And you're like, the whole story you tell yourself is different. For years, I was the stupid kid at the car wash, screw everybody. And when I got to 100,000 subscribers, it really messed with my mind because I was like, oh my God, I'm no longer the car wash kid. And I can't tell myself the same story because I'm no longer the underdog.
I'm not that person anymore.
Yeah.
I'm a different person.
And I think Baker had to change, either has to or needs to or hasn't yet, I don't know. But at some point, he needs to realize, hey, your motivation's got to be different. It can't be just hate and anger because you're now no longer the underdog.
Yeah. Well, and I think that's part of like a journey, right? Like that's part of like how people grow and eventually, you know, and that goes back to like the Tom Brady thing, right? Yeah. You have someone who worked, and like his work ethic hasn't changed, right? Like if anything, it's progressed and evolved. And, you know, I think, you know, whether you're talking about, you know, people who are talking on YouTube or you're talking about, you know, people who are in the car wash right now. I mean, I think that's one of those things that, you know, you have to push yourself to evolve. So if you don't want to be that person anymore, then don't be.
Can I ask you a question? I know we're going super long. I love it, by the way. I'm in no hurry. Like we start 4 hours. I don't know if you put it in like 4 videos. I have no idea, but I struggle to cover Patrick Mahomes. Okay. Because he's so good. Yeah. Because it's like, it's not it. I find Derek Carr, Kirk Cousins, that middle, like Joe Flacco, like where I genuinely watch film and I go, I don't know if Derek Carr's any good. Yeah. Let's find out. Yeah. That's fun I know, I could make a Patrick Mahomes film analysis video, get 100,000 views. I know that. Yeah. But there's no passion for me in that.
Why? Who cares?
He's like, everyone talks, I get criticized, you know, Chiefs fans are like, you never talk about the Chiefs. And I'm like, because
you got your guy. Like there's also, nothing, what do you want me to criticize?
Everybody talks about the Chiefs. Correct. Why do I need to put myself into that? Like, I'm not passionate because he's so good. Yeah. No, I mean, I'd rather hear you talk about Jimmy Garoppolo than Patrick Mahomes. I think so too, because it's more interesting. Generally,
because I think there's that question, right? Yeah. Like you don't know what the
curiosity.
You don't know what the ending of this story is going to be. I start Patrick Mahomes, and I'm just like, I know he's a Super Bowl champion. Like I know, like you know what I mean.
I would just be collecting highlight clips to talk about. Literally, if I did a film analysis of Patrick Mahomes, I don't. There's not much to criticize or even to. Maybe to what's the word, like constructive criticism. Yeah, that's what I try to make my videos with. Sure. And Derek Carr, I know for a fact there's some things I'm really, dude. I just there's some things I know about Derek Carr that I'm like, oh, I can't wait to watch film and hear the like, oh, I'm fired up about it. I don't know.
Yeah, no, I mean like, but that's the stuff that like makes you exciting, right? Like, so I mean, you know, when I watch a Packers game, like. I'm more excited about talking about the Packers, like in like the follow-up video from whatever the game is, because it's something that I'm excited about, and I'm like, I just want to share my excitement kind of thing. Yeah. Like there are games where I cover, and I'm just like, I don't ever want to talk about this ever again. Like because again, like you know the game sucked. I know the game sucked. I don't want to talk about this anymore.
The worst game, and I always refer to this game. It's like kind of like the thing I jokingly refer to. It's like Alabama versus New Mexico State is not interesting because I know how it's going to end. Yeah. And
exactly.
The best game in the world is when you're like, people like criticize me for not making strong predictions. Yeah. They're like, why don't you predict like this or that? And I'm like, because I generally, and part of like when I make a video, like a preview every, like I think Thursday or Friday for the weekend going into the week,
Yeah,
right?
what to look for,
Yeah, but I don't say this team's going to win, this team's going to win. I actually try to highlight the games that I don't know who's going to win. Because if I was a fan, I want to watch 34-29, and I'm not sure it's down to the final quarter.
Yeah.
You can cherry pick, like, the Redskins are going to get their butts kicked by the Patriots, and I'll make that prediction every time.
Yeah.
But, like, is that really interesting? Not really.
No, not really. No, I mean, like, and I've actually gotten that criticism too, because, like, our prediction videos, there's very little analysis that goes, like, there's times where I'll be like, this is why this team is going to win for this reason, and blah, 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 blah.
Yeah.
And Jay's just like, I mean, that team sounds good. Yeah, why don't we go with that team? Like, and, like, people are like, I wish you did, like, more in depth and spent more than 2 minutes on it. And I'm like, that's what you watch the interviews for. That's what because I give you so much different type of variety of content. Like, I'm not going to do it on this one because, like you said, I am not. And if there's a Packers game, then I break it down with the guest, you know, and what to look for and what have you.
Yeah.
But, like, other than that, like, I don't know. I don't need to do that because, like, I have fun with my wife down here, sitting here and making predictions, like, because they're funny. And there are people who flat out are like, I don't like your X's and O's thing, but I love predictions and I watch it every single time. And then there's the opposite.
Yeah.
And
it's
I'm
the
just
pie.
like, yeah.
Pick the part of the pie you like.
That's it. Exactly.
How do you do the 2 weeks before the Super Bowl? Because for me, like, go kind of stir crazy. I'm like, I'm sick of talking about this one game that's going to happen at the end of this 2 weeks. And we're just saying, everyone's repeating the same crap over and over again. I'm like, ugh.
This year was actually different. I blocked everything. Like, I just blocked I didn't watch a single thing of coverage on the Super Bowl until the week of. And that was the only time I, like, was, like, starting to get into it a little bit. Like, it got to the point where I was so far removed from it that, one, I didn't do predictions until the Wednesday before the game or whatever. But I was so far removed from it that, like, when Super Bowl Sunday came, I was like, oh crap, it's Super Bowl. Like, I did that, like, a couple times. Just like, oh, it's Super Bowl today.
Yeah.
Because, like, I feel like there's times where you just need to, like, remove yourself so you're not just like, oh my God, like, I need to fill this time. I need to fill it. Like, I still had plenty of content to talk about, but it was just.
Well, also, it's kind of a dead zone because nothing else gets views during that 2 week period. I actually think it's the best time to take time off because no one's going to watch anything other than Super Bowl content at that time. So, like, if you're going to take a couple of days off, do it that first week of Super Bowl week. Give you another break.
Yeah. No, I mean, like, you know, that's unless the Pro Bowl, what I'm never going to talk about.
Dude,
the Pro
I hate
Bowl.
it so much. I hate it so much.
I hate it. I've hated it for a long time. I know all the iterations that they're trying. I hate it. I don't like when they did the fantasy thing. I didn't like when because the problem is like there's one of those games you're talking about. If you know who's going to win, that game doesn't have meaning. The Pro Bowl has zero meaning. It's nothing. It's not like the All-Star game.
And I don't
want
it to have meaning because I don't want guys to get hurt.
No, and that's the thing. And they don't want it. Like, there's nothing that you can give them that they're going to be like, I'm going to play my absolute hardest. Like, they have, like, you know, the difference in money between the winners and the losers, right? But you still see guys that are just like, haha, tag your it. And, like, people are like, I want to see hits. I'm like, no.
You don't.
You don't, because that person's going to, because if Drew Brees gets injured and then he can't play at the start of next season, you're then going to be like, oh, man, I wish, you know, I wish he got hugged more. Like, that's what I'm talking about. Like, it's this weird dichotomy. Like, at this point, like, recognize them, like, keep
make a list.
Have the All-Pro. Like, have the All-Pro team. Here you go. Here's a nice little bonus. Have a nice day.
I actually think that for the sake of making content too, like for you and I, like if the NFL just said, here's a list of we're going to honor these, like, what is it? Let's say 40 players are the top 40. Here's 2 at each position roughly. That'd be cool because it would give us something to talk about.
Yes.
Or like, wow, can you believe this guy made it? That guy made it.
Yeah.
And it'd be genuine because you wouldn't have guys skipping out. Mitchell Trubisky made a Pro Bowl. Mitchell Trubisky made a Pro Bowl. That's not genuine at all. Andy Dalton, like, the people make their Pro Bowl because people bow out. They don't want to compete. So then you got to say, like, well, this guy technically was a Pro Bowl at one point in his career. Like, it's not genuine at all. Make a list. We'll say, hey, it's cool.
Yep.
We can debate the list. That's fun.
Yep.
And that's the end of it. And if you want to send them all to Disney World to be with their families, that's great. It's like a conference.
Because I think, like, also the Pro Bowl, too, they try to get people, like, fans more involved. And they're like, you can vote now. And I'm just like, because, like, listen, if Aaron Rodgers doesn't have a good season, Aaron Rodgers is still going to make the Pro Bowl. Because, like, he's Aaron Rodgers. And, like, and so that actually, and I want to ask you that. Patrick Mahomes won Super Bowl MVP.
Yeah.
I didn't think he deserved it. The way, because he played well, but I thought that Darren Williams played better. Because I think, like, he obviously scored more, but, like, I feel like just, like, he made some of those really big plays. He sealed the game. He clutched it. If you were saying an MVP, that would be, like, my guy. I understand why he got it, but I felt it was more of just, like, because he's Patrick Mahomes.
I hate to say this. I'm going to neutralize the question first and then answer it, okay? I actually didn't cover, like, I didn't cover Lamar Jackson winning the MVP even a little bit.
Yeah.
Because I was like, well, like, great. Like,
I
don't care. And MVP for me, it comes, because it's so ambiguous, all this crap. Like,
Yes.
what does Hall of Fame mean? I have no idea. It doesn't mean anything. So, like,
Yes.
Now, if you ask me, for me personally, who's the most valuable person? Why did the Kansas City Chiefs win that game? Patrick Mahomes.
Yeah.
Like, if Jimmy Garoppolo plays quarterback, the Chiefs probably don't win that Super Bowl. So,
Yeah.
like, did he have the best game? Was he the star?
Yeah.
At the end of the day, though, he's the reason why they won, so I'm fine with them giving him MVP.
Yeah.
But it's like splitting hairs, too.
But it's so arbitrary, too,
Yeah.
right? Like, that's what you're talking
Yes.
about. It's so ridiculously... Like,
it's all opinion.
And that's the thing. Even, like, the Hall of Fame, like, Packers fans knows with, like, Leroy Butler. Like, the guy who, like, if you're just comparing stats and you're just being like, look at what he did and look what he did, like, this is why he deserves to be in. But it's political, you know?
And ambiguous.
Yes.
And there's no rule. I want a rule. I really would love if they said, here are the rules. Here's their criteria. Then I'm like, dang, that's great. We have a real concrete answer in or out.
Like, you were talking about Eli Manning, right? And, like, talking about, like, should he be a Hall of Famer or not?
Yeah.
And, like, there are some people that are like, look how clutch he was for, like, these 2 Super Bowl victories. And it's just like, but like you're saying, there's no criteria.
There's endless arguments.
There's no basis. I mean, listen, you look at Peyton Manning's last season. Yeah, he's a 2-time Super Bowl winner. I'm glad that he was able to ride off into the sunset. That man was a garbage quarterback that season.
Carried.
Literally. And I'm not like saying like, literally,
no.
like they're dragging him around and they're like, come on, Peyton, let's go.
It was,
It's terrible.
I remember that year, like the dude,
Yeah.
nobody declines decision-making wise. Like,
No.
Peyton Manning made great decisions. There were literally times where he couldn't get the ball there.
Yeah.
Like, he couldn't get the ball
just
to the
wouldn't
guy.
throw. Yeah.
It's like, man, like, and he was passing up throws because he knew he couldn't make certain throws on a tight windows 40 yards downfield. Like, that's when you know it's over. When you like, you see a guy open, you're like, oh, I can't make it. Yeah.
Yep.
Like, ooh. I gotta say too, there's this, I've come up with this new term. I call it fantasy football crap.
Yes.
I got it from, I got it from a general, like a,
You got from a person.
I was talking to a front office employee, and they use that term. They're like, the one thing we agree with you on is that you don't heavily use statistics. They're like, they called it, I stole the term, fantasy football crap. I'm like, oh, I love that.
I'm stealing
I'm going to
that.
brand that. I'm going to talk about that because it's so true. Like, even the combine, dude, like Bruce Arians had a quote the other, I don't pay attention. Like, one of my favorite segments I'm going to do is probably like all the pointless and meaningless stories from the combine. Because like Joe Burrow's hands, for example, dude.
If I see one more article about Joe Burrow's hands, I'm like, watch him play football. Like, you know what? Watch him play football. Like, you're saying this like he's never played a down of football in his life.
Yeah. Oh, something he can't throw because did you watch anything last year? Like, watch film. And Bruce Arians is talking about the combine, like how it's great if a guy runs 4.3 in shorts, but he runs a 4.6 in pads. Or like, is a guy like, I don't need to watch CeeDee Lamb play. Like, I need to, the film on CeeDee Lamb is more valuable than his numbers at the combine because there's so many factors. You're nervous. It's not really a situation. Like, the combine for me is very meaningless other than the interviews. And that's how front offices view it too.
Yes.
They take down the numbers and it's cool, but the numbers really are just marketing for the players. Like, oh my gosh, DK Metcalf became a star because of what he put out, right?
Yes.
But the way the NFL teams value and view the combine is they get to meet players and talk to them.
Yes.
They don't care about your times.
And that's why you'll see like a lot of these draft pundits, like a lot of them will be like completely and totally wrong with, like, that's why I like mock drafts. Good God. I did them for the first time last year. And I understand why they're entertaining. And like, I had fun. Like, I genuinely had fun doing it because it was like, because then when the draft came on, I was like, I was right here. Oh, I was wrong 7 times in a row. Like, that kind of stuff. Like, there was a time that like I predicted the Packers were going to like get somebody. It happened in an earlier round, but like, it was like one of the, like the random like out there players was like, I think they're going to get him at like linebackers. And they did. And I was like, oh, wow, that was like really cool. But like, you look at that and you're like, and just like I told that fan, not a single person on this planet knows what the team's draft boards look like unless you are a part of that organization in that front office. And that is the truth.
Yep.
You can make assumptions. You can make educated guesses. You can say that, guess what? The Bengals are probably going to get Joe Burrow. You're probably correct, right? That they're probably going to do that. The Redskins are probably going to get Chase Young. You're probably correct.
Yeah.
But again, it turns into this, like, this is factual. This is going to happen. And that's where it gets like, because again, then you start getting, is it like, the best value player that's there? Are you drafting for need? Are you like, are you trading out of that position? Like, I've stayed up for many a draft night and the Packers trade out of the first round because like they're number 30 or what have you. It might happen this year. And like, that's the thing of like, you have no idea. And like, that's the bare honest truth. No one knows. And you could look at Joe Burrow and guess what? he might have a terrible NFL career, even though he goes number one. Nobody knows. And that's what annoys me when they're like, I know.
There was never a moment where nobody knew less than the beginning of the XFL, where everybody's making a video. Let's rank the top 8 quarterbacks. And they're like, this guy's stats in college versus this guy's stats in the preseason versus this. It's like, like, dude, you have no idea. Clue. How about you form an opinion after 2 weeks of the XFL season? You'll know, hey, Brandon Silvers makes bad decisions, or this guy's getting better, or like, people think it's black and white. Like, Landry Jones was awful week 1, but I knew he wouldn't because he'd practiced twice in 6 weeks, where Brandon Silvers had been practicing the whole time and just blatantly made bad. It was a different, like, you can have 2 guys with 2 interceptions for totally different reasons. One guy's making mistakes, it's going to get better. One guy's not making progress. Like, it's all, you have to deal on a case-by-case basis. Correct. Like, oh my gosh.
But broad strokes. Yeah. Broad strokes, Zach. That's what sells. Listen, you just got to go broad strokes. This is why this person's going to be terrible.
Can I talk about DK Metcalf? Sure. I want to defend man, I made a video saying DK Metcalf was overrated. And I literally compared him to an unbaked cookie, where I said that he's in the oven and he's got potential, but he's not there yet.
For his route running.
And I said, like, look, he's not going to, everyone said he's a top 10 pick. And I said, no way in God's green earth. My buddies have played college football. They've played receiver. I know some guys that played Division I receiver. Like, they're like, his route running sucks. Yeah. And even the Seahawks. So the Seahawks brought him in. It was a last pick in the second round. I was right. I said he would be a top 10 pick. And it feels like, ugh. Yeah. And then he comes in and makes a huge impact. Yeah. But why? Because the Seahawks, for the first like 10 to 8 weeks, used him on 3 concepts. Yep. He ran a vertical, a hitch, or a slant. And that's all he did. It. And by the end of the year, when he'd gotten more reps, they were starting to work other things in. He ran some digs. He ran some more complicated routes. He had a double move against, I think, the 49ers at the end of the season. Like, but that was 10 weeks in where they finally started adding adjustments. And people go very basic. You were wrong. He's a star. But why? Because the Seahawks had the vision to say, let's only make him do the stuff he's good at until he's ready to do other things.
Correct. Which is what you're supposed to do. Well, that's why I can't tell you how many messages I got. Rashawn Gary's a bust. I'm like, the man is a rotational player behind Zadarius Smith and Preston Smith, who we just paid a crap ton of money to get. Yeah. And you're like, listen, I didn't like the pick when it happened because, like, we don't pick in the top 15 very often. And so, like, I wanted to go, and that's neither here nor there. Yeah. But there's no patience anymore. There's he's either a boom or a bust after the first year. And that's it. Look at Lamar Jackson. Running back. Now MVP.
I don't know how you watch Lamar Jackson and don't love him. And even the fact that he goes, not bad for running back.
Yeah, you like, yes, like, man. Yeah, like, I love it. Yeah. No, I think it's just no one has patience anymore. And like, you also may have a guy who is terrible at it on a team and just does better somewhere else. The Packers know all about that. Micah Hyde was a good player on the Packers. Has become a staple for the Buffalo Bills, right?
Or work ethic has to play a part, right? Yeah. Like, if a guy has a wake-up call, oh my gosh, and I'm going to start changing my habits and work hard. That literally does happen. People forget they're human beings who have habits that can get better. Yep. People keep saying to me, like, I made a video the other day about PJ Walker. They're like, well, he failed to the Colts. I'm like, first of all, he was behind Andrew Luck. Correct. He never, even on practice, touched the field. Like, he didn't get reps. And he's also not the same player. You can't, it's like judging Joe Burrow in Ohio State. You're like, well, Joe Burrow's terrible at Ohio State. Yeah, but what is he doing lately? Yeah. Oh, he's better because he progressed and got better. Like, can I say the fantasy football crap? One of the deepest symptoms is the Raiders and the way that they got rid of Khalil Mack. Yeah. And everyone's like, well, they lost sack numbers. And yeah, they lost that flashy number sacks, but they replaced them with Cleveland Farrell and Max Crosby, who are very different players. Yes. They don't produce sack numbers, but they do things like set the edge or help in the running game, or they're really good at contain. Like Russell Wilson, they were great. Not Russell. Who did they play? Some quarterback they played where he was a mobile quarterback. And like Cleveland Farrell was so good at holding contain, they never, like the quarterback never was able to get to the outside and get to the edge. That's huge. That nobody understands. There's no number for like he contained the quarterback.
PFF can't tell you that stat.
No, but it's a huge thing that you see on film and go, he's contributing, he's making his team better, and nobody knows how to quantify that.
I mean, I've talked to Raiders fans about that too, because like when it happened, like their defense sucked that year. Like the year that after they actually traded him, their defense was terrible. Like their numbers went down, what have you. But I'm like, look at how many guys, like you got like guys like Josh Jacobs because of that. Like you look at all the players you got, and you look at the Bears. They dominated for a season, and then they were like, I'm going to block Khalil Mack now. And like, that's going to be it. And, obviously like Akeem Hicks got hurt and things like that. But, you look at that and we judge it off like sometimes even a game where it's like, this person's trash, right? Or you it's a season, and I think that, actual evaluation of a player takes about 3 years. Like to see like, okay, let's go. Lamar Jackson might fall off next year, you know, or he might play just as, you know what I mean? Like, we don't know, but like, that's one of the things of just like, you know, you jump to those, like trying to make those conclusions based off of, you know, previous experience. It means nothing.
Yeah.
Tom Brady coming out of college, no one's gonna be like, he's gonna win 6 Super Bowl rings.
You know, Sam Darnold's in danger of becoming another Carson Palmer type situation where there's not a lot of support around him. There's a lot of turmoil in that organization, but he's doing things that like the numbers aren't, people that just rely on stats don't understand Sam Darnold. They go, well, he's throwing interceptions, doing this and that. That's weak analysis. Like, what's he doing? He's making some throws and making decisions where he's checking down at the right time. He's handling blitzes better. He's making great throws. Like, there are things that you can't quantify very well that are like, he's really progressing.
He's progressing.
Yeah. And there's no patience. There's no understanding. Like, if you compare Mitchell Trubisky and Sam Darnold, like, Sam Darnold's a vastly better quarterback, a guy I'd much rather work with than Mitchell Trubisky, who makes all kinds of just weird, inconsistent mistakes.
Hey, you're talking about a Pro Bowler here.
I don't think any quarterback infuriates me more than Mitchell Trubisky. I'm not like straight up. Him and Bortles are the two that I'm like, Bortles would do stuff. I'm like, what
are you doing?
How do you miss that throw? Yeah. Like, he's just not a natural thrower of the football. And Trubisky's the same way, where he'll have a guy open, like, or like I did a film analysis of him where he had a guy, it was an out route, an out and up, defender's open by a step, Matt Nagy's on the sideline going, we got him, and Mitchell Trubisky goes a check down, and you're like, dude, pull the trigger. Yeah. He's open, and he didn't even give him a look. It's like, first of all, he looked at it, but you're like, what do you see? If you're looking at that, you're looking in that direction, and you see the guy win, and you don't throw the ball, are you not?
Is it lack of confidence? Because
what is it?
I have to feel like Trubisky, I've done a bunch on Trubisky.
Yeah.
Because he is a quarterback that fascinates me, because he was a guy that at this point is getting completely crapped on by the Chicago fan base. Matt Nagy seemed to completely give up on him at points last year.
I don't think that's the thing. I don't think Matt Nagy's a bad coach.
No, I don't think he's a bad coach. I think the problem is that you have guys like Pace, who basically, in theory, put their like kind of career in Chicago on the line by trading up, which they already got bashed for, to get Trubisky. He hasn't been panning out, right? And now you're kind of stuck with this decision of what do we do? And I think it's at this point where there's so much pressure on him. And obviously, listen, they're getting paid millions of dollars to have pressure on them. That's not what I'm talking about. Yeah. But I'm saying is that they're basically saying the first mistake you make, you're going to get crucified for it. Because I've unfortunately watched Mitchell Trubisky play a bunch of football games, and there's some terrible reads and some terrible throws that he makes. There are also some good throws that he makes, and there's times where he's super mobile and he's like getting out of the pocket, what have you. And with Sam Darnold, yes, they're very different quarterbacks. I noticed that about Sam Darnold when he played the Packers a couple seasons ago in overtime. Yeah. Like he was like slinging the ball at times. I mean, we have a garbage defense at that point, you know, but like there are times I'm like, wow, he's going to be a good QB if they let him progress, if they put some wide receivers behind him, if they give him something to work with. And that's actually why I thought the Jets were actually going to do well this year, because I was like, all right, they got CJ Mosley, you know,
on paper it made sense.
Yep, Le'Veon Bell, which gives Sam Darnold a weapon not just to hand off to, but also in the passing game as well. And I was like, Robbie Anderson, he does have that speed, you know, and it just didn't pan out. Injuries and then just a litany of other things just didn't pan out for the Jets this year.
I think it was an interesting comparison you can make, where this is something people don't understand about the XFL is that there are 8 quarterbacks in the league that were basically allocated to a team. Yeah. Like, hey, no, you didn't draft him. We just sent him to you. Yep. And Brandon Silvers is one of those guys in Seattle. And I know the effect on a locker room when a player is making like 10 times more than everybody else, which Brandon Silvers is, and they feel like his preparation is lacking. Yeah. And he's not making plays, and they call, you know, there's a term called space cadet where he's a little bit spacey. Yep. And Trubisky, I'm almost certain is a similar situation where when the locker room feels like the guy isn't performing, they start losing trust not only in the player but in the organization as a whole, because they're like, well, why isn't Chase Daniel playing? Chase Daniel's better. Yeah. And we know we're paying Trubisky more money, but that's all weird. The finances and all that stuff wrapped into it really hurts the locker room as well, because then the players around him that are making less and want to win and they're making plays are like, why aren't we doing what's best for our team? We're just making the guy who makes more money play instead. Well,
you know, and that was one of the things, like specifically with the Bears too. Like they got Khalil Mack, they gave up. They didn't give as much as they thought the Raiders could have gotten out of them, but they gave up a bunch, and it's gonna kill their cap, right? And now they're having a decision where they're being forced to Trubisky's on his contract year.
Yeah.
Do we pay this man at the end of it? Or worse, do we admit that he's a failure? And then what are all the consequences that come with that?
But why is that worse? I never have understood, like, what's wrong with admitting you were wrong?
Yeah, no, but I'm saying from optics wise. Yeah. That's why. I'm not saying in
but like, Ryan Pace could save his job if maybe he said, look, I just was wrong.
Yeah.
And maybe that means like, and actually maybe that's the problem is people say, well, why would you trust you to make you another decision? Like,
correct.
That makes sense.
And that's what I'm saying. That's like kind of the end of it. Because I have to think that Ryan Pace is like kneeling down every single night and is like, please God, just make a goddamn throw. Like, just make a throw. And then he's like, oh, I said it in vain and now you're not going to. But like that, and just make a throw. And because that's the thing, like you talk about whether you're in a locker room or talk about, with management, what have you, you start losing that faith and that trust in there. That's very difficult to earn back. And I'm not saying that as a football player or anything like that. I'm just talking about it as a life thing. Yeah. If you don't trust the people that are supposed to be leading you and are supposed to be making these tough decisions, then it gets very, very difficult for you to do your job.
Well, even if it's not the coach if Matt Nagy's playing Mitchell Trubisky because he's being told to, right?
Yes.
Then the players start to go, well, man, it's not Matt Nagy's fault. He's not the problem, but he's also powerless.
Correct.
And then you still lose respect for him, even if you know he's not the problem.
Yes.
It's just all bad. It's all a mess.
Yeah.
The politics of sports, especially the quarterback position, happens way more than people realize. Like, they play a guy because of his height or because he's this or his potential or his financial situation.
Yep.
In colleges, it's the same way. Like, there are literally guys who make rosters because their parents are big donors. Yep. And like, it's a giant problem. And it just is a thing that goes on that people don't quite understand.
It's not, out in the forefront. Yeah. No, I completely hear you. But but that's the thing though, because when you're looking at it, because like I feel bad for Mitchell Trubisky. He's obviously feeling like he's playing against like the Packers and stuff like that. But like I don't actively want to see him do poorly. I don't want the Bears to win, right? Yeah. But I don't want to see him actively do poorly. And I think it's crappy of like like what's going on and stuff like that. And I think it's just a matter of like you look at Kirk Cousins, right? You look at the Vikings. As soon as they signed him for $84 million guaranteed, I was like, this is great. This is phenomenal. I literally was celebrating.
You're a Packers fan.
On this podcast. Yeah, as a Packers fan. I'm like, this is the best thing I could possibly have. This is like when the Bears stuck around with Jay Cutler. I'm like, this is amazing because I'm not looking at this year. Yeah. I'm not looking at them getting an upgrade at the quarterback position, which they got a moderate little upgrade with it. I'm looking at 3 years down the road when he has drained their cap and they are paying guys like Stephon Diggs, Adam Thielen, all those defensive players like Anthony Barr.
The roster is going to be lesser.
Yup. And I'm like, what's going to happen over time is that cap train is going to come on into the station. And guess what? You're going to start to see a vast like exodus of talent. Yeah. And what's going to happen is that, again, then they're going to go into that hole. So it's fascinating. You look at teams like the Patriots, right? And how... Because it's interesting how you look at teams with their windows, right? In which it worked out where they had this quarterback and this running back all at the same time, like with these wide receivers or this, like Dallas Cowboys, right? They had that offensive line, which was amazing. They have like these windows, these opportunities, and there's sometimes they only last a season, right? In which like it's momentum, they get there, what have you, and then it's gone. And you look at it, if you're trying to have sustained success, you look at the Patriots, and it's just crazy what they've been able to ensemble together, that they're pulling guys off the street and basically being like, hey, you can play defense now. And, then they go to the Titans for millions and millions of dollars, like Malcolm Butler. Or like you go and you look at all of these windows. But for the vast majority of teams, sometimes it comes down to like 3 or 4 years because they spend a lot in free agency or because they go and they put a ton of draft capital into one guy and it doesn't pan out. The opposite of all of those people, like, Packers said this infamously under Ted Thompson, spend more in free agency. And listen, he was super conservative with that. But like, there are times it does not work out. A lot of the times it does not work out. And then you get screwed. Look at the Rams right now, right? The Rams, they paid Todd Gurley, who has a knee issue, right? They paid Goff, who sure as hell did not play like he was supposed to this year, right? They got out and got Jalen Ramsey. And they gave a lot up for Jalen Ramsey. And like, I'm not saying he played terribly, but now you're stuck here in which you have to pay him a crap ton of money because if you don't, you literally just gave away draft picks for nothing. And so now you're sitting there and going like, this is the other side of it. And I would rather the Packers be competitive for 8 years, even if we don't make up, the Super Bowl or what have you. I'd rather them be competitive for 8 years than for us to go all in. We have a window of 2 years because it's very difficult to make the Super Bowl. and then we're irrelevant for the next 5. And that's what people, they're looking at this win now mentality, and they're doing it with Rodgers too, because Rodgers is getting older and what have you.
Yeah.
And you look at the Broncos, listen, they went all in. We're like, Peyton Manning's our guy. We got to, we're dragging his carcass to the Super Bowl again. And it worked out for them. It worked out because they got a ring.
Worked out for the Eagles too.
Yeah, it worked out for the Eagles. They
spent a lot of money. They built their team around a young rookie quarterback contract.
Yep. And listen, there you go. And it works. But for the teams that it doesn't work for, and you spend all that money, and even if you get to the NFC Championship game and you fall, or the AFC Championship game and you fall short, what happens now? And that's the problem. And that's why I don't have a huge problem with the draft and develop kind of process, because while it's infuriating sometimes, and sometimes you do make bad draft moves or have you, it's safer for the cap. It is a little bit more conservative, but at least it keeps you relevant for longer if you draft well.
Have you heard the stuff about the Rams especially, where they, in theory, according to some sources, are making decisions based on the brand rather than trying to win?
Yes.
And if that's true, which I think there's a high likelihood it is, based on what I've heard.
Yep.
I don't think that's the right approach, because you first of all, the best way to build a brand is to succeed.
Correct.
You're going to fill the new stadium in LA if you're winning games. Not necessarily because Jalen Ramsey's on the roster or because Todd Gurley's a star.
Yep.
Forget that.
Nope.
If you focus the Patriots are the best, not the best, they've won more than anybody in recent history, and they're a gigantically, massively successful brand, not because of their star or flash, but because of winning.
They usually lack.
Yeah,
too.
They're notoriously boring.
Yes, 100%.
But people go and...
It's Tom Brady. It's Tom Brady. He's the consistent that stays there, right? You have guys like Edelman who stay for a while, or Wes Welker who stay there for a while, right? Or Randy Moss was the one big guy they bring in. But
that's the business model.
Yeah.
Forget the star, win games, and you'll build your brand.
Exactly. And the fact that you're hey, we have to go make these big splashes to fill a brand new stadium. Yeah, no, that's a recipe for absolute disaster. Because you know what? Even if you win a Super Bowl, even if you do it, and I've talked to Broncos fans, and they said they don't regret winning a Super Bowl, and I get it, and that makes sense, right? Because they're still going to be relevant, for.
And now they got Drew Lock. They're looking up.
Yeah, exactly. So who the Packers were interested in, but you look at it from this perspective. If you're doing that with LA, they don't have a first round pick until 2022?
I think so. Yeah,
something like that. Not only. Even if you get that Super Bowl, you're basically guaranteeing that if you don't make the Super Bowl every single year, it's a bust. And you are setting it those high expectations for your team. Listen, come August, everybody's gonna be oh, maybe my team can make the Super Bowl this year, right? They're gonna have those expectations. But if you're saying, if we don't make the Super Bowl, this is a failure, there's a really, really, really high probability that you are gonna be disappointed with this season.
This is why ownership is it's the most underrated quality, I think, in football, especially, where you have meddling ownership that. I just go back to the Bengals, dude. Yeah. People think I hate the Bengals. I love Cincinnati. It's my favorite city in the world. I really want them to succeed. But they have a bad owner. And the bad owner hampers their entire franchise and holds them back. And it's just a big deal that nobody pays attention to.
Yeah.
And I tell a story sometimes where I had a manager. I worked at a movie theater in high school. And this is a story about how important management and all that stuff is. My manager at a movie theater would regularly not order enough popcorn because he was trying to save money. So we'd I'm the guy at the desk running out of popcorn going, and I'm 17 trying to explain economics to this guy saying, look, spend as much money as you want on popcorn kernels because we're always going to sell it. Mm-hmm. We're always going to sell the product. It doesn't make any sense to not spend money on the thing you're going to sell. The demand is
there,
Yeah. And I was 17 trying to explain to this 42-year-old guy, and I quit the job. I hate that guy. He didn't get it. And my point is that management, the people, your boss, the people making decisions at the top are so important because they can make or break your career or your job or your lifestyle.
Yep. Yeah. No, you're 100% correct. And they're usually the ones that are setting the environment that's going to be there. Coaches are incredibly important. Absolutely. But I'm saying that owner is setting at least the narrative, right? And sometimes you're not gonna be able to control what the media says about you. But I'm saying like Jerry Jones, right? You look at him and the narrative that's built around him, that he doesn't give up control, that he doesn't give up. And you look at that they spend money and what do they have to show for it? I mean, you know what I mean? It's one of those. Or you look at the Texans. Good God. The Texans infuriate me. I really, really like Deshaun Watson. I love him as a player. DeAndre Hopkins, love him as a player. JJ Watt, probably one of my, if not my favorite non-Packer guy, Wisconsin. But and you look at that and you have Bill O'Brien, who's now I'm also GM and head coach Bill O'Brien. And I'm just why? Because you know what? If he was winning and consistently winning and consistently doing well, then I'm like, you know what? Obviously, he doesn't need a boss. Sure. Yeah. Roll for it. Yeah. See what it goes. But if you're blowing 24 points in a quarter, you know, and some of that's coaching and play calling and all that
situational stuff. Yeah, a lot of stuff went on that.
Absolutely. Yeah. But I think that the bang that they've gotten for their buck here, in which they have a young quarterback who they at this point don't have to pay a crap ton of money to, even though that train's coming too.
Yeah.
And you have the wide receiver, like what has he done to earn that you're saying, like, yes, we are going to put all of our faith in this one man for our organization?
Well, I think the hardest part is the missed opportunity.
Yes.
That it's like you see the potential. You see Deshaun Watson and Russell Wilson are very similar.
Yeah. Both
storylines and players, where they're this incredible player, and their team understands that, hey, this guy has a special ability to avoid a sack.
Yep.
Where if a guy comes free, our quarterback is able to make a guy miss or step up or step right and evade and extend a play. And the Seahawks and Texans have repeatedly exploited that ability their quarterbacks have and abused it by saying, oh, we just expect he's going to make a guy miss. We just expect
That's why we have garbage all lines.
Rather than building an offensive line. Mm-hmm. It just is like, oh my God, you're getting this guy killed and you're shortening his career and you're not making the most of his prime years because you're not giving him support he needs.
You could argue the same exact thing with Aaron Rodgers and not giving him a defense.
Yeah.
I mean, how many, like, literally.
Look at the one time, like, say whatever you want about their season, but the one time they got edge rushers and got a good safety and put a little support around him, they went to the NFC Championship game.
And that's like with no receivers. Like, you know, like that's literally with undrafted guys. Like Alan Lazard became our number 2.
Yeah.
And
winning ugly games, but winning because of their defense.
Correct. And you look at it from the standpoint of, okay, I love the 2016 season. The 2016 season is one of my favorite seasons ever to be a Packers fan. We sucked. We were going to be out of the playoffs. We then run the table. And plus, my dog became famous, so that was pretty cool. But, like, literally, we just kept on winning.
Yeah.
The only reason is Aaron Rodgers, because he literally did everything. And I mean everything, because we had no defense. We had nothing. Aaron Rodgers was like, okay, I'm going to go win us a whole lot of games, literally, and just not lose a single one. And it was all him. And you look at, and this is what annoys me too, because when like people use like QB wins as a stat to say that this quarterback is good or bad, and I'm like, that is the stupidest thing in the history of stupid thing. Yes. But like you look at Aaron Rodgers' losses in the playoffs, right? Because they're like, oh, he's not a clutch quarterback, right? Like you look at, just look at it. Team's putting up 40 points, 35 points, what have you.
Context.
Or he never gets the ball back in overtime. Yep. You know what I mean? Like that, like how many times have we lost on the first drive in overtime because they get the ball and they walk down the field and that's it? Cardinals a whole lot of times, Seahawks, you know what I mean? Like that's the kind of stuff that drives me insane. But you look at that and there's a lot of criticism to the front office of the Packers for that. And basically saying like, look, you had a Hall of Famer. Well, he's obviously still a Hall of Famer. Yeah. And listen, he still can play at a very high level. But if we don't get another Super Bowl ring, there's always going to be that gap of what if? What if you dedicated some time, money, talent, and at least made an effort? Because it's one of those things too, that might not have worked out. It might not have panned out, right? We could have gotten some free agents and it sucked, right? It blew up in our face and we screwed up our cap. But I feel like there are times though in like those circumstances when you have those really special players and you have those special players that you need to capitalize on it, not put your entire future in jeopardy, but like you need to make the most of it.
Yeah.
And to expect guys like Russell Wilson or Deshaun Watson to go out there and constantly run for their lives
be superheroes.
And just hope. I mean, that's not a way to run an organization because eventually you're going to get stopped by someone. And like it's going to be disastrous.
Also, how bad do you feel for Deshaun Watson? Like, for example, at some point, I don't know when, but someday Strong Opinion Sports is going to hire more people.
Yeah.
And I'm going to hire really good, smart people, probably, hopefully, more adept at editing than I am, smarter than I am in certain areas.
Sure.
You want to be around good people. You want to work with good people. And I know a quarterback wants to have good teammates. You want to work with good people around you. It's so important. And it's so frustrating to not have help, to not have good people around you. I've been in that situation. Oh my gosh.
It's miserable.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, like the prime example of what we're talking about is the Bills-Texans game where Deshaun Watson gets slammed by 2 defenders and stays up, shrugs it off, runs out, and completes. And like you look at that and you're like, wow, that's amazing. right? And it is. It's an amazing play. That's all Deshaun Watson.
That should never have to happen.
That should never have to happen. That should be like a once in every blue moon. When he's constantly doing that because he's running for his life, that's indicative of a problem and a pattern that needs to get rectified. Yeah. And to their credit, right, they did try to beef up their offensive line this past season. Yeah. But again, I just think that the decisions that they're making, it's very questionable as someone who's sitting in their basement, just like looking as a observer.
I think one of the film analysis videos I should do is Aaron Rodgers. Like, so I'll never do Patrick Mahomes. It's boring. Yeah. Aaron Rodgers is genuinely fascinating. Here's my theory. So I try not to have an opinion when I go into film, but it's hard. There are some things it's hard not to have some kind of theory, and like you have a theory and you got to be willing to change it and mold it. But my theory on the season for the Packers is that the defense carried that team to a large degree, and Aaron Rodgers was good enough to win. And that doesn't mean Aaron Rodgers is bad. Mm-hmm. It means he made enough plays to keep him in the game and played a very different style of football. But people think that's bad. They equate stats to success and all this stuff. And like that could mean that's how Aaron Rodgers played this year. Yeah. We're going to do enough. I'm going to take care of the ball, play very efficient quarterback play, not make a gigantic mistake. Our defense will take care of things. Yep. That's not bad in the slightest.
Well, it's interesting. So I would say that there were some games absolutely where the defense did carry the game, right? Whether it was pressure, sacks, what have you. But I think the thing that made the Packers successful this season was the fact that Aaron Rodgers didn't have to do everything. I flat out, beginning of the season, I said, because people are like, oh, Aaron Rodgers is going to tear it up. I made a tweet earlier and I was like, God, I can't wait for him to. And I sat on that and I was like, you know what? I wouldn't be surprised if his stats are not that amazing this year, because we should be giving the ball to Aaron Jones. We should be spreading the ball around so Aaron Rodgers doesn't have to go up and put ridiculous yards.
Because those crazy numbers were a product of an unhealthy system that heavily relied on a quarterback to do everything.
The only time where that wasn't the case was the 2011 season. Well, scratch that. The 2011 season, Aaron Rodgers had so many weapons to throw to, so he put up ridiculous yards. However, that was indicative of the fact that they didn't have a defense, and he had to do that every single week. And because of that, they ran into the Giants and got booted out of the divisional round in their first game.
Well, I think what's interesting, people say, well, they're very lazy, right? They'll say, well, the numbers are worse. He must be declining. He probably can't play at the same level.
Yes.
But I will say, the one thing I have seen from Aaron Rodgers is consistent. Oh my God, he made that throw. Yeah. Oh my, like it still happens. It happens less because it's needed less.
Correct. Well, I think it's a little bit of both. I think it's a mix of, he is declining.
How so? Is it his footwork? Is it his arm strength? Is it what is? If you may not know,
I think it's the accuracy. Okay. I think it's because what I saw more of this year than I have in the career of Aaron Rodgers as the Green Bay Packers quarterback is
missing simple throws.
Is missing throws.
I remember in the quick game he would really struggle a couple times where like a slant. He just I think there was a 3rd and 1. In some big game, I can't remember what it was. Maybe it was a Chiefs game. Okay. It was like 3rd and 1, had an out route, and he just threw it in the ground. And I was like, what? And they had to punt. Yeah. I don't know if you remember that play at all, but I remember that play going, how do you miss that play? Yeah. How do you do that?
And that's what I mean, like he has been known to hold on to the ball for a very long time. That's why he took a lot of sacks and stuff like that. But with that, sometimes you could make amazing plays. And so we always forgave it. And we're like, okay, whatever. Yeah. But like there were times like we refused to hit the check down guy because he wanted to make that big play. Yeah. And again, that I would argue a lot of that's going to be because of need. Because we have to, because it's like, if I don't hit this guy, we're probably not going to win. So I think it's a matter of, I think he's just declining with age, and like the accuracy is not completely and totally all there, but I think the guy's still a phenomenal quarterback who can play at a very high level for the next few years. Obviously, I can't predict that because who knows, what's going to happen. But, I think that, as time goes on, we shouldn't have to expect Aaron Rodgers to be Superman, but he can be in those situations that call for it, right? But it's not every game, so you can have the defense that just pitches a shutout. Great, wonderful. If Aaron Rodgers doesn't have to do anything, if he can pull it, listen, I don't think there'll be a single Packers fan that would have a problem if he became Jimmy Garoppolo in the NFC Championship game and just handed the ball off and threw the ball, 6 times? I don't think there'd be a single Packers fan that had a problem with that because, again, they're winning games. And that's what would happen. That was the scenario of all season. They're like, oh, they're fake and they're pretenders or whatever. And I'm like, listen, I don't care. I don't care how they win. I don't care if it comes down to the wire every single week because they're winning the football game. If there's a W at the end of that, that means they're one step closer to getting to the playoffs. And then from there, it's a total crapshoot. And it doesn't matter. And I'm curious what your thought, because I kept saying this, and the Titans, I think, are a really good example of this. People are walk into the playoffs and they look at what teams did in the regular season. And I get it, right? Because this is what we're talking about, like with college football, like what you did lately and what have you. Yeah. When you get to the playoffs, it's my opinion that literally nothing matters in the regular season. Because if there's a team that gets enough momentum, they could be a wild card team. If they get enough momentum, it doesn't matter. They could have played crap all year or sneak in as a 9-7 team, and they can go and they can topple teams. Now, obviously, it helps to be a good football team and have that experience and that, all that stuff. But like, I feel like people look or overlook teams that didn't have a great regular season performance and think like there's not a chance in hell that they have.
I think it's true. I think that what people don't understand is how much parity there is in the NFL.
Yeah.
Like every team can literally beat every team.
Yes.
It's not like college football. There's no Alabama, New Mexico State. It doesn't happen. The Browns can beat the Patriots if the Browns do the things right. Mm-hmm. Talent level's all the same. And you can get a team that catches fire. And a big thing is like the way you click and figure things out. I know people at the Chiefs organization, they were talking about how they were so impressed with the way that their defense, they literally it wasn't about like, I mean, guys got a little bit better, but they really began to trust each other. And that sounds so silly and cliche, and like everyone talks about momentum, all this boring stuff, but they stopped arguing with their defensive coordinator. They stopped asking questions, said, if we just do what this guy's telling us, and Tyrann Mathieu is a big leader of the cause, saying, hey, this guy, Steve Spagnuolo, knows what he's doing. Listen to him. Don't ask questions. If he tells you what to do it. And they bought in, they followed it, and look, they won the Super Bowl. Yep. And a lot of, that's something that a team has to go through that journey to get there. Mm-hmm. So yeah, like the Bills came on really strong, and like things like that. Like you have to. Again, it goes back to these are all people, and so like I think momentum's a really cliche thing. Like people that don't know football very well just cling to like momentum and very emotional things. But there are things that do, like the way a team plays together and the way they trust each other is super important, and it grows throughout the course of the either it grows, it doesn't grow, or it gets worse. Yeah.
Well, I think it's because momentum's not enough to win you games. No. But I think like you look at like the Chiefs-Texans game, right? You saw the complete and total shift, whether it was in the stadium or whether it was Patrick Mahomes on the sideline or what have you. They score that first touchdown and they're like, let's go. Now, the thing that does bother me is like people turn, they're like, yeah, Texans didn't want to win that game. Or like they're not trying. I'm like, who are you talking about? I'm like, these are professionals who want to win the full, like that phrase annoys me if they wanted it more. Bullshit.
I hate that.
Get the hell out of here with they wanted it more or they tried harder.
It's also so offensive. It's so offensive. Like, you mean when I was blocking my butt off? Yeah. I didn't. It's a direct attack on someone when you say they didn't want it enough.
Correct. Yep. Yeah, that bothers me. But
what excites you about next? Is there? You can answer with the Packers. You can answer any way you want. What is like? Oh my gosh, I can't wait to see what happens.
I think I'm like nervous about this, and I'm cautiously optimistic. Matt LaFleur came in, and I loved what he did. There was decisions that he made that I disagreed with, but I liked how aggressive he was in some games, and then other games I was like, what the hell are you doing? He utilized Aaron Jones really well in some games. He didn't in other ones. And you look at the way that the Packers play, and I feel like there were times when they were under pressure and when they fell behind, they didn't win those games because they reverted back to like a Mike McCarthy, very conservative, like non-aggressive type of play. And it wasn't great. And I think the reason for that is because like Matt LaFleur is brand new as a head coach in general. He's a brand new head coach of the Green Bay Packers. There's so many new pieces. I'm very excited to see these guys coming together, gelling together, and what Matt LaFleur has planned for year two, and specifically, obviously, for the Packers, and seeing what kind of schemes get created. Because now that he's had a year to kind of like take it all in, had all the success that he did, has the trust of the players and the organization, because there's interviews you can go out and see. Like, I forget, maybe it was Bakhtiari who was making fun of him. Like, LaFleur, the first time he addressed the entire team in the locker room, he was like, he sucked. He was like really nervous and like was stuttering and like really wasn't good at public speaking. Yeah. But like the team bought in. Like you see, like that was something that was different this year. That like the guys had fun. Like, it was different. Like it was
obvious,
and it wasn't because they were just winning. Yeah. It was like they were enjoying their company. And like Aaron Rodgers, I don't know if you saw this, but Aaron Rodgers had an amazing like 45-minute interview with Bon Iver.
I saw that.
It was amazing.
That's awesome.
And like he literally had like this conversation with him and
was Justin, I think, right?
With Justin Vernon. Yeah. And was basically explaining to him like, the guys are like buying in, and it's more of just like it's beyond the game. He's like, we're hanging out for like, guys are hanging out outside of work. Yeah. That kind of stuff, and building like that those communal bonds.
Well, it sounds like the culture of their organization shifted towards let's enjoy. If we're going to be here doing all this crap, let's also enjoy it.
Because, and Roger said in that interview, a lot of the guys, they come in here and they're doing it for money, they do it for fame or what have you. And they may get those things, but the problem is when they're done with it and once they've achieved those things, what do you have left? And this is why I loved what Aaron Rodgers is saying, because he's really grown into like that veteran, like Yoda type of like guy. He's like, it's the relationships that you build with these people that is going to last and endure beyond this game, because you're going to call them friends and you'll be able to go and hang out with them and, do whatever. And like, money, that might go away. Fame, eventually people are going to stop talking about
the memories are what lasts.
Yes, and those relationships that you build with people.
Yeah.
So
Aaron Rodgers is like Han Solo. Like he's just like he's like
I just want to
gunslinger is such a typical thing you talk about with quarterbacks, but I think of it in terms of like the guy with the Holt and the cool boots.
Yeah.
Like when he has that mustache, I'm like, man, he looks like a Western superhero. Like Clint Eastwood. You're like, he's the man.
Like he's like the guy. Like that. Whether it's like for this, and I gotta say, like him too, like his story, like, and they obviously overplay the crap out of it now of just like, all his teams passing up on him and stuff like that. He still goes to the first round, but like all those teams passing up on it. But I think it's just a matter of the amount of hate that he got from that fan base, the Green Bay Packers, when Brett Favre left and he took over. It was ugly. Like it was really, really ugly. Like they were trying to run him out of town. And we
don't want this guy.
Yeah, this first season was terrible. I think they went 6-10. Like they it wasn't good. And then you started to see like, oh, like he's good.
That's a story I've never thought about. But that's very human. It's like the pressure of that. Like that's how do you not have empathy for that situation where like
you're
taking
an
over
icon.
Yeah, and people don't want you.
Yeah,
people want the other guy, and they're pushing back on you playing, even though you are. You have to believe. He had to believe in himself. I wonder if it jaded him a little bit to be like.
I mean, that's what they.
How does it not?
I mean, like that they constantly showed for the NFC Championship game. They were like, oh, like how do you feel that like the 49ers, like, are you upset like the 49ers didn't draft you? And he's like, not as upset as they're gonna be for not drafting me. So yeah, like, and they constantly talk about like that narrative of like his chip on his shoulder or whatever, and like they play it up again like every single time that they play.
You're not wanted.
100%.
How do you?
100%. And it's it's one thing not to be wanted by a team, but then when you get to that team, like. From the get-go, people were furious when they drafted Aaron Rodgers.
We wasted a pick.
Exactly.
He shouldn't even be here.
And guess what? Those same people who were like, oh, we're not mad, if they draft a quarterback at number 30 this year, those are the same people who are going to be really, really pissed. Like, this is going to be the litmus test. Are you still going to be pissed off if the Green Bay Packers draft a quarterback in the first round this year? I, for one, am not going to be because that doesn't mean he's going to replace Aaron Rodgers next year or this season or what have you. It means
it's an investment.
He's an investment, and it was the best player available, or at least that's what the organization did. And if I don't have faith in the organization, then why the hell am I watching this game? And why am I supporting this team?
Also, why can't anyone learn from the past?
Yes.
We people repeatedly make the same mistakes, and not just the same mistakes, the same like maybe it's like 30, but they're the same storylines just repeat over and over and over and over again. Because people refuse to go, hey, remember last time it happened like 10 years ago?
Yeah.
I'm actually thankful that we had this conversation, because now if they do draft a quarterback, I can say, look, people were furious when they drafted Aaron Rodgers. How ridiculous was that? If you're still mad, you're wrong.
That's it. That's all it is. And then there are people who are like, oh, we need to draft quarterbacks, so we need a new QB right now. I'm just like, you're stupid. Stop talking. But but again, it's gonna be very interesting because I would have disagreed with it if we drafted at number 12 last year. If we picked a quarterback then, I would have been like, this makes no sense because give him the support that you need. But you can still find very good players in the second and third round and whatever. And the Packers are usually pretty good at that. I think it's just a matter of where is this team going to go? What's the future going to look like? Yeah. And because we do have a limited window. Now, hopefully it's just a limited window with Aaron Rodgers, because if the Packers are smart, as they have been, then that window is going to continuously stay open, and those rebuild seasons aren't going to last too long because we have made an investment in our future.
Do you ever look at the language? Like, do you craft your language in a way to not sound... I know I have to do this sometimes. Like, I have to be very careful to not sound condescending when I talk about stuff like when a fan says, we need to get rid of Aaron Rodgers, it's a ridiculous thing. So how do you respond in a way that's empathetic, and how do you even talk about a topic like that?
I think I think it's really easy to snap back and just be like, you're dumb. And and there's times where I absolutely want to do that. I don't think I've done that, and if I have, it's been
I'm
very
tempted to all the time.
Very seldomly. It has to be a ridiculous outrage, because there's times where and I'm sure you're familiar with this, you get the same question 16 times. And it's the same exact one. It's phrased. Sometimes it includes the exact same article, and it's just did you see this? What do you? And I think it's just a matter of the way that I look at it is I have no delusions of myself. I look at myself as I'm a dude who's in a basement, right? I'm a similar dude who had the same idea of himself back when I had 5 people listening. Now if I have 500 or 5,000 people listening, same dude. So I think there's every single time I get like that annoying, like, oh my God, like stop asking this stupid ass question. I respond, and the reason I respond is because I'm like, I mean, it's pretty cool they're asking my opinion. They actually care.
That's true.
And like, because 3 years ago, no one did. And like, I think it's one of those things that like, not to like get a big head or a big ego about it, but it's just like, I think I'm going to be a little bit more, I would be more upset if I didn't get these. And not saying like, listen, I don't need the same question 16 times, but I mean like, I'll miss that when that's gone.
Yeah.
So, you know, enjoy it while you can. And sometimes I'll leave it for a day so I can decompress because I've already answered it 16 times. Or sometimes there's times I literally copied and pasted and they're just like, here you go. Like it's the same exact answer that I've had already. But yeah, no, I think it's just a matter of like, you know, and that's why I do so much fan interaction is because, you know, it's one of those things that it's temporary. You know, for however long it could be for 20 years, it could be for 30 years, it could be for, you know, the next 5 minutes.
Yeah.
You know, but I think it's one of those things that, you know, once you start getting into a position of, you want to say influence, you know, or at least where people are asking you your opinion because they genuinely want to know. I mean, like, that's a pretty great feeling.
Yeah.
So, you know, I experience it as like a teacher because like you're in that position. Here, it's a weird position, you know, like dynamic between people, but you know, I think it's just a matter of they're fans that are asking questions and they just want to know why things are happening.
Well, I think one of the key like philosophical things, like things in my I try to be gracious, like always. Graciousness, the idea of like, I went on a vacation. I wasn't really a vacation because I was working the whole time, but I went to my brother died February 8, 2016. So on February 8, 2020, my girlfriend and I went to Bandon, Oregon to a small little inn. It's like $89 a night. But I, you know, before the trip and even after the trip, I was like, hey guys, thank you so much because I'm able to do stuff like that because you guys watch and you guys listen to the show. And I remember when I was a kid listening to Colin Cowherd, like, I mean, like literally I was 10 years old. And I've always felt like he's uncomfortable. He goes to like Utah and like goes on a vacation. Like probably, I would assume like a pretty wild and incredible vacation.
Yeah.
If it were me in that situation, on the Friday before I leave, I'd say, hey guys, thank you so much. Like I'm going to Utah. It's going to be incredible. I'm going to mimosa on the mountain. Thank you for watching and listening because you guys make that possible for me. Yeah. And like, I think when you're answering, have you ever met a fan like on the street?
Yep. When I went to the game 2 years ago, I met these 2 kids who came over and they like wanted pictures and stuff. And like I met like someone's girlfriend and stuff like that. Awesome. Yeah. It was awesome. Like, you know, I mean, being in New York, mostly like no one knows. Now like all my students know. And so like, you know, like, like you call like fans, like they buy like merch and stuff like that. I don't sell it to them. Like it's like they like go online and like buy merch and stuff like that. But yeah, I mean, it's happened not as frequently in New York. When I go to Green Bay, it happens a bit more, but I also haven't been back since like, you know, the channel's blown up a bit.
The Bengals game was that trip to Cincinnati really, I learned a lot about myself and I learned a lot about, like, I had to have a plan because I felt this pressure when I would meet fans of the show. Because like, it's incredible, dude. It's like so amazing that someone recognized you on the street and goes, your video, I like your videos. You're the guy. Yeah. Like that, it's so amazing. Yeah. But also, I realized I had to have a strategy, and my strategy is just be gracious. Like for a while, I felt the pressure. Like I have to say something pithy and smart. Yeah. I have to be like I have to have all these questions ready and prepared so I can like no.
Screw that.
Just make sure like share the gratitude you have that they watch. And I think anytime you're interacting with fans, whether you're sharing like, it's like the great like I got asked this dumb question the other day on Ask Zach, and I was like probably harsher than I meant to be, but it wasn't like at the guy. It was like, this situation's ridiculous. Like this is the belief, right? But man, thank you for your blah, blah, blah. Like, I really appreciate you. And that has to come through. And I think it has to be genuine. If it's not genuine, it doesn't work. It's not.
Yeah. And like, there's interactions with other people that I see who are like other figures, whether it's in sports media or, you know, celebrities or what have you.
There's a guy who has people call into his show and he's fucking rude.
Yeah.
And I'm like, wow, that's kind of weird.
Like, dude, like, they'll stop calling, like, you know what I mean? Like, but that's what you're talking about. Like, even I vividly remember this because, like, again, I usually remember all the terrible comments. I don't remember the good comments.
Absolutely, man. You forget all the ones that are like, you're like, my favorite content creator. Yeah, that doesn't.
Because that's the thing. I mean, like, this is gonna sound like a douchey thing to say, but like, in your like little bubble that you create, it's mostly positive, right? Because when they get a notification, it's your fans because they want to come watch your video, and they're like, the people who don't like it are like the ones who like came off the street and were like, like, what is this?
Who's this guy?
Exactly, cringy ass voice or whatever. So,
he looks like what's the guy? He looks like Lil Dicky.
Yeah, exactly. So I'm basically sitting. I go on the Packers subreddit a lot because like. That's like where the dog thing happened, like the magic puppy.
I need to learn Reddit. I know nothing about it.
It's a dangerous place.
My girlfriend sends me Reddit
so
stuff.
Much time. It's just,
but I don't understand it. I'm scared.
I went on years ago and I just never went off. It's like it's a huge time. I actually had to like regulate myself because like I found myself constantly like Jade would yell at me all the time, and so I went on to the subreddit and like there's for a long time and there's still people that are on there that just like don't like me. Like they just whatever, and. Someone's made a comment because like every now and then there's the same topic of like, what are good Packers podcasts? And sometimes my name comes up and someone said, I tried, I just couldn't get through it because of, I don't even remember, because of whatever.
Blah, blah, blah.
And so I responded to that because like then like some of my fans saw that and they were like attacking this person. And I was like,
don't do that.
Don't do that. And I responded to him and I said, I really appreciate you like taking however much time you did to check it out. It wasn't your cup of tea. Wish you the best.
Yeah.
And I've done that with a few people and I find that a lot of the times like they're taken aback and being like, wait, what? Like I collab every now and then with like Cheesehead TV. And like there are some people that do not like me. Like they they watch that for like a specific reason and like they don't watch me for a specific reason or whatever.
Yeah.
And there was a guy who was commenting, I think on one of the live streams and was like, like I really didn't like Tom Grossi, but like I'm seeing him interact with you guys, like I'll give him another chance. And like I remembered that comment and I remembered the username. And then on the next video, I saw it and I was like, I'm really glad I gave you another chance because like now I'm actually really digging it. And like that's the kind of stuff that I'm like, that's the good stuff. Like and again, not saying I'm like, not grateful for like all the positivity, like the positivity in the comments, because that's like just the community that's been created there. But I think it's one of those things that, it's very easy to get comfortable, especially when the majority of the stuff is positive.
Yeah. And just like feed your ego and you're like, I must be the best, right?
And, it's interesting because I don't pay attention to a lot of it. Like I still go I heart like a crap ton of comments. I try to read as many comments as I possibly can. And, it's hard because like I don't pay attention to a lot of it just because I'm like focusing already on the next video and focusing on the next thing because I'm looking at this and like 50,000 was a big deal for me. Like 50,000 was a big milestone that 25 was big and then 50 was big. And
hundreds next.
Yeah, that's what I'm looking for next. And then like, and this is like kind of where we started near the beginning of like being satisfied. And I'm hoping that there's going to be a piece of me. I know it's not going to, but it's
then you'll look to
pipe
250.
dream. I know.
You'll just look ahead to the next one.
But there's like a pipe dream. And the only reason why I think that's going to be different, and this may be very like vain of me, is like at 100,000 subscribers, YouTube's supposed to send you a little plaque.
I've never got it.
Those bastards.
It's supposed to come, but I heard it takes like 9 months, so maybe I'll get it someday.
Okay.
Yeah.
I don't know why, but like, and I know this is not the way to proceed, but like, it's another thing that you can be like, I did that. Like, that's something, and I know it's like physical and materialistic and completely nonsense, but it's something that said, I did that.
I know, and I can't speak for you. I know in my journey, the moment where I finally was able to, and not relax is the wrong word.
No, it's not.
Finally feel like I did it.
Like
reflect
a little bit.
Yeah, I'd be like, okay, wow. Like I finally, it felt like I accomplished something.
Yeah.
Was the day I didn't have to go to class or a job.
Yeah.
I woke up 8 a.m, went to my room to record, started writing, and I said, this is all I do.
Yep.
My only responsibility today is to make content.
Yeah.
Oh, the years I dreamed, literally, like working in my friend's basement, making videos, working in a spare bedroom, working in like a dorm room, literally me over to the wall behind you, like was the entire room space. And I slept on the floor under like, have you ever seen the room where I slept under the bed frame?
Yeah.
Yeah. I literally like moments like that where I'm like, I have my own place.
Yeah.
I have a bedroom that's not the same place I record in. Mm-hmm. And my only responsibility today is to make content. It made me like want to cry, really, because I was so thankful for that. I mean, oh my gosh.
Yeah. And again, like that's kind of like become the goal. like the day where I don't.
But you'll get to that moment, and the minute you get there, you'll be like, I did something.
Yeah.
It's not fulfilling because I still want to make more. It never ends, and that's actually a great problem to have.
Yeah.
But it will be, I hope for you, because it was for me, a moment to go, oh.
Like just like the...
I did something.
Yeah.
I don't know what it was yet, but I did something.
And you know what? It was like that time for me was, and again, I obviously like continued to work, but like it was Sunday Night Football. Like me sitting right here and seeing myself on that team, and like, because that was another thing. NBC came, they recorded, they were right where you were. Oh, yeah. We did this whole thing, and I'm like, they're gonna think it's shit. Like they're not gonna air it or whatever. I'm like texting the producer. He's like not texting me back. I'm like, oh my god, they're gonna like something's gonna get glitchy, whatever. And I'm sitting here and I'm waiting. And on Sunday he texts me and he's like, do you want an advance copy or do you want to just be surprised when you see it? And I was like, do not send me anything. And he was just like, okay, this is when it's gonna be on. And to sit here, it's still on my DVR upstairs. Yeah. And to sit here and watch that, I was just like, okay, that's something.
Now you posted it. Did they send you an MP4?
Yes.
Nice. Okay, that's cool.
Yeah. Yeah, because I uploaded it.
Yeah, no,
like,
I saw. I wondered if did you
yeah,
screen cap it?
No, because I asked them that. I was like, since it's yours, like, but it's me, can I post it? And they're like, yeah. People ask me time. They're like, did you get paid for that? I'm like, absolutely not. They didn't give me $1.
That's not how the news works.
But I'm like, yeah, exactly. I'm like, I didn't
You're
want
lucky
anything.
enough to be featured. That's how
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. We're paying you in publicity. So, but yeah, and I think that, there's these logical like next steps, and listen, like there's potential, like it plateaus, right? Like like that I can never take it for granted. Of like it's going to continue to grow. All signs say that it's just going to continue to be bigger and bigger and bigger, and that's great. It's just a matter of kind of it. I find that we were talking about like journeys and stuff that. Like, this is going to sound super cliche, but like, I feel like you don't know that like, this is like the best time, right? Like when you're in it, it's like,
that's why you have to enjoy it. That's why it's really important to like enjoy your life and be like, oh my gosh, every moment you record a video, like be like, how special is this? Right.
Yeah. And I think like that's what it is. Like going back to The Office, like what we were talking about. And he's like, I wish somebody told me like it was the best of times when I was actually in it. Like I think about that.
Yeah.
And I'm like, you get so focused on 50,000, 100,000, what have you, that once you get there, it feels like hollow because you're just like, oh, like I did it.
Yeah.
Like and I related to this time, like when I taught psychology, we were talking about motivation and stuff. And I was saying like it's like when you play a video game. Right? There's times where I would play a video game and I would absolutely love this video game and I would do everything in my power to 100% that video game, get every collectible, beat every level, do every character, what have you. And I spent all my time, my energy, and I loved doing it. And then I did it. And then I beat it. And then I put the game down. And then I never played it again. And like, that's the thing of like why you need to do this, because you're passionate about it. Because if you're doing it for monetary value or you're doing it for these imaginary steps that are in your head, once you get there, and you're not enjoying what you're doing in the process.
Well, I was once motivated by the wrong thing. I played quarterback in high school, and I'm 5'11", and I had a coach at my first high school when I was a sophomore in high school say, you're too small. Yeah. You're never going to play quarterback in college. So I left that. I transferred out of that school into another school, a better school, broke all the records, made the playoffs twice. Like I won more games in one season than I ever had in my entire life playing football before that. Yeah. It was so much fun. And I was like, but in my head, all I cared about was, screw that coach.
Proving him wrong.
He was wrong.
Yeah.
So I got to college and I was like, man, I made it.
Yeah.
He was wrong about me.
Yeah.
And I lost all motivation. I was like, oh my gosh, I don't love what I'm doing. Because I wasn't doing it because I loved it. I was doing it because screw that guy.
Yep.
And it wasn't until like, it's just the wrong motivation.
Yep.
Do it because you love doing it. And other things can matter and be important to you, but if you don't love it, it's really hard to do the work.
Correct. Yeah. Because then you find that like if you're just doing this, so for example, if I put out a video and I made $1,000, God, I wish. If I put out like a video and I make like $1,000 with it, right? And I'm like, oh, I don't have to put out another video like tomorrow. Yeah. That's when you start like, for me, like it's very easy to get knocked off the track. Like of just like, if you don't do something for a while, like it's tough to get back on.
See, we're the opposite. You have to give yourself a schedule. I have to not give myself a schedule. If I give myself a schedule, I burn out. I have to like, because I'm better when I'm no, I know. And I realize like I'm better when I'm creative, and I have to like I watch Survivor now. It's my new thing. I love Survivor. I can't really watch other stuff because my brain, for some reason, like for example, you and I don't watch sports for fun anymore.
No,
and that's okay.
No,
I have to know that like when I'm watching sports, it's a very different experience than other people because I'm I have a notebook. I'm taking intense notes. I watch a 2-hour XFL game takes me 4 hours to watch because of how much I'm rewinding and replaying stuff and pausing to take notes. So Survivor is one of the few things I do in my life where I'm like, Survivor and Star Trek. Actually, Star Trek Discovery is phenomenal.
Gotcha.
They're the two things that whenever I need a break, I need a lunch break, I need to relax, I watch that because no notes are required.
Yeah.
I can turn my brain off. I just watched like season 39. I watched like Ben win Survivor and I was like, this is incredible. Like things like that. Taking the time to have a break a little bit for a minute, relax your mind and recharge the batteries.
Yeah.
Because our jobs are creative, man. It's not, you can work at a car wash on 0 sleep. You're just scrubbing. It's just manual labor. You can do a lot of jobs that way.
Yeah.
Creativity takes energy and emotional energy.
Especially if it's what you want. Like if you want it to be the best that it could possibly, the quality, exactly. Because like listen, like I've done things, a lot of videos that I put out on 0 sleep or nothing, or like where like the Sunday night games or a Monday night game where the game doesn't get over until 11 o'clock and then I need to record a video right afterwards that goes out at midnight and then, or like I finish it at midnight. I recorded my
Super Bowl episode at 3 a.m. Sunday night.
Yep. And like it goes out, that night, because that's the thing that I do. It's like every Packer game, it's
incredible, man.
The post game comes out and like there's times I go to sleep at 2 o'clock, I wake up at 5 o'clock to go to work.
Yeah.
And I did it a lot.
That's it. That's just how it is.
And that's how it is. And I think it's just a matter of, the reason I need the schedule is because it's like one of those like mental things that I can say, this is something I can grasp onto, and it doesn't allow me to, I don't want to say like get lazy, but like it is like get lazy. Cause like there are times like if I let myself, I will sit on that couch and I will literally just be on YouTube, Reddit, whatever. And like, I'll sit there for like hours because like I can't, like I literally just need to decompress.
Your brain needs to turn off.
Yeah. It needs to completely and totally turn off. And I find that, the problem is then I'm just like, okay, gotta get back on the schedule. Like, because at least if I said, and the schedule is not necessarily revolving around the show. Like, what I'm talking about is like, if I don't have another job, like it's wake up, right? It's like actually make myself quality food so I can eat better, right? And then I can like go like walk the dogs, go for a run, like, that kind of stuff, do the show. And if I had that kind of structure every single day, where nowadays where it's like go to work, do whatever, and I'm being burnt out because of that, or like, I have an obligation that comes up and I'm like, is eating into like my show time because I don't have any time. Or like if I make plans on the weekend, I'm like, shit, on Saturday, that was my only free day because I'm gonna have to stream on Sunday.
Yeah. It makes you kind of a hermit. I don't know about you, like
it does.
It makes it hard to take. Like it sounds really dumb, but
so bad.
Hard to take care of yourself because all the stuff that you're supposed to do is like, well, I don't really have time for that. I need to do this, and then you're like, and my one free night off, I'm not hanging out with anybody. No. I want to be alone.
Bad.
Yeah,
it's bad. Like because it's a full-time gig, and like again, if you have another full-time gig, it's worse. But like. There was times like I'm sitting here and like I'm eating protein bars and like that's it because I'm like gotta keep going. You know what I mean? Like I don't have
time
like,
to make a 30-minute meal. Like
like Jade tells me this all the time. She's like, you need to cook for yourself. Like you just need to like make some like food. And I'm like, I don't have time. I really because I could use that time.
Well, I do have time, but it would really like that's the thing. Everyone has time for it, but it's I don't want to sacrifice the time because it's going to make my show. Correct. It's going to affect my show.
Yes.
And I'd rather eat a protein bar because that's easier.
Exactly.
How does I want to. If I may, a very personal question.
Sure.
I'll start by telling a story about myself.
I've been in my basement for like 2 hours and 45 minutes, so I think we're past that point.
My last relationship really suffered in football season. Mm-hmm. Monday night football's on, and she wants to carve pumpkins, and I'm like, well, I got to work tonight. And being in a relationship that didn't understand, like,
yes,
I do a dating podcast with my stepmom, which is like hilarious and amazing.
That's phenomenal. Yeah.
And we talk about lifestyle fit a lot and how it's important to have the same goals and share dreams. And if you're going to work in football, especially, like it's like tax season for us as an accountant, right?
Yes.
March, April is busy as hell for an accountant. For us, it's fall. How did Jade react to either the idea of starting the podcast and then now what it's become where you're like, I saw you guys went on a really cool date after this. I was like, you bought dinner when the season ended, right? Because it's probably really straining on the relationship to do fall.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, I mean, and the problem is too, is that, so like we're both teachers. Mm-hmm. So we have, so the one saving grace that we have in that regard is that we have the summers off. Yeah. And like I have the summers off from this and I have the summers off from teaching. So that was a big one. And that's why we usually do our traveling and things like that. But again, and I've told this to her. I said like one of the saving graces is like, so she works far away, but like it's the commute. She goes to the gym right after her work. So she doesn't get home until 7:30. Yeah. So I literally look as when I get home at 4:00, I have like 3.5 to 4 hours to try and finish that. Sometimes I don't, it doesn't work and it doesn't succeed. and that's also one of the reasons like I brought her in for predictions, because at least like that was something that like, we're like spending time together and doing that. But yeah, no, I mean, it's definitely straining, especially like when you start talking about, I'm like, listen, I can't do Sundays. Or like, look at January. January by far is the worst because it's Saturday and Sunday. Like I stream every single playoff game.
Yeah.
And so I'm like, listen, for 3 weeks, we can't do anything on the weekends, like the whole weekend.
Yeah.
And so
do you guys have the conversation like where you can go do stuff, I'm just not gonna be there?
No, and absolutely, and she does. And I think it's a matter of like when it first started, no one cared because like it took, if I had a 45-minute interview with somebody, great, edit, render, it was all audio, no one cared. But like it has taken over more and more and more and more and
adding
more
video to a podcast
life. It just takes over your life. And like obviously as it's gotten bigger because I've done it more consistently and I've been doing it every single day for how long and what have you. Like I made a video Monday through Friday, not even including the streams, Monday through Friday every day from the last day of August all the way until the end of January.
Yeah.
And I did that I didn't miss a single time. And there was times I did 6 or 7, and there were sometimes I did 2 videos a day.
Yeah.
In that. And it's one of those things where I was just like, gotta keep working harder. Like anytime I had a moment of free time, I was like, gotta do it to the show. Gotta give it to the show. And I'm trying to work out that balance because that's not sustainable. Like I did it. This is the second year now. The first year, so 2 years ago, I didn't do it as crazy. I did it with the draft stuff. I didn't do it as crazy. But like I'm realizing like it's coming to a point where like, okay, maybe I could do this for like another couple years. I mean, that's a big if. It's just the dog trying to get in, Jack Nicholson style. But yeah, I mean, it's just a matter of like, right now I'm looking at this of like, let's see how long I could do this before I, collapse in on myself like a dying star, and then we'll take it from there. So, that's not great. It's not healthy. No. I don't recommend that. No. But it's like, but that's right now, that's what's working for me.
But also, you're building something. Yes. That's the key. Like, I don't think this lasts. You're not going to be doing 2 jobs forever. No. There's going to be a moment where it pops and you're able to go off, right?
Yeah.
That's, that was really frustrating about my last relationship is like, I feel like she didn't understand, hey, this is not going to be forever. This is a period of my life where I'm building something.
Yes.
And it's going to be, for example, I left for New York. My flight left Portland at 2 p.m. On Tuesday. So I had to get to the airport about noon. And I stayed up all night Monday night. I wrote 3 episodes. Yep. I started recording at 9:30. And I recorded 3 podcasts.
There you go.
At 12 o'clock, about 12:15, I was like, oh my gosh, I'm done. I better pack now.
Yeah.
Because I hadn't packed. I worked all night.
Yeah.
No sleep. Got on the airplane.
Yep.
I slept for about 45 minutes in the airplane. Then on the airplane, started editing the show.
Yep.
So when I landed in New York, I uploaded the podcast.
Yep.
That's the kind of life you live that I live. Yeah. That it's just always going all the time. And you have to be. I look. I'm making a grand assumption. I don't think it's that grand though. It seems like Jade's pretty understanding.
Yeah. 100%.
Which is super imperative. If you're not
rare.
With someone who understands.
Yes.
And rare. Yeah.
Well, have you ever seen the movie Whiplash?
Yeah.
Okay.
The drum. Oh my god.
I think about that movie a lot.
Yeah.
I showed it in psychology.
Miles Teller's great.
Yes.
Watch Whiplash.
J.K.
Oh
Simmons.
my gosh.
Oh, it's amazing. I think about that a lot. And, I think that movie sends a message that's a dangerous message, but at times I agree with what it's saying. Like he talks about, like there's a scene where he's in a relationship, and I'm not divorcing Jade, so don't worry, that's not where this is going. But like there's a scene where he's in a relationship, and then drumming starts like taking over. And his teacher basically says, who's an abusive teacher, he says, if you want to be great, this is it. Like, this is all you do. That's all you do in everything. Yeah. And he breaks up with his girlfriend, and he's like, because then I'm going to get great, and then I'm going to resent you because you're taking time away from me practicing, which can make me get better, which I'm not going to be great. And people in his life are telling him, they talk about Charlie Parker, and they said to him, he dies of I think a heroin overdose in his 30s, but like he's known as like one of the greatest drummers of all time. And he says yeah, I would rather do that. I would rather die when I'm 30 years old with a needle in my arm than, and be great and have people talk about me than to, settle for anything less. And, it's crazy of like one of those things that you look at it and I get that mentality sometimes, not like with like my relationships or anything like that, but like when it comes to, not giving myself a break and just constantly going. So I'm like, if I want to do this, if I want this to be great.
It's the best job in the world.
Yeah. If I want this to be great, then I need to do this. And I need to dedicate almost every waking moment to it. And like that could be very destructive, and that could be a big, big problem. But I think you see that the people, because the problem is of why that's a dangerous mission, but I think it's like somewhat true. And I don't think it's completely true. Somewhat true. I think like there's grains of falsehood that are in there. But you look at some of the people who are great, and
Kobe.
whatever. Kobe's
the one that always comes to my mind.
Just about to say that.
Yeah.
Every waking moment, trying to be the very best, even when he has a family, every waking moment. Right. Yeah. And then when he's done and he gets to step back and, and enjoy it and go on to a different part of his life and things like that, which makes it even more devastating.
I think that's why people like Troy Aikman are never going to be a head coach in the NFL.
Yeah.
Like Jason Garrett was never the man and never did. So like, it's easy to, I want to be a coach. Troy Aikman's like, I'm done. I am actually done.
I did it.
I'm never doing that grind ever again.
Yeah. Well, because I think, but that goes back to it. Are you going to have a Troy Aikman moment where you go, okay, I did it?
I don't think so.
So that's the thing. So
that's why I've had to learn balance, right? Where I'm in a new relationship. It's great. And I will take here's a great example. My first date with my new girlfriend, a second date actually, we went to Old Spaghetti Factory. Do you know what that is? Do we have it here?
What is it?
Old Spaghetti Factory. Is that a thing in the West Coast or in the East Coast?
I feel like I've heard that before, but I don't know if it was the East Coast.
We went and got pasta, right? We went and got pasta, and the date was it. So I was literally, I just recorded it about 4:00. The date's at 6:00. So the show's uploading in the process. And I said, you know what? I'm going to go on the date. I'm going to put all this aside. I can put aside for 2.5 hours.
Sure.
Go on the date, have a great time, get back. When I got back, I finished uploading and did all that process. Yeah. And it was like a big wake up moment for me. It's like, there are moments where I can breathe.
Yeah.
And like, if the show comes out 2 hours later, it's still out. People are still going to watch it. It's okay. And I don't think you're there yet because it's not your full-time job. But at some point, like, there's going to be that moment where like, okay, I can, because you're managing two things.
Yeah.
I'm managing two things. It's my life and my show.
Yeah.
Like you have to manage three things to have it all. Like, I don't know how that's even possible.
Yeah.
But I do think there's going to be a moment where you're like, okay, it's my full-time job.
Yeah.
And I can't have moments to watch Star Trek with my wife. I can't have moments to do this. I can't have, right? Like,
and that's what we've talked about too, is like when this eventually, whenever it is, becomes the full-time gig, like if she goes to work, like I could do this in the morning. And so when she comes home, like I could have dinner ready and like, we can like be with each other and like, that's it. And, and like, that's kind of like one of the things that like, that's more what I feel like I'm more also working for, like towards and being like that, like, that's what I want.
Dude, the freedom of like, I wake up and make my girlfriend dinner.
Yeah.
Or,
You're just like, we're throwing meals out the window it's now.
Not baby. No, I wake up in the morning and make my girlfriend breakfast and she'll go to work and it's like so cool. It's like, oh man, like
I can decide what I wanted to do today.
I'm allowed, and I can go work on the show. Yep. And if I had it just wouldn't be possible. I'm like, I feel like I'm a stay-at-home dad sometimes, and my baby is the show, right? Yeah. And that's so cool.
Yeah. No. One day. Yeah. We'll be.
But rest is valuable. That's what I've had to learn. Yeah. Because for years, and it was healthy. Like when I was a full-time student, had a full-time job, and doing the show full-time.
Yeah.
You can't rest. It's just impossible.
Mm-hmm.
You try, but it's just impossible.
It's impossible.
But now I have to because I need
and you can build in the time for it too.
Yeah.
Even if it's like from 3:00 in the morning to like some weird ass schedule.
Yeah.
You can have that time built in. That's what I'm saying. Like I mean, like that's one of the luxuries of it, right? Yeah. So you can decide, like, you know what, I can stay up till 3:00 in the morning because I don't have to wake up at 5.
But I used to look at, and I think because your schedule is so crazy, like you're like, I don't have 2 hours because I literally don't. I literally don't.
Yeah.
But at some point, it's like, well, okay, now that I do have the 2 hours,
yes,
it's valuable. Correct. And so when I'm watching Star Trek, I'm not guilty like I would have used to be. It's
Correct.
Like, no, I need to recharge my mind because it's going to make my content better to be rested.
Exactly. Yeah.
It's it's like, I don't know. I'm excited for you, man. Like,
I
really like.
One of these days.
There's not a lot of people I interact with or like care about, and I just am so compelled by your genuine approach and
Appreciate
like
that.
your, I think, honesty and like I really love the way you do it. You do it the right way.
Thank
and
you.
I've learned by watching you. It's been really fun.
Yeah, it's been a pleasure. Absolutely. And listen, man, I mean, like, it's one of those things that, like, you're also one of those stories that, like, you look at and, like, for people who are, like, doing what they love and they're doing the grind and they only have, like, 100 subscribers or less, right? Or maybe a little bit more. They look at that and, like, everything I tell people is it's quality and consistency, right? You could be putting out the greatest product in the history of the world, right? But if you only do it once or twice, no one's gonna see it, most likely, unless it like those random they go viral kind of
dude,
things.
there's an XFL podcast, right? And they're like, they sent me a message saying like, how do we do what you're doing? How do we break through the
all the time?
It's XFL season, right?
Mm-hmm.
They've been like 2 episodes.
Yep.
And like I've made 40 videos about the XFL this week.
Mm-hmm.
So like, come on, man.
That's what I'm saying. It's because if you look at it this way, if you're saying like I want to go viral, let's just say for example, like that's the goal. Just basic math is going to say if I produce 10 videos this week, right? It's more likely that one of those videos is going to go viral than the one video I do this week.
Yeah.
Even if you pour your heart and soul to it and it's really great quality and what have you. And there are people who do that and it just works out, right? The algorithm's just like, you're the chosen one for today. But like, sometimes,
people so much.
and again, and it works out. And then there's like, oh God, I'm like, they go from like having 500 subscribers to like, now I have 500,000 in a day. Like, like it happens.
It does happen.
But, it's one of those things that like eventually, if you keep on putting out great content, you'll get there.
Well, the number's about 1,000. I've found that you get to about 1,000 videos, and it's like, okay,
things start to change.
Recommending you, we'll start doing,
Well, that's the thing. It's much so. Like I have found, so like it was a battle to get to 25,000. Right? I got to 25,000 this September, and I just hit 56. Like that's what I'm talking. It's the beginning is a lot harder, and then once you start getting at least that fan base and stuff. It makes it at least a little bit to get recognition.
But all the people that say like, I want to do it, I want to have a show, right? I want to do that. It's like, well, then you got to be willing to make 1,000 videos before anyone cares. Mm-hmm. And would you do it knowing that it's going to take that much to get there, right?
Effort, and you're not going to get compensated in any way, shape, or form?
No, it's just an investment. It's just, I think the XFL is kind of similar, honestly, right now. I think XFL is where I was in college, where I have, instead of using my free time, I'm literally spending all I have to make this thing and grow it. But look where it is now, right? I think that's any business, I guess. But the XFL is like, they might. I have no idea what they're doing financially. Yeah. My guess is they're not making a ton. They might be breaking even. They might be losing. But I think if they keep it up, eventually it will be profitable.
Yeah, and I mentioned this yesterday. Like their attendance is going up week to week.
People care. There are fans of this league.
The viewership, like the TV ratings are going down each week.
But that's how it works.
But like one of the games too, like still hit 2 million this week. Like it was
really.
It was. Oh my God, I literally have it written down right here. Nope, that's the Battlehawks. I'm so sorry. There's like 5 things on this page, and of course I can't even figure.
Probably
out.
the Houston game.
The DC LA game only got 1 million.
Only 1 million.
Yeah, Dallas versus Seattle got 2 million.
Wow.
Yeah. So like that's the thing, like so those numbers are skewed.
Yeah.
Because like one of them was on FS1, so it only got 1 million because not everyone gets FS1.
Yeah.
But like I'm saying, like it's building that momentum, and if you constantly put out a good quality product, and again consistently.
Yep.
Even if it's once a week.
Doesn't have to be every Monday. If it's every Monday and then the next one's, I used to try to make a podcast every Monday, Wednesday, Friday, and I was like, why am I putting myself in a box? If it has to come out on Tuesday, it comes out on Tuesday. Yeah. It's better to make quality than rush out a show that comes out Monday rather than Tuesday.
Yeah. Well, and that's so. I feel like I've gotten myself into this corner now because now I'm like Monday through Friday, and even though it's Sunday through Friday, and sometimes Saturday.
But what if it was 4 days a week?
But so like that's the thing. So I'm looking. So like I did a fantasy thing, and that was the second episode of the day. It came out on Tuesday.
Actually, if I may, I don't want to fuck with you at all because I get where you're coming from. Because it's like, here's the problem, right? You make one video a night, right? So like, if it's Monday night and you're almost done, do you go to bed and then 20 days to tomorrow? You just got to finish it. Because I can't imagine a world where I would even go to bed. I'd be like, no, of course I'm so close. Let me just finish this video.
So like, there are times where I'm like, there's a video, like, because it's Tuesday and there's a video, it comes out at 11:59.
Yeah.
You know, because
maybe does that ever come out at 1?
It's going to come out on Tuesday. Yeah, there's times where it comes out.
Like, hey, I worked on it Tuesday, and it's the next one will come out tomorrow afternoon, tomorrow after I get home from work, kind of thing. Like,
so I mean, like again, I put myself in a box, but it's that schedule that like kind of it keeps me going because it's like, okay, Monday is this day.
It's the obligation.
This is what I do.
Well, it's like ask Zach. Ask Zach isn't always convenient to make, but it's like people are paying for this. I better give it to them. I'm not doing one this week because I'm in New York. So I'm going to do 2 next week because people pay for it. So they get one from last week and then one next week. Exactly. Because that's how it works. That's how it works. You have to give them what, if you make a commitment, follow it.
You know, it's funny because like with the Patreon thing, like that I find is a really easy way to be like, okay, this is how I know I'm going to be okay. And because what I mean by that is like, I can do a stream, and streams do decently well sometimes. I can do a stream and if it makes $50, right? I'm gonna be like, what am I going to do? You know what I mean? Like that is what it is. Like, I don't know if I'm going to do well this. Like, I don't know if I'm going to be able to pay bills this month with this or whatever.
Yeah, it's inconsistent.
Which is why, again, like, I don't spend money on myself. I literally just, it literally just goes in the bank and stays in the podcast and goes for taxes. And so I'm looking at this and I'm like, I would love to do more stuff for like Patreon things, but I'm like, I'm pushed so thin at this point. Like I literally can't even give them extra stuff.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I'm also looking at it of like, okay, Tom, if you're doing this full time, you're already doing 5 episodes Monday through Friday. What else are you going to give them?
How do you make it?
How do you go even like further than that? Because like, for example, like there's because you've hit this threshold. There's like the YouTube. It's not YouTube Plus, or might be, I don't know what it's called, but it's like the membership on. It's basically Patreon, but on YouTube.
Oh, God, okay, yeah.
Yeah, and like they offer like emojis, like during like streams, like specific ones that you can do, and you can customize them and what have you.
Yeah.
And like people have said, like, you know, who don't want to use Patreon, but they would do it on YouTube. They're like, do this, and I could put out a really crappy version of it. But like, I'm looking at it, and I'm like, if I was gonna do that, like, I want like custom, like Aaron Rodgers doing like a belt thing. Like, I would spend money on it for people to spend money on it.
Yeah.
And you know, it's just one of those things that it just needs to get to a point where I'm like, okay, this is the sole focus right now. And like when I get there, then I can say, you know what, maybe it doesn't need to happen Monday through Friday. And because the viewership is already there, people are going to tune in whether I take a break or not. Like this past week, like I didn't do something on Monday. It was a really rough day and I just couldn't do it. And I was like, so I didn't do a video on Monday.
Really?
Yeah.
I missed that.
I literally just didn't do a video.
Wow.
And like,
Tom.
And I know.
That's, well, actually, I hear that and I'm like, thank God. That's great.
Yeah.
That's good for you.
Yeah. And like, again, so I was like, oh shit, I got to do it. Like Tuesday,
feel guilty though.
Yeah. Yes. But like tonight, this is getting recorded on Thursday. There's no way this video is coming out tonight because like it's 3 hours and 12 long thing. It's not happening. We need to go get you food. So like it's not happening tonight. And I'm like, it's not football season. I'm okay. Like we're okay. Like we'll be okay. Yeah. So you know, once it starts getting to draft time, then it's 5 days a week. You know, like and we're going right back to it.
I love the draft.
You know what? It's funny. I used to really hate the draft, and I don't like the toll that it takes on me.
Yeah.
But I thoroughly enjoyed the draft because of how much goddamn work I put into it last season.
Proud.
So actually, I was just like, I know this player. Like they're mentioning, I'm like, I actually know who that person is. I've watched their highlights and I've watched the videos.
But that's what the fans feel too. When you make a video, like when a fan hears you, a fan's a weird word, but when somebody listens to your show, hears you make a video about, let's say Rashawn Gary.
Yeah.
They now know Rashawn Gary's story. So when they watch him play, they're introduced to him.
Yep.
They care about him more.
Yep.
I mean, if I was a person listening to the show, I'd want that coverage because, oh my gosh, I'm getting to know the players as well.
Yeah. And sometimes they need to, this is gonna be weird, but like you kind of need to like be told how to feel. And what I mean by that is like Rashawn Gary got drafted or whatever, and the people who watch the video, they're like, I like this or I don't like this, and they had an opinion on it because they had information. You know what I mean? So like you're providing them that information so that they can actually process and be like, okay, I
is this good? Is this bad?
Exactly.
Yeah.
So, all right, I think we did it.
Yeah. Can I ask you one last question?
Of course. You're
Can
not
you
going home. No.
Dang it. He's never going to let me. He kidnapped
Sorry,
me.
it's the
Guys, help me.
That's it. Check out patreon.com/ to pay for Zach's ransom.
My rent, please.
Exactly.
Yeah, I don't know. I guess I'm just fishing for an answer. I wish I had a. Can you speak to like your gratitude for Jade? I just like.
Yeah, no,
because it's cool. I can't wait to meet her, man. I'm like so excited.
Did she like go on Ask Zach and was like,
no, because
sure.
I watch you guys' content and she's like all in, like she supports you, and it's like I'm watching this TV show called Deputy occasionally, and it's so compelling because the main character does what's right. He runs into you actually. He's this guy who's thrust in his position, and he does it so right, and his wife is like so supportive, and she like gives him helpful advice, and it's like. Oh my! I love watching because I'm like, oh, that's a healthy example.
Yeah.
And I watch you guys and I go, man, that's a healthy example of a really what seems like a cool friendship, partnership, marriage, all of it. It's like, man, and I want to hear you talk about that.
Yeah, I think so. It's interesting because I've really only been in 2 significant relationships in my entire life. Romantic relationships, obviously.
No friends.
Yeah, no friends except Peter.
It's me and Jade.
Yeah, exactly. That's what we got. So. The first relationship I was in, I was a senior in high school. We dated up until my junior year of college. Did not end well. And when I met Jade, it was one of those things that, like, I felt like I could just be me. Because, because again, like, I'm a weird, like, quirky kind of, like, make jokes at inappropriate times. I'm really not good at funerals, like kind of guy. And like Jay calls me out on this all the time. She's like, "This is not the time to make this joke," and I'm like, "Shit," but I really want
I need a grown up. I need a grown up. I'm married.
I can't do it. I'm just like, damn it. But that's the thing too. I feel like, you know, there's times where like I get like there's some little things that like I'll do that I'll get like ridiculously over the top excited that I should, like an adult shouldn't, like, you know, like that just like I shouldn't be this excited.
Like what's an example?
Like so like
watching Star Wars.
I know
that's fair. That's not a good one. That's not a good example.
So like there's times where like, so I told you back in like 2014 when I bought tickets to go to Lambeau Field to actually go to a playoff game, I literally hit the button and I jumped up and down because I was so goddamn giddy. I was so happy.
That's awesome.
Or like when Sunday Night Football called, like that was one of those things. I was just like I was so beyond over the top. And I feel like in some aspects, you know, the people that you're with, like you have to restrain yourself in a sense, or like hold back, or I guess just like not pull your like full self forward, right? Yeah. And I think that, you know, when it came to Jade, that like it was one of those things that like she could be over the top. Like everyone always complained that I was so loud. Like I'm a very loud Italian man, and like my octaves go all over the place. Yeah. Like that's one of the criticisms that people have of the show. They're like, if you hate, you know, your ears, like this is the guy to go to. And like I can't tell you how many times I'm just like, Jade, like shut the hell up, like you're so loud. And like, you know, and that's the thing, like. It's just we play off of each other so well. Yeah. And like it could be one of those things like right now, like she's upstairs, like, you know, like watching whatever, and she gets it. And like if she like goes to like the gym or like friends or something, like, that's what I'm saying. Like we get it. And we've talked about it, and there's been times like where it's just like it's tough and it puts a strain on things. It's like I just want to spend time with each other, and like that's something that we have to work through and what have you. And I have to like make time and you know, be like, okay, podcast gotta get away, or like I'll like come home and I'll be like, I'm gonna work my ass off so by the time she gets home, whatever. But yeah, I mean, like, I wouldn't be able to do this because I mean, like, the only other alternative is I'm a single person. Yeah. Like, who lives alone? Because and literally that would be it. Yeah. I mean, like, there's not another like if God forbid that, like, you know, we did not work out, which we're just going to because we're stuck with each other. But like, if it didn't work out, if she's mean to you, you can leave. Yeah, I mean, she abuses me a lot, but you know, it's Jade. Timestamp. So, but no, like it would be one of those things that, like, we actually have both said the same exact thing, that like we just wouldn't pursue another relationship because, you know, one, after being together, because we've been together. March 2nd. Can you imagine going on a first date again? No, absolutely not. But like that's the thing. Like March 2nd will be 9 years together. That's crazy. So, oh my gosh. October 2nd will be 5 years married. But like we've been together for like that's 9 awesome. Years. And our first year that we were together, we started dating March 2nd. We'd like known each other before that. We started dating March 2nd. We moved in with each other because I had a year left of school, June 1st. Yeah. Our apartment burnt down on Thanksgiving. And like we got through that. Yeah. On Thanksgiving, neither of us were home. Our apartment burnt down. Oh my gosh. So there was a lizard that was downstairs. The guy just bought kittens, knocked the heat lamp over, sent it up. Like we had the cats at that time. No, all the pets actually survived. His pets, our pets, or whatever. Wow. But like our apartment, half of it was completely destroyed. We went to court together to try and like just recoup some of our stuff. Yeah. You know, and like we didn't hire a lawyer. We literally did it ourselves. Like we sat there and we were it's like, really bonding. And like that's one of those things that first, like we were both fresh out of relationships when we got together, you know, and people, like my parents were not happy, people were not happy, you know, we moved in together and people were not happy. Like it was a whole thing. But yeah, can I say, you have to let go of societal norms. Like 100%. People really struggle with that. It's like, who cares what everyone else says? Does it work for you? Great. Yeah, exactly. And I think that, you know, that considering all the adversity that you go through in like the beginning, like everything else seems so trivial. Like, you know, and it's one of those things that like we always joke, like we're going to get divorced when we have to like try to pick out a house because like, you know, like some things she's like, I want this in a house. I'm like, I don't want this in a house. And, you know, but like everything else is just like, it falls to the wayside. Like it's kind of just like whatever. Like we, you know, knock on lots of wood, but like we haven't had like a big blown out fight, I want to say, since like the first year of our like relation. It's been a long time. Yeah. Because like, and we have arguments and stuff because we're normal people. Like, you know, and like there's times where like Jay it's not like you're ignoring problems. No. And like there's times where Jay comes home and is like I want to spend time with you, and I'm just like, I can't. And then, you know, we fight, and but it's not like, you know, it's kind of just like I'll do this super quick, or like tomorrow I'll make sure that we do, like, you know, what have you. And I think it's just, you have to realize, like, again, it is compromises. Like, when you are getting in a relationship with somebody, whether it's a marriage or whether it's just a plain relationship, like, you are basically saying, like, hey, I'm going to be an active participant in this, because if you're not going to be active and you're going to be passive with it, it's most likely not going to work. Because if you have one person who's active and one person who's passive, right? One person's going to be trying and like keeping the relationship and trying to keep it fresh and what have you. The other person's just like, it could go either way. That's not going to work out. And if you have two passive people who are within it, why are you even together?
Yeah.
Right. And I think it's just a matter of, we've gotten to the point where, we literally can just like sit on the couch and like, even if like she's on her, like I'm on my laptop or she's on her phone or whatever, like, it's like that community, like we're just spending time together.
Can I ask? I hear you mentioned it's like a sense of ease, which is like you don't fight a ton. I think it's healthy actually.
Yeah.
There's probably like a sense of ease. Is that because you guys were just a great fit?
Yeah, I think it's a mix of that, and I think it's kind of just like but like essentially they're just like growing up together in this sense, because like I've been with her since I was 20 years old, and that's like that's going up to like 29, like I'm gonna be 30 years old this year, right? So like I will have been with someone for a decade.
It's inspiring to me. That's cool.
Yeah, I mean, like it's just one of those things that, again, you need to make sure that it's constant effort, because not saying you can't have bad days or whatever. Like there's plenty of times where I'm just like, I should probably be cooking dinner or something like that, and I drop the ball, and she's like, what the hell are you doing? I'm like, I don't know what I'm doing. So and like and there's stuff that like I definitely like take advantage of, because like Jade like enjoys to cook, so I'm like, so like, and she'll bring food down,
like protein bars.
Yeah, like, and I'm streaming and stuff like that, and like I've acknowledged that to her, and so I try to make up for it in other ways and stuff like that. But it's a give and take, and it needs to be a constant like active participation within a relationship or a marriage to make it work. And like Jade understands now, as priorities have shifted over the years. Jade is like, she wants me to be a teacher. Like she thinks that it's a loss to the students that if I'm not.
I agree with that actually. Yeah.
And I don't disagree with.
But
her.
I think you can impact people other ways, right?
I agree with. Yeah, I think that way. I had a 16-year-old kid who ran a marathon. After he heard I ran a marathon, he's like, I'm going to run a marathon because I saw you do it. I said, okay. About a year later, doesn't contact me, gets back and contact me. He goes, I just want to let you know I was the youngest person in the marathon. And I just finished it today. So it's that kind of stuff. Yeah. Or like I have people who are, suffering with depression or a terrible home life, or a parent died or something like that. And they reach out to me and they tell me that like this video or like these videos gave me some type of normalcy or inspiration or what have you. And like, that's like that kind of stuff that you're just like, ooh, okay, like that's heavy, and that's why you do what you do, or at least it definitely enhances what you do.
Yeah.
And I think it would teach it is a loss. I think the school systems that we have in place are not great. I think that you have a lot of teachers who don't try, and then they kind of just do like the status quo, and a lot of them get into it because they have summers off. Yeah. And I think that that's
it's the wrong reason.
Depressing and heartbreaking.
It's like making content just for the money.
Exactly. Yeah. And I think, but in this case, like you have like futures that are, because like, it's one of those things that, especially with this generation, like a lot of people are just like, lazy Gen X or millennials, whatever, Gen Z, excuse me. And like you kind of realize, especially like when you're a teacher, and you realize this when you're a parent too. Obviously I'm not a parent, except to dogs and cats, but you realize like how much actually like words impact those kids, especially when you're young. Like you're talking about like, coaches that impacted you or saying like, you can't do this, and that drives you to do things. Yeah. Or, if you take that and reverse that and say like, if that coach says like, I believe in you that you can do this, right? Maybe you don't do something out of spite. Like maybe it doesn't work out. Like, maybe like you fall flat on your face, but like
if that coach had told me that though, it would have motivated. I would have never fought harder for another guy. Because if he could have seen my dream and said, I'm going to encourage you towards your dreams, man, that would have been huge. It would have really been great for me, I think, as a person.
And I feel like nowadays, and this is obviously a generalization, not saying everyone do this, but like a lot of like parenting is like, here's an iPad, or like, here's like, you're an adult when you're 10 years old. And I feel like, there's a reason why there's parenting, and there's a reason why there's teaching, and that's another thing that's active. And like if you make those connections, but like those students and those kids, Like they care, like if you connect with them, they care about what you have to say. So if you tell that kid that they can't do something, like that could crumble a kid.
Yeah.
And that's something that they could live with for a while. And so that's why like I look at it and like I mess around with like kids all the time and like are telling them, you know, like we're joshing around and stuff like that. But like there's not a time that even in the kid who's like the most pain in the ass kid that I'm just like, listen, if you need help, I'm going to help you. And that's it. And yeah, I think that's a loss. And I think it's just like, you know, maybe I'll find my way back to like, you know, college like teacher or something like that, being like adjunct or something, do something on the side maybe, but who knows? Or maybe I just find a really good balance, you know, and I'm able to do both.
How much of it is burnout from the system? Because I know me personally, I would really struggle to work in a bureaucratic system that I didn't agree with or things that were wrong.
It's a lot. Yeah, I feel like that drives a lot of young teachers out because of this system. Obviously depends on the school and the environment that you're in. And
but if you're doing it for the right reasons and it's not possible, that would just be hopeless and frustrating for me.
Yeah. So that's literally what happened to me this year. Yeah. So I left my job to go take another job. I took a $10,000 pay cut. I went from a 45-minute commute to a 90-minute commute, and that's one way.
Yeah.
And it was to help kids in an alternative school in which like society just did not give a shit about them.
Yeah.
These were people who did drug dealers. This was like violent offenders.
It's been hard stuff that's gone on.
Yeah, but they're kids. Like they age out when they're 21 years old, what have you. And I was told that it's a traditional classroom just in an alternative setting. And I got there the day after I left my job. I got up there and I was given my roster, and I noticed that there were students who were like, let's just say it was global class, right? So it was like world history, that there was like 9th and 10th that was mixed together. I was like, well, okay, that's a little bit weird. I guess I'll divide them when I teach.
Yeah.
Weird, but whatever. Yeah. And then I found out that the way they had a no failure policy, meaning that they couldn't fail the class, meaning that they only went for a semester. They went for 2 quarters. Wherever they left, if they didn't come to school the rest of that year, they came back the next year, they started the 3rd quarter. And so I had kids who were at 10%, 90%, 50% done with the course, and I had to start them there. So I was handed that the first day, and
over-explain that. So like a lot of times it's easy to miss that. Why is that important? So why is that a big deal?
Yeah, so like in a regular like ed classroom, everyone's starting at 0%.
Yeah.
Right? Unless there was like a kid who like failed the Regents and got like left back or whatever, but you're still starting them at square one.
Yeah.
So like look at US history. That basically mean that I was teaching 3 kids about Columbus. I was teaching 1 kid about World War I. I was teaching another 3 kids about the Cold War. I was teaching another kid about, you know, the signing of the Declaration of Independence. It's all over the place. And so basically what this told me was that it was individualized teaching. Essentially it was like tutoring.
Yeah.
And so I wasn't told this. And I asked the teacher, and I was like, how are you supposed to teach this? She goes, oh, you just give them packets. And I go, what do you mean you just give them packets? She go, oh yeah, you just give them packets. They read it, they like fill out questions and stuff, and they check it off. And you check it off that they did it, and they move on.
You're babysitting almost too.
Mm-hmm. That's all it was. And I found this out the first day. I had quit my job.
Yeah.
I took all that shit, but it was a public school, so I was like, okay, I'm gonna go work at this public school.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay, well, what about like, you know, like a lecture or like stuff like that? She's like, we don't lecture. I was like, what about essay writing? We don't write essays. I was like, well, what about like, no, nothing traditional about it. And I said, okay. So what you're telling me is I'm literally sitting there. A traffic cone could do my job. They hand out packets to these kids, and then hopefully they graduate. She goes, yeah. I go, okay. So I tried to make it work for about 2 weeks. It did not. I talked to the teachers who told me, I was like, these kids had no notebooks. Yeah. And I said, if I go and buy them notebooks, at first I said, oh, they provide with notebooks. And she said, no, they wouldn't use them even if you gave it to them.
What a horrible attitude.
Yep. So I explained, that's fine. So I explained to her, I'm sorry, I went to the kids and I said, if I go and I buy you notebooks, you use them? Almost all of them said yes. So I bought notebooks. Yeah. So I went and I bought them notebooks and I gave it to them. Some of them used them, some of them didn't.
Yeah.
And I tried it for like about a week and a half. I went to the principal. I was like, this is not what you told me it was. You know,
I got misled.
Like that. Yeah, this is like a complete, and I tried to say that in a professional way. I was like, this needs a complete overhaul because like these kids aren't learning. Like it's like they're checking off boxes. And he flat out said to me, he goes, are you going to work hard or are you going to quit? And I looked at him and I just went on like a 25-minute rant. And I'm like before this. And it basically laid out all like the fundamental educational problems with this.
Yeah.
And he said to me, am I going to work harder or am I going to quit? I said, okay. So then I went back. I tried to do it again for like another day or two.
And you're like probably talking to Jade, like, I don't know what to do here.
I really had no idea what to do. And that's not even mentioning,
you're driving 3 hours a day.
Yeah,
like
there's that. There's a lot of circumstances that are going on internally that are really bad. We were on the second floor of a building that was open all the time. There was random like drug people, like people, like crackheads who are running through the hallways, and there's kids in the rooms. Yeah. It was really bad. Like it was really, really bad. I didn't have like computer access for like 3 days, and so I couldn't teach because I couldn't get on the smart board and I couldn't get on the computer, so I couldn't even show anything on the board. I couldn't print anything because I couldn't get onto a computer. I got locked out of my classroom for an hour and a half because no one had a key in the building. And all the times I'm being told that this is not a traditional job, and I'm like, why the hell did I even leave my other job? Because while I wasn't entirely happy there, like at least the bare minimum I was teaching. I was able to do what I did best.
And you left the other, you took a pay cut, did all that stuff to try to do good, try to help.
Yep. And so then I go to the principal, and it was the Friday before my birthday, because my birthday was on the Monday. And I go to hand him my letter of resignation. He's not there. So I hand it to the secretary, and she goes, I don't know if he's going to accept this. I'm like, thinking in my head, I'm like, I don't really care if he accepts it or not.
Yeah.
Like, I'm leaving.
Yeah.
So I drive home. I'm the happiest I've ever been in 2 weeks because I feel a giant weight lifted off my shoulder. I'm talking to like my accountant, and I'm like, can I afford to quit? Like the podcast isn't doing that well at this point, but like September was really great. Like I got a bunch of the subscribers and stuff, and I was like, can I quit? She's like, make it work. I'll sub, whatever. So, 8 o'clock that night, I get a phone call from the union up there that goes, there's a New York State education law that if you do not give them 30 days notice, that district can go after your certification and they'll take away your certification.
Wow.
And so at that point, my heart sunk. I emailed the principal for like an hour crafting this email. It's like 11 o'clock at night on a Friday. Yeah. I email asking for professional courtesy because I was misled. And I'm saying this all professionally. Like I'm misled. I don't think it's in my best interest to be around with the students because, you know, it's only a week and a half into the school year. It makes no sense for me to drag this out for a month.
Yeah, make it worse for them.
Exactly. He doesn't get back to me. Saturday goes by, doesn't get back. Sunday goes by, didn't respond. So Monday's my birthday. I wake up at around 4 o'clock in the morning. I leave my house at 5 o'clock in the morning to get up there early. Of course, he gets there late. Doesn't get in there until about like 7:10. I sit outside of his office for about 2 hours. Yeah. He goes, oh, you looking for me? I go, yep. So he goes, okay. I walk back into his office. He goes, so I hear you want to resign. I go, yes, I do. He goes, I'm going to need you to stay 30 days. And I have a choice. I wasn't going to lose my teaching certificate over a week and a half.
Yeah.
And so I said, okay. He goes, but I think we'll be able to find someone before then. I said, okay. 3 weeks go by. Nobody. And then I get a phone call Tuesday at 8 o'clock in the morning. Principal saying, we found a replacement. He's going to come by. You're going to tell him about the job. And then he's ready to start tomorrow. Texting people. Super excited. Couldn't be happier. I'm finally free. And all this time, like I'm still working my ass off for these kids.
Yeah.
I'm not like, you know,
doing the best you can.
I'm starting them off at zero because a lot of them are lacking the skills. I am teaching them, you know, what have you. There's massive like absenteeism. The kids aren't like, I don't see kids for like, I saw a kid like on the first day. I didn't see them for like 2 weeks kind of thing. Cause there's no motivation for them to come to school.
Yeah.
So what winds up happening, is that the guy comes in, nice guy, young guy. I actually remember him walking out of the interview before I walked in, and he's like, I just quit a permanent sub job. It was a terrible position. The kids were really bad, what have you. So I'm kind of like stuck and like, I'll take this job, even though it sounds very individualized, what have you. Because the principal even told me, he's like, I was more open with him than I was, like, because you said that I wasn't that transparent. And I was like, okay. So I didn't lie to the guy. I told him exactly what the job was. He leaves me at noon, and we had a faculty meeting at the end of the day at like around like 2:30. So I go to meet with the principal, and I'm like, okay, maybe I can see him before the faculty meeting so I can like leave and like deuces, I'm out. Like I did it. So he's like, I thought we were going to talk after the faculty meeting. I was like, oh yeah, sure. I'll sit for another hour. I really don't care. So we're walking downstairs, and I was like, oh, the guy seems nice. Like my replacement seemed nice. He goes, oh, he's no longer with us. So he heard what I had to say, and he
got wise.
He left. Like he just quit on the spot and said, I'm not going to come in. So I had to stay for another 2 weeks. So I didn't get out until the middle of October.
Wow. Dang.
Yeah. So that was brutal. And then by the time I left, I had got a subbing job. That, I mean, like, it was I loved the school. It was 20 minutes away from the house. So like, it was nice. But like, after 2 weeks, like after taxes, I was bringing home $500 a paycheck, you know?
Yeah.
But during that time, I applied for a leave replacement, which is the one I'm at now, because it started in January and went until April. And I was like, great, I don't want to screw these people over because they waited for me and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And they were like, oh no, we have one right now. Like, you would take it now and go until like April. And I was like, oh, okay, well, I don't want to screw over the job that waited for me or whatever. So I went and I talked to them, and they let me leave literally the day of. And they're like, we're never going to hold you back. As actually I walked in and talked to the assistant principal, he was watching Packast. So like, he knew who like I was. And
that's cool.
And they were really great people, and I really, really enjoyed that school. And so that's why I'm at the leave replacement now. But like, going back to what you're saying, yeah, if you want to help these kids and you want to help these students, and you physically are unable to, is very, very difficult. And the way that I teach is, you know, it's very interactive, it's very engaging, it's very like, you know, a lot. And, you know, to not be able to do that and being told to hand out packets, it was a nightmare. It really, I'd never been more stressed. I was like crying on the car ride home. It was miserable. And at the same time, the podcast started to do well. And so it was one of those things that I'm just like, that was literally the only thing I had, like, Jaden and the podcast were literally the only things like I was coming home to and like enjoying. And that made me work even harder. That's when I was like putting out 2 episodes a day.
I got this. Let's
Because
go.
I was like, get me the hell out of here. Like, fine, you want me to stay a month? I'm gonna be miserable, but you know what? I'm gonna rock this crap. So I can make sure that when I'm out of here, you know what? I'm gonna be good.
How do you even drive? I mean, that long day, you drive 90 minutes. Mm-hmm. How do you even not fall asleep? Like, how do you? Because you're up until like 1, 2 in the morning every night. Then you're going to work at 5. Like, that cycle.
Well, I mean, like, I had to leave the house no later than 5:30 to get there on time.
My God.
So, yeah.
And you're making 2 videos a night sometimes and doing, oh my gosh. Can I say, like, this is so, I feel dumb saying this, right? I cannot help but make a comparison to Carson Palmer. Like, because can you imagine giving, like, you get it, like being given the tools and not, like, being misled.
Yeah.
And you just can't succeed. Yeah. That'd be painful.
Yeah.
Do you feel called to make content? Like, do you feel like in another world, in another lifetime, you'd still be doing this?
I don't know if it's necessarily content, but I think that if there was like a purpose, it would be to like connect with people and make their lives more enjoyable. So and that's literally in every aspect, every one of these things that I've ever done in any profession. People. It's people. Yeah. It's teaching. It's comedy. It's content.
Yeah. Are you an extrovert?
Depends on the occasion. So like it's one of those things that like you mentioned, like the show kind of turns you into a hermit a little bit. So like there's times where like if it's a brand new crowd and I don't know anybody, like I'll probably pull back a bit and be a little bit more introverted. But you throw me on a stage and like, let's go. Like I'm best
on a stage because it really, when you're talking to a crowd, 100 people becomes one. It's just a one-to-one interaction because they're a blob.
Yep, that's it. So that's So yeah, I mean, like, who knows? Because like I'm done end of April if everything like stays the way it is. So like I don't know. Yeah. Like I've applied to other teaching jobs to like just to like for financially reason because like again Jay and I are like trying to buy a house and things like that. I don't know. I mean, like there's a possibility that like I'm just forced to do this full time and like I'd be okay with it. You know, like I wouldn't be. I because again, there's a part of me that like I'll miss aspects of teaching and it's always the kids. It's never the adults. It's always the kids. Like then that's what I miss of like my old school right now. I miss the kids. Yeah. Like 100%. Like their current graduating class, I taught all of them, literally all of them. And yeah, I mean like, you know, it's just, we'll see. Yeah. We'll see what happens. But Zach, I greatly appreciate you sitting down in my basement for 3 hours and 40 minutes.
Thank you, man.
It's been an absolute pleasure. Yeah. Tell the people if they're still somehow alive after this marathon, where they can find you and all the things that you do.
I want to just say your content is so the reason I love it is because I watch your content and go, I want to be a fan of that. I would love to be friends with that guy.
Yeah.
I think that's why it's so genuine, so pure. I think all your followers, your 50,000 people, watch your content and go, I bet Tom's a cool guy to get a beer with. And for me, it's surreal to be here because you're totally, I was right. Zach was right. Tom is great.
Nailed it.
You can find my stuff on Strong Opinion Sports. Just Google that. Google Zac Shomler, whatever you want. I don't really care about promoting myself. I'm here because I love you, man. Like I
appreciate it, man.
I really love your approach to life. I can't wait to meet Jade upstairs.
Yeah.
And so thank you for having me.
Absolutely,
I really
buddy.
appreciate it.
I appreciate that. You know where to find me. I'm not even gonna do plugs at the end, but we did it. But thank you so much for watching. I'm Tom Grossi. That's Zac Shomler. And as always, go Pack, go.